He once saw his childhood sweetheart getting abused by her father. After that, the girl told him that when she grew up, she'd never marry a man like her dad. Instead, she said she wanted someone as kind as him. Those words stayed with him for the next 10 years. He gave up a lot because of that promise. He always tried to be gentle, kind, and obedient. Even when his classmates got shaken down by local punks, he swallowed his anger and paid the money for them. But then one day, while taking out the trash with his childhood friend, they headed back to class and ran into those same thugs again. He noticed Sujin looked uneasy and wondered if they had been bothering her too. Right away, Jiang Jishang stared them down, ready to fight if he had to. But the thugs brushed him off and told him to get lost. Since they had the numbers, Zhang Jishong forced himself to stay calm and walked away. Still, he stopped halfway and hid nearby to keep watching. If anything happened, he planned to call his uncles for help. Xu Zhang glanced around nervously, then shyly said to one of the thugs, "Not to be so obvious at school." Then Shen Jinzhou leaned on her shoulder with a playful grin, and her face turned red. She pushed him away, but it was more flirting than fighting. Hidden in the shadows, Zhang Jisong started shaking. In that moment, it felt like his love for Su Zhen shattered. The girl he'd loved for 10 years had fallen for a thug, and they even looked happy together. Back in class, he still couldn't settle down. He looked at Su Zhen again, but he still couldn't accept it. So with trembling hands, he sent her a text. He wanted to ask Su Zhen about what he saw, and hoped it wasn't what he thought. Before he could finish, the final bell rang. He was about to leave, feeling crushed, when Su Zhen came over and said they hadn't walked home together in a long time. When he stayed quiet, she asked if something was wrong. He suddenly stopped walking and, sounding down, asked if she was dating Shen Jingjie now. That caught her off guard. Su Zhen told Zhang Zhishong she had meant to tell him, but somehow things ended up like this. His eyes widened. He asked how that made sense when she used to like kind, gentle people. Then Su Zhen turned and said that after trying someone gentle and kind, she realized it wasn't all that great. Bad boys were more attractive, and she even asked if he didn't think they were cooler. That made his face go pale. He grabbed her hand and reminded her she used to like kind guys, so why bad boys now? Then he blurted out that he was a bad boy too, even worse than the rest. Hearing that, Su Zhen just looked confused. To her, he was obviously kind. Panicking, Zhang Jishong tapped his chest and said no, he was actually very bad. He claimed the nice act was fake, and that thug blood ran through him. He even said his glasses didn't have real lenses. Then he offered to show baby photos, saying even the guests at his first birthday were bad people, so he had to be one too. Su Zhen covered her mouth and laughed, which eased the tension between them. She figured he was only saying all that because he was worried about her being with a thug and was trying to cheer her up by making fun of himself. Jing Jishang gave a small laugh, thinking maybe that was for the best. Then they walked home together, talking about old times. But then Shen Jingjie called out to Su Zhen from behind. He told her to come to a karaoke bar. Jing Jishang clenched his teeth. This was really the kind of guy Su Zhen liked. And then Shen Jingjie walked right up to him. He warned the kid to stay away from Su Zhen, or he wouldn't get off easy next time. Seeing things getting tense, Su Zhen quickly pulled Shen Jingjie away. She said she and Jing Jishang had been close since childhood, and told Shen Jingjie to hurry up. Then she quietly told Jing Jishang they could walk together next time. He waved back and tried to act like he was fine. From far away, the two of them looked close and happy. For 10 years, I tried to be a good person, and you still chose bad boys. Fine, just wait. I can be bad too. I'll show you what a real bad boy looks like. He threw open the door with one hand, and all the underlings immediately bowed and greeted the young master. He stepped in with calm confidence, like he already belonged there. Elsewhere, his uncle was in the middle of business, when the door suddenly burst open and cut him off. "Uncle, I need your help. I want to become a bad boy." His uncle hung up at once. He'd been waiting for this day for a long time. Then Jing Jishang asked, was his uncle a bad person, and what about his father? The next second, his uncle gave him a sly smile. He said that if they were being exact, Jing Jishang was asking about bad boys. As for his father, he was a great boss, the strongest in Jinia country. But to the rest of society, that same father would absolutely be seen as a very bad man. So it was true. Bad blood ran in his veins. He begged his uncle to help him change. His uncle said the young master's eyes looked different now. He'd never seen that look before. For the first time, he really looked like the boss's son. Still, the uncle had cared for him for 10 years and knew better than anyone how hard he had tried. So he asked one more time. Becoming good was hard, but turning bad could happen in a second, and all those years of effort would disappear like nothing. Even so, Jing Jishang stayed firm and pleaded again. Once his uncle agreed, the first step was stripping away the kind image he had built for over 10 years. His hair, clothes, everything had to change. But a second later, Jing Jishang forgot the pain and smiled brightly again. So his uncle tapped his shoulder and told him that smile had to go. Yes, like that, much better, young master. From now on, he had to stay dark and mysterious. Then his uncle sent him back to his room to wait. Once inside, he saw the charity awards on the wall. That only brought back the image of Su Zhen with Shen Jingjie, which made Jing Jishang even angrier. Then one of the men knocked and asked if they could come in. After getting permission, a bald guy walked in smiling and said they were about to turn the young master into a fashion icon. He even bragged that back in the day, his nickname was Whirlwind Fashion Man. Then the makeover began. Nike on top, full Gucci fit and flashy gold chains. Just like that, their so-called street punk was complete. Seeing the young master finally getting somewhere, the uncle was thrilled. He looked seriously handsome. The next day, Zhang Jishang followed his uncle's advice. His brows were sharp, his eyes lifted and wide, and from the moment he stepped outside, he walked with pure confidence. He carried himself like a guy showing off on purpose, and people around him instantly started talking. Style-wise, Zhang Jishang nailed it. Even 3 girls nearby were drawn in by his wild new look. Then suddenly, one girl greeted him with obvious admiration, and he got a little nervous. But remembering his uncle's rules, he knew he wasn't supposed to greet people first. He held it in until he could barely stand it, then blurted out, "What are you looking at?" leaving the girl totally confused. When he entered the classroom, his classmates greeted him too. Zhang Jishang ignored them, sat right on top of his desk and tossed out a line. Hadn't they ever seen a handsome guy before? That left the 4 classmates frozen, mouths hanging open. Even Shu Zhen turned to look, clearly bothered. Not wanting to lose, she walked over to him. She asked Jishang to go to the store with her. He stood up right away. This was exactly what he had been waiting for. Then the 2 of them left the classroom together. Shu Zhen stopped him and asked what was wrong. If something had happened, he could tell her. They were friends, weren't they? Zhang Jishang answered with a cold smile. Friends? Sure. If she wanted to know, yes. Something was wrong and she could go to the store by herself. Shu Zhen was stunned. She never thought Jishang would turn her down. She asked what had happened and said he seemed like a totally different person. Zhang Jishang stopped, then coldly said that was better. She was the one who changed first, and he was the fool who cared too much. One sentence from her 10 years ago had changed his whole life, and now she had changed it again. Later, while skipping class, he ran into that same group and secretly watched where they were going. He planned to follow them and learn from them, so he kept tracking them for a while, until he saw something hard to watch. The girl wrapped herself around Shen Jingzhe's arm, and the 2 looked way too close. Zhang Jishang clenched his fists. That loser was trash, and this was really Shu Zhen's type. Meanwhile, the girl kept complaining, asking Jingzhe how much farther it was because there didn't seem to be any restaurant nearby. Soon, Shen Jingzhe said they were there. They had stopped at a hotel. His expression instantly turned ugly. Hidden nearby, Zhang Jishang gritted his teeth in anger. The girl also realized this was wrong. When she tried to leave, Shen Jingzhe grabbed her wrist and said it would be quick. She pulled free and told him to take care of it himself. That made Shen Jingzhe snap. He cursed at her and got furious. The girl fired back and told him to watch his mouth. As she slowly stepped closer, Shen Jingzhe thought she had changed her mind. Instead, she slapped him across the face. Shen Jingzhe only smirked. The more she resisted, the more excited he got. Just as he was about to hit her, a stone suddenly flew in from far away. But it smacked the girl in the forehead instead. Oops, his aim was off, so he grabbed another stone, realizing he hadn't meant to hit Li Yiji. This time he didn't hesitate. He threw the stone again, and his ring went flying with it. The shot slammed right into Shen Jingzhe's forehead and split it open. At the same time, the ring dropped to the ground. Jin Jixiang didn't even notice he had lost it. He jumped out right away, grabbed Li Yuji, and rushed in, cursing that Shen had done it again. Holding her injury, Li Yuji asked who he was, told him to let go, and demanded to know if he was the one who threw the stone because now she was bleeding. Out of breath, he just told her to run with him first. That only made Li Yuji even more confused. Then the 2 of them ran off together. At the park, Jin Jixiang gave her a heart-shaped bandage and told her to stop the bleeding. Once she put it on, Li Yuji got curious. She shyly asked why she'd never seen him before. That threw him off for a second. Then he said, "I'm Jin Jixiang from your class." Li Yuji froze. "You're that annoying." Jin Jixiang? She said he looked like a totally different person. Then Jin Jixiang suddenly asked if she liked bad boys. For Li Yuji, it wasn't exactly that. She was more drawn to guys who seemed wild and free. What she didn't expect was Shen Jinja being that kind of person. Hearing that, Jin Jixiang started wondering how he could act even worse. Then Li Yuji's phone started buzzing. She shook when she saw Shen Jinja calling. Still, she didn't want more trouble, so she answered to hear him out. Shen Jinja instantly started swearing. He demanded to know who that guy was and said he saw a school uniform, so she better not lie. The yelling made Li Yuji's ears ring. Jin Jixiang snatched the phone and shouted back, "Who are you yelling at? Want to get beaten up?" Then he hung up hard. "Who does that guy think he is?" Jin Jixiang was stunned and gave her a thumbs up. Smiling, Li Yuji asked if he could keep today a secret. After that, they decided to head back to school separately. Then Jin Jixiang went to the cafeteria alone to eat. His 2 buddies stared at him and said the teacher found out he skipped class and was looking for him. Then the watermelon boy asked why he was starting to look like Shen Jinja. Jin Jixiang slammed the table and jumped up. "Really? Am I that good now? That guy's my goal." His 2 friends were completely speechless. When the meatball dropped, they reacted like their whole world had collapsed. Then, with another scrape, Li Yuji pulled over a chair and sat down to eat with them. The 2 buddies forced out awkward smiles, afraid they'd get the wrong idea. Jin Jixiang jumped up and tried to explain with wild hand waves. It only made things look worse, so he hurried off. Li Yuji quickly followed him. Behind them, the 2 buddies kept up their fake smiles, then could only watch them leave in tears. To them, the world was cruel. They were painfully single. As they walked off, Jin Jixiang noticed them too. Jealousy hit so hard she lost her appetite. On the other side, Jin Jixiang was struggling to remove the gold chain he wore, while thinking of how to explain things to the teacher. After all, this was his first time skipping class. While fixing his shirt buttons, he suddenly noticed the ring on his middle finger was gone. He checked his pocket so hard he hurt himself and broke into a sweat. Right away, he knew this was bad. That ring had been put on him by his uncle. Back then, his bald uncle said the boss gave him that ring when he came of age, and he was thrilled. Passing that special ring to the boss's son meant everything to him. He even said that when he died, he wanted it returned so he could take it to the grave. Now Zhang grabbed his hair in panic. His bald uncle's words kept echoing in his head, and he ran to the classroom to search everywhere. But the school bully was already behind him. Still mad about getting hit with the stone, Shen Jingjia wanted someone to take it out on. He came in and kicked Zhang Zef, barking that good dogs don't block the way. From the back, Zheng Zexsheng looked a lot like the one who threw the stone at him, so Shen Jingjia rushed over and kept kicking him. And even though Shen Jingjia was there, she didn't stop Shen Jingjia. He kept stomping Zheng Zexsheng until he couldn't stand up. Even then, Shen Jingjia rubbed his chin, still unsatisfied. Luckily, Li Yiji called out just in time. Shen Jingjia turned and walked straight to her, wearing a nasty smile. Then he grabbed her clothes without mercy. "You think I won't hit you just because you're a girl?" Li Yiji looked over at Zheng Zixang and realized he'd been beaten because he helped her. So she lied and said Song Zhangxi was the one who pulled her away that day. The name Song Zhangxi made Shen Jingjia hesitate, but Song Zhangxi had only wanted to sleep in peace and got dragged into this for no reason. Shen Jingjia went over and told him to wake up, but Song Zhangxi ignored him. That made him clench his teeth, and he kicked Song Zhangxi's desk while he was sleeping. The whole class was shocked. Lei Zai thought Song Zhangxi's name would scare him off, but it only made things worse. Then Song Zhangxi slowly stood up, coldly asking if he was crazy. Shen Jingjia shouted, "Was it you who helped Lei Zai?" Song Zhangxi glanced at the shaking Zhang Zexshang and understood everything. Picking his ear, he said, "Sure, maybe I did. What are you going to do about it?" Shen Jingjia grabbed his collar at once. "Quit playing with me. You're obviously lying. You think I'm an idiot?" But Song Zhangxi's grip was insanely strong, making Shen Jingjia shake all over. Then came the cold reply, "And if I'm not lying, what then?" The pain made Shen Jingjia let go right away. Even with his hand hurting like crazy, he still acted tough. "Song Zhangxi, this isn't over." As he turned to leave, he noticed Zhen Jingjia on the floor, holding his head. Looking closer, he thought the guy from before was about this size. At the same time, Zhen Jingjia spotted the gold ring on Shen Jingjia's hand. He couldn't believe it ended up there. Still, Shen Jingjia decided a coward like this couldn't be the one who hit him, so he left. Zheng Zixang clenched his teeth and swore he'd get that ring back no matter what. Then he left school with heavy steps. When he got home, a line of uncles was waiting at the door. The second they saw his bruised face and footprints on him, their expressions changed. Scarface uncle yelled that this was a direct insult to their Firebear gang. He shouted for everyone to get their weapons and fight. Bald uncle had just come downstairs when he heard all the noise. Scarface uncle quickly told him, "Big brother, the young master got beaten outside." Bald uncle exploded. "Which bastard did this?" "Young master, lead the way. Show us exactly who did it." But their boss stopped them and said the young master was the future of the gang. Since the young master was only starting to fight, they shouldn't step in. Everyone understood right away. They admitted they weren't thinking and asked the boss to forgive them, so they decided to put the young master through brutal training. But first, to make sure he wouldn't get bullied at school again, they called an underworld meeting. Zheng Zixang was shocked too. He never thought getting beaten would make his uncles care this much. After they talked it over, Uncle Zhu seriously told Zheng Zixang, "Young master, what matters most now is building the habit of winning. So start by beating someone weaker than you." When they saw him hesitate, all the uncles encouraged him. "The stronger you get, the more people you'll be above." That's how we all started. The next day, on his way to school, Zheng Zixang looked a lot more fired up after last night's brainwashing. Then Bald Uncle called out to him, making him freeze. He thought his uncle had found out the ring was missing, but Bald Uncle only told him to tuck his shirt into his pants. After Zheng Zexsheng fixed it, Bald Uncle nodded in deep satisfaction. Seeing the young master getting more and more on track made him feel proud. On the way to school, Zheng Zexsheng pushed himself further, trying to act rough, even spitting everywhere. The problem was, he couldn't do any of it right. Still, while he was feeling pretty good about his effort, Zheng passed by. He wanted to go say hi but stopped himself. Yu Zhen just wanted to go to school, happily with Shen Jingjia. She looked so cheerful and that only made Zheng Zixang more determined to become a bad boy. Then he spotted something in an alley. Li Yiji and the others collecting protection money. The moment Li Yiji saw Zheng Zixang, her face lit up, and she quickly turned around to fix her makeup. By now she'd already fallen for him. But this other student thought Zheng Zixang came to save him, and he was touched. Instead, Zheng Zixang told him to hand over all his money. "If I search you and find more, you're done." That line made the three girls freeze. Then one of them laughed. Not far away, Bald Uncle had secretly followed him, worried the young master might mess up. But when he saw how naturally Zheng Zixang collected protection money, he covered his mouth, overwhelmed, and felt silly for ever doubting him. In his heart he prayed to the boss, "You don't need to worry, the young master is growing up just fine." Meanwhile, the black-haired girl snorted and said she thought he was a coward, but he was actually pretty manly. Then the short-haired girl joined in, telling him to keep going because he looked really cool. For the first time, Zheng Zixang felt the pull of being a bad boy. He started thinking people really did like bad boys. Then they actually handed over the money. The poor student still thought Zheng Zixang was only pretending to rob him so he could save him later and return it. Zheng Zixang was shocked too. He'd only said a few words and got 40,000 yuan. Then the short-haired girl put a hand on his shoulder and said his way of asking for money was almost as good as Shen Jingji's. That hit him right in the heart. You could tell how happy that made him. Then she suggested they split the 40,000 evenly, 10,000 each. He said he didn't need any money, so he gave all of it to them. After that, the three girls invited him to go eat with them. The sudden invite caught him off guard, but it seemed bad boys really were more popular. Behind the wall, bald uncle kept watching everything. Once again, he was deeply moved. Not only had the young master robbed money naturally, he even split it fairly into 4 parts. Bald uncle quietly cried, like he was seeing his younger self again, and felt giving his soul ring to the young master had been the right choice. As Zheng Zixang moved in a daze, he suddenly bumped into Shen Jingji. Shen Jingji handed him some "Hey Baldy, watch where you're going." Then bald uncle noticed the soul ring on his hand. He was also in the same school uniform as young master, so bald uncle wondered if young master had lent it to him. Maybe this kid was his friend. That thought threw him into total confusion. At the same time, Shen Jingji was already getting annoyed. "Hey Baldy, why are you staring like that?" Bald uncle forced his anger down, even though he wanted to drop him in one hit. As he watched Shen Jingji walk away, he muttered that if this guy wasn't young master's friend, he was done for. Elsewhere, Jianji Shang ran into the homeroom teacher in the hallway and got called in right away. The teacher adjusted his thick glasses and told Jianji Shang to bring his father to school tomorrow. That instantly made him think of his terrifying dad. He quickly begged to call his uncle instead, saying his father was far away. The teacher looked him over and finally agreed. After he got home, Zhang Zixang told his uncles the teacher wanted one of them to come to school. The next second, all three lit up with excitement. For them, this was the full problem child-parent call experience. Since only one could go, the three uncles started to fight over it. They'd waited 10 whole years for this, so to keep it fair, they settled it with rock, paper, scissors. And bald uncle won. The other two could only wait for their next chance. The next morning, a sleepy Zhang Zixang was hit with a shocking sight. His uncle looked like the king of street punks. Tattoos on his arms, skinny jeans, a big belly, and that bald head looked like it could shine. As they headed down the street, gangsters bowed and called him Big Brother. Zhang Zixang was stunned. His bald uncle really was the coolest. Then bald uncle seriously asked, "Young master, have you been doing bad things lately?" That made him nervous, and he admitted he'd practiced spitting, but still wasn't good at it. So bald uncle gave him a live lesson. "Come on, young master. Open your mouth like this, push your tongue forward, and spit through the gap in your teeth." Zhang Zixang was amazed, so he copied him right away and spat twice, spraying saliva everywhere. He learned fast that even spitting takes skill. Bald uncle scratched his head, a little embarrassed, then patted him and said to keep practicing all the way to school. So Zhang Zixang kept spitting as they went, backed up by his streetwise bald uncle. At the same time, bald uncle also taught him how to walk with swagger. Take a deep breath, chest out, stomach in. Keep your back straight and swing your arms. Walk bow-legged, loose and lazy. That's how a real man walks. Yeah, young master, just like that. And the two of them strode all the way to school. Their presence alone made the students nervous. Bald uncle really looked like he could go anywhere and own the place. At the school gate, he suddenly stopped and asked Zhang Zixang, "You've been keeping that soul ring I gave you safe, right?" Zhang Zixang nervously answered, "I kept it in my room, bald uncle." In that instant, bald uncle understood. The ring had been stolen. Soon after, they entered the classroom hallway, and the students looked over in admiration. Even Li Yizhi was surprised. Bald uncle then told Zhang Zixang to go to class first. He'd go meet the homeroom teacher himself. Meanwhile, a quiet office was broken by a loud knock. With a slam, bald uncle barked, "I'm Zixang's uncle. Which one of you is his homeroom teacher?" The teacher was scared stiff. A woman nearby even asked whether they should call the police, but the teacher tried to act tough in front of her. "Relax. I've been dean for 10 years. I know how to handle people like this." He stood up like he meant it, then led a confused bald uncle away. Sweating hard, he brought him aside to talk. It felt like he was rushing toward death, but he still forced a smile and said Zixang was supposed to become student council president next year, yet lately he'd been going astray. The moment he said that, bald uncle looked thrilled. "So our Zixang is a problem child?" The dean's wig nearly popped off. While fixing it, he hurried to explain that wasn't what he meant. Zixang was an excellent model student. Then bald uncle slammed the desk again. "So you're saying Zixang isn't a problem child?" Flustered, the dean blurted out that Zixang was a problem child, a very serious one. That answer made bald uncle very happy. Then he asked whether students at this school were extorting money. The dean shot upright and denied it on the spot. Patting his chest, he swore that as long as he worked there, the school would never allow violence or extortion. Bald uncle's face darkened. When he stood up, the dean thought a beating was coming. But bald uncle didn't even look at him and just turned to leave, thinking school was the same as always. Teachers around, but nothing changes. Now bald uncle was furious. He planned to get the ring back from Shen Xingjia and beat him up, so he strutted around searching everywhere. When he spotted a familiar back, "Hey kid, found you. This time you're dead." But when the person turned around, it was just a bespectacled nerd. That left our tough bald uncle awkward for a second. Even though he was from the underworld, he still politely apologized. He really wanted to find that brat and finish him. But he remembered the boss's order. Young Master was the gang's future pillar, and now that he'd started fighting, the adults shouldn't interfere. So Bald Uncle kept thinking hard and decided to listen to the boss. As he walked, he told himself he couldn't ruin Young Master's future by acting rashly. Outside campus, Shen Jingjie was having a great time with his lackeys. He proudly admired the shining soul ring and thought about selling it to buy a car. One sharp red-haired guy guessed it was worth 2 million. Sheng Xingjie never expected getting hit by a rock would end with him gaining 2 million. Back at school, the homeroom teacher had started feeling nervous around Zhang Jishong, avoiding eye contact even when he raised his hand in class. It was like Bald Uncle's shadow was hanging over Zhang Jis. Thinking he wanted to leave, the teacher smiled and told him he could go out. So Zhang Jis decided to ask Bald Uncle what had happened and called him right away. But the uncles were busy preparing a feast to celebrate the teacher calling him a problem child. Right then, the phone on the table rang. Scarface Uncle noticed Young Master's call first and quickly passed the phone to Bald Uncle. Bald Uncle was thrilled to get a call from Young Master, but when he heard it was about the teacher, he told him not to worry because everything had already been handled. The word handled made Zhang Jis freeze. When Uncle Shu realized it was Young Master on the line, he rushed Bald Uncle to let him speak. The next second, his face went dark. "Quick, give it to me." He ignored Bald Uncle and snatched the phone. "Young Master, remember what I told you. You need to beat up someone weaker than you." Zhang Jis nervously asked if he had to do it today. Uncle Shu's answer was simple: do it now. He reminded Zhang Jis one more time to find someone weaker than himself, and then hung up, handing the phone back. Bald Uncle felt wrong that the call ended before he could even finish talking, but he could only accept it because Uncle Shu was the boss. Meanwhile, Zhang Jis stopped wasting time and started searching the hallway for someone weaker than him. But the first two people he saw looked stronger too. He could only watch them walk off, then went to the bathroom to wash his face. Just when he had no idea what to do, a huge guy suddenly appeared behind him and rolled up his sleeves. Zhang Jis froze in fear. It was like an egg hitting a rock. Looking at that beast-like body, he thought being the Firebear gang leader's son was useless here. Right as he gave a bitter smile, a classmate behind him poked him. "Ji, you took my 40,000 yuan last time. Give it back." Since he'd been struggling to find someone weaker than himself, Zhang Ji grabbed the boy by the collar without hesitation. His eyes went wide. "You'll be the first one I beat." But after doing it, he didn't feel happy at all. His heart just kept pounding. Even so, he adjusted his thinking again and told himself he'd slowly become bad. Before this, he'd tried so hard to be kind, so Zhu Zhen would like him, but now she had changed her mind. When he got home, Zhang Ji found the house strangely quiet. As he walked farther in, he saw his uncles kneeling in punishment, heads down, not daring to move. A man who looked like a gang boss checked the time on his pocket watch. Then, with a chilling smile, he said, "Son, you really have changed. Even your clothes are different now. Come sit next to me." Zhang Ji was shocked. His father chuckled. "Why so surprised? Don't tell me you're not happy to see me." Zhang Ji stammered, "Father, why are you here?" Father Zhang didn't talk much, but he was dangerous. One look from him was enough to make Zhang Ji break into a cold sweat. He instantly jumped up and sat on the sofa at once. Then Father Zhang stood and said he wanted to reward his son. But when he noticed the wounds on Zhang Ji's face, his expression turned cold. "What happened to your face? Don't tell me you got beaten up again." That made Zhang Ji panic, unable to meet his father's eyes. Father Zhang cursed his son was the Firebear gang leader's child, yet he got beaten all the time. It was humiliating. Then he directly scolded Uncle Shu and ordered him to begin air training for Zhang Jishong right away. But Zhang Jishong refused. That made Father Zhang's face go pale with rage. He spoke coldly, not caring about father-son feelings. "What have you done in these 10 years, besides getting beaten up? Do you really think all my hopes are on you alone? It doesn't matter whether you're here or not. If you refuse today, I'll abandon you. The moment you rejected me, I already had other plans." He said Zhang Jishong's brothers were spread across the country, and all of them were growing stronger. "Son, the heir doesn't have to be you. I just hoped it would be. 10 years ago, you said you wanted to be kind for a girl, so you turned it down. You refused the air training, but I've waited on you for 10 whole years. Don't think you can keep living like this comfortable, rich life without me." Hearing that, Zhang Jishong froze. Kids really are naive, so he quickly brought up the air training and asked for time to think. Father Zhang paused. He said to tell Uncle Shu once the decision was made. Then Zhang Jishong dropped hard to his knees. He couldn't believe it, his own father was this cold. Once Father Zhang left, Uncle Shu hurried over and helped the young master up. Then Zhang Jishong slowly went back to his room and showered. Outside, the three uncles started talking about what to do next. Scarface Uncle asked if the young master would really accept the air training. That made Uncle Shu think. He felt they should speak to him first, so he went to Zhang Jishong's room and found him looking completely lost. Uncle Shu told him that if he accepted the air training, the uncles could become his support. Before leaving, he added that if you want to protect something, you need the strength to do it. That made him think of Shen Jingjie again. He figured that if he took the air training and got help from the uncles, maybe things could change. Even so, the thought only made him feel more miserable. After a short pause, he stopped dwelling on it. He stood up and walked out of the room, then told the uncles he decided to accept the air training. I want to get stronger and beat every bad guy. If I do that, I'll become the worst kind of person, right? So uncles, help me. The uncles had waited 10 years to hear that. Young master, leave it to us. We've been ready this whole time. Early the next morning, the young master was already rushing them to start training. Scarface Uncle and Bald Uncle were thrilled that he had finally accepted it. Uncle Shu knew Bald Uncle was the best one for this job, so he put him in charge of the young master's special training. Bald Uncle nearly cried from happiness. Beating his chest, he said, "Young master, train with me. I'll make you strong." "Okay, uncle." Just as they were about to start, Bald Uncle suddenly stopped. "Young master, do you really want to go through with the air training?" Zhang Jishong answered without hesitation. "Uncle, I've decided." After hearing that, Bald Uncle asked one more thing. "Young master, did you really keep the soul ring I gave you safe?" The question caught Zhang Jishong off guard, and he knew he couldn't hide the truth. He admitted he lost it, and the guy he wanted to beat ended up picking it up. In truth, Bald Uncle was waiting for him to finally admit that. He stepped closer and said he already knew who had the ring. If the young master wanted, he could go beat that guy up right now. But Zhang Jishong told him to stay out of it. He wanted to deal with Shen Jingjia himself. Hearing that, Bald Uncle suddenly hugged him. "Young master, I was really hoping you'd say that." Then so Zhang Jishong could move whenever needed. Bald Uncle had him put on battle clothes. Back in his room, Zhang Jishong changed and fixed his hair, slicking back the hair he'd ignored forever. From now on, he wasn't just some normal student. He was the true heir to the Firebear gang. In the training room, Bald Uncle began with the 3 basic tests. He really wanted to know the young master's current physical level. First came weighted squats. The load nearly broke Zhang Jishong right away. One try had him breathing hard. Bald Uncle felt a little awkward. Turns out, the young master could only squat 20 kilos. Next was bench press on the flat bench. Even that looked like a struggle for Zhang Jishong. A second later, he shakily asked Bald Uncle for help, so Bald Uncle pulled him up. Great. The young master's squat and bench together only came to 40 kilos. Still, Zhang Jishong felt like his body was getting tougher. Thinking he was way too weak, Bald Uncle wasn't sure how to train him. Then he moved on and had Zhang Jishong try a deadlift. At that point, Bald Uncle expected nothing. Yet Zhang Jishong stood up with it easily. That gave him hope. What is going on here? He quickly added more weight. Zhang Jishong lifted that easily too. With that, it suddenly brought something back to mind. His squat and bench were only 40 kilos total, but his deadlift hit 100. Maybe all those years of helping old people carry heavy stuff had built this up. Then Bald Uncle said the last test would be grip strength, an arm wrestling match with Zhang Jishong. The other uncles quickly gathered to watch. At the signal, Bald Uncle seriously told Zhang Jishong to use everything he had. Then, damn, the young master's grip strength was insane. The other uncles thought Bald Uncle was holding back, but then Bald Uncle's face went bright red. That was when it hit them. Had the young master's crazy grip been built from massaging them for 10 years, his monster grip had actually come from all that massage work. Now Bald Uncle finally knew how to train Zhang Jishong. Still, he said he couldn't throw the match. Taking an opponent lightly would be disrespectful. So he took a deep breath and used all his strength. "Young master, I'm not holding back." The other uncles stared in shock. Meanwhile, Bald Uncle kept shouting inside his head, "Young master, I'm proud of you." Then slap. Bald Uncle lost to Zhang Jishong. Looking at his shaking hand, the uncles smacked their foreheads. Their young master had just beaten the gang's arm wrestling champ, Uncle Qishong. When Jishong pulled him up, Bald Uncle saw a glimpse of the Firebear gang boss in him. If nothing else, Bald Uncle definitely had a strong imagination. After that, the two of them moved on to the next round of training. Meanwhile, Song Zhangxi, seeing Zhang Jishong's empty seat, asked his 2 best friends why he hadn't come to school. They told him there were a bunch of scary uncles outside Zhang Jishong's house. After school, he kept wondering if something had happened. The real reason Song Zhangxi cared was his sister. Zhang Zishong had helped her before, so that night he went by himself to Zhang Zishong's house. But Spiky Uncle caught him sneaking around and thought he was from a rival gang. Song Zhangxi quickly explained that he was Zhang Zishong's classmate. The uncles instantly changed tone. "Why didn't you say that first? Come in." But then Uncle Zhu stopped them and snapped that they needed to use their brains. Sure, this time he really was the young master's classmate. But what if he'd been lying? What if another gang sent him? Luckily, Song Zhangxi had brought his student ID. He could only imagine how bad it would have been without it. Then Uncle Zhu noticed the word judo on Song Zhangxi's bag, so he immediately told someone to call Bald Uncle downstairs. Song Zhangxi was shocked when he saw Bald Uncle. He bowed right away. "Hello, senior." After hearing why he came, Bald Uncle took him to see Zhang Zishong. The moment he saw Zhang Zishong, he was stunned. He even tried a technique, thinking Zishong had let go with his left hand. But that didn't work. He never expected Zishong to lift someone using just the strength of his right hand. Song Zhangxi was stunned. Then came Zishong's one-handed slam. That was when Song Zhangxi truly realized how terrifying Zishong's grip strength was. Then Bald Uncle told him to give it a try. So Song Zhangxi and Zhang Zishong started fighting. Song Zhangxi moved fast, grabbing Zishong by the collar. Zishong expected a kick next, but Song Zhangxi slammed him down with both hands instead. Scarface Uncle panicked, but Bald Uncle stopped him from stepping in. Zhang Zishong got back up, clearly mad. Then Song Zhongxi struck again at full speed, but still missed. Jishang stepped back twice, breathed in and out, and took his fighting stance. Clenching his teeth, he loaded power into his right hand for one heavy hit, and smacked Song Zhongxi cleanly. Song Zhongxi felt like Jishang's fist was a mountain. Then Jishang attacked again, catching Song Zhongxi's leg and slowly crushing down with both hands. With that fierce look in his eyes, he used his killer move Butcher's Hand, Apple Crusher. The pain from that grip felt like hell to Song Zhongxi. Bald Uncle watched with approval, while Scarface Uncle sweated. Was this really still their young master? Song Zhongxi threw another punch, and Zishang dodged again. Zishang reset himself, building power in his left hand this time, then suddenly threw a punch. Song Zhongxi blocked it, but Zishang's right hand followed up and slammed hard into his neck, leaving Song Zhongxi worn out. Zhang Zishang, that's dirty. Why'd you hit my neck? Song Zhongxi never thought his old classmate could become this strong. What was even crazier was that only 3 days had passed. Seeing Zhang Zishang on the floor, he asked in confusion why someone this strong had been scared of people like Shen Jingjie. Bald Uncle explained that the young master had never really fought before. He used to be scared and always wanted to run or change. That's why he needs opponents like you. Then Bald Uncle told Song Zhongxi to go treat his injuries first. Scarface Uncle looked at him with disdain. But then Zhang Zishang suddenly burst out laughing. Bald Uncle was surprised and asked why he was laughing. Zhang Zishang only said his heart hurt, which left Bald Uncle confused. After training ended, Bald Uncle made dinner for everyone, saying they needed protein after working out. Then he directly asked Song Zhongxi if he'd train with the young master for a week, with food and a place to stay included. But Song Zhongxi said he had a sister and couldn't stay out overnight. Then just come after school. Song Zhongxi said he already had judo club practice after class. Bald Uncle asked if everything would be fine as long as that training issue got handled. Once Song Zhongxi confirmed it, Bald Uncle immediately called the judo club. Hello, I want to borrow Song Zhongxi for a week of training. Is that fine? Song Zhongxi nearly choked when he heard that. Then Bald Uncle said the judo club problem was handled. So don't worry, just come over. Patting his shoulder, he promised that after the young master's training, he'd coach Song Zhongxi one-on-one too. The next day, Li Yiji hadn't heard from Zhang Zishang for days, and it was making her really nervous. Her two close friends even thought she was actually sick. One of them finally suggested, why not go to his house? If you're too shy to go alone, then go with Zhang Jising's friends. Right away, Li Yiji lit up. Now she had a perfect excuse to see him. Her friend stopped and said, wait, I never said it was Zhang Jising's. So how did you? But the answer was obvious. Everyone knew except Zhang Jising himself, so they told her to just go already and stop bothering them. After saying bye to her friends, Li Yiji headed off to see the boy she liked. At the same time, Shen Jingjie and his friend were getting ready to sell the soul ring. When they entered the shop, no one came out to help, so Shen Jingjie yelled for Bald Uncle to get over there and serve them. Bald Uncle only answered with 2 coughs. Then a rush of footsteps came from outside and the rolling shutter was yanked down. The loud slam made Shen Jingjie panic, and he hurriedly asked his friend how to open it. Still playing with his weapon, Bald Uncle told him to hide quietly. If he got caught, he'd be dead. Shen Jingjie froze. Dead, Baldy. Who are you? Shaking, he pulled out his phone and said he'd call the police. Bald Uncle adjusted his glasses and looked at him. Kid, you're done. This might sting a little. A second later, 2 heavy hits landed, and Shen Jingjie screamed. All his earlier attitude was gone. Bald Uncle grabbed his hair and warned him to keep the ring safe. The owner would come get it himself. If he sold it or lost it, he'd die. Then Bald Uncle noticed Shen Jingjie's thick hair and got annoyed. So he shouted for the electric razor and shaved Shen Jingjie. After smacking his head, Bald Uncle said he was stepping out and ordered him to clean the place up. Before leaving, he gave one more threat. If Shen Jingjie tried anything, he'd follow him forever and shave his head every time it grew back. Shen Jingjie burned with rage but could only take the humiliation. Meanwhile, Song Zhongxi and Li Yiji came to visit Zhang Zishang. Scarface Uncle looked Li Yiji's over and wondered if she was the young master's girlfriend. As he led them inside, he mentioned that today was Zhang Zishang's final day of training. That left Li Yiji stunned. She realized his family was rich, which explained how he could skip school. A moment later, Scarface Uncle stopped and knocked twice. Li Yiji's could barely wait to see Zhang Zishang, but Bald Uncle opened the door instead and asked who came with Zhongxi. Li Yiji instantly got nervous, like she was meeting his family already, and quickly introduced herself as Zhang Zishang's friend. Bald Uncle grinned at Zhongxi's timing. He said he didn't know the young master had a girlfriend. Flustered, Li Yiji denied it at once, though she also blurted out that she wasn't his girlfriend yet. Bald Uncle told them to wait a moment. The young master would be out soon. Then came approaching footsteps. Zhang Zishang stepped out, brushed back his hair, and greeted her warmly. Yiji, you came. That alone made Li Yiji blush, which caught him off guard. She was stunned he called her Yiji, then told him he'd gotten much stronger in just a few days. But Zhang Zishang was hopeless with girls, so Bald Uncle jumped in to save the moment. He let Li Yiji stay and watch until training ended, so she sat there watching the two train, quietly wondering why she was even doing this. The strange part was how happy they both seemed, even praising each other. Then Song Zhongxi lifted Ji Xiang up and slammed him hard onto the floor. Li Yiji flinched, sure that had to hurt. but a second later, the two were holding hands. Seeing how close they were, Li Yiji realized they got along really well. She suddenly felt like the outsider instead. Later, Zhang Jixiang invited her to stay for dinner, and that made her blush all over again. Okay, Jixiang. The three of them then chatted happily over drinks in the living room. Li Yiji finally asked why he hadn't been coming to school. Zhang Jixiang simply said he'd been in closed training. She laughed at that, then asked why he hadn't replied to her messages. Bald Uncle stepped in again and explained that phones weren't allowed during training. Then he handed the phone to Zhang Jixiang. Zhang Jixiang started scrolling through everything Li Yiji had sent. She instantly panicked. Hey, are you crazy? Don't read them now. Song Zhangxi covered his mouth and laughed. Li Yiji jumped up and called him out for making fun of her. Watching from the corner, Bald Uncle and Scarface Uncle were pleased. It was the first time the young master had brought friends home, and they hadn't seen him laugh like this in a long time. After dinner, Zhang Zhisheng walked them to the door. These past few days had clearly made him happier too. Then Bald Uncle told him to get some rest. He still had school tomorrow. The next morning, Zhang Zhisheng carried himself with much more power. Even Bald Uncle felt this was the true presence of the Firebear Gang's heir. The second he came downstairs, the subordinates all greeted him with a loud good morning. At the door, 4 men were already waiting to open it for him. He didn't need to do a thing himself. Once in the car, he ordered the driver to stop by an alley first. He needed to beat someone up. A line of black cars rolled through the city. Then, with a screech, the driver said they had reached the alley. Zhang Zhisheng got out, satisfied. He knew Shen Jingjie's group often passed through this place. Sure enough, after only a few steps, he ran into Shen Jingjie. The guy shrank back the moment he saw him. Zhang Zhisheng only smiled. To him, Shen Jingjie looked weak now. Already irritated, Shen Jingjie snapped, asking what was so funny and why Zhang Zhisheng was smiling at him. They closed in on each other, both clearly hating the other. Zhang Zhisheng ordered him to hold out his right hand. He said he was looking for something that belonged to him. When Shen Jingjie still didn't move, Zhang Zhisheng repeated himself and demanded to see that hand. Then he grabbed him right at the collarbone. Coldly, he muttered the name of his move, and a crack rang out as Shen Jingjie screamed again. At that moment, Zhang Zhisheng spotted the soul ring on him. He hesitated for just a second, but Shen Jingjie, already fed up, kicked him away. Calling him an idiot, he said Zhang Zhisheng was pushing him too far, but from the corner, Bald Uncle gave Shen Jingjie a signal. If he fought back for real, he was finished. Shen Jingjie was confused about why Bald Uncle was even there. Then he noticed the striped pattern on Zhang Zhisheng's uniform. The boy who ran off with Li Yiji had the same pattern. That's when it all clicked. The ring belonged to Zhang Zhisheng, which also meant Zhang Zhisheng was the one who threw the stone at him. In his mind, every bit of his humiliation traced back to Zhang Zhisheng. That thought made him snap with anger. He lunged to end it, but Zhang Zhisheng blocked him. Zhang Zhisheng's eyes sharpened as he clenched his fist. Then came another crack. His fighting power was on a whole different level. Shen Jingjie had no idea this wasn't the same Zhang Zhisheng from before. Zhang Zhisheng followed up fast and smacked him hard across the face. Then he crushed down on Shen Jingjie's ribs with all his grip strength and tore the soul ring right from his hand. It was Bald Uncle's ring. He had finally gotten it back. Bald Uncle clapped and proudly praised the young master. Hearing that title only made Shen Jingjie more confused about who Zhang Zhisheng really was. Then rows of black cars pulled up at the school gate. The subordinates rushed out at once, forming lines in front of the entrance. The display shocked everyone nearby, including Zhang Zhisheng's 2 best friends, who thought some huge boss had arrived. Even the guidance counselor was trembling. As the car door opened, Zhang Zhisheng stepped out with a cold, proud look. At once, all the subordinates bowed and respectfully called out to the young master. By the time he reached the gate, they were already lined up, and even his walk made him seem different. Again, they bowed and sent off the young master. But the moment he entered the classroom, he heard his classmates saying his old kindness had all been fake. Even his childhood friend called him a liar. Zhang Zhisheng froze, shaken and angry. The people who used to be his classmates now made him feel sick. He remembered what Uncle Shu once said, becoming good is hard, but becoming bad takes only a moment. Now he understood those words were deeper than he thought. Soon after, he ran into his best friends of 10 years in the hallway. He tried to greet them, but they looked at him in fear and walked straight past, not wanting anything to do with him. Zhang Zhisheng never imagined even they would treat him this way. Then he suddenly dropped to his knees. Everything felt dark. Later, he sat alone by the bridge outside school, completely down. Luckily, Li Jizi and Song Zhongxi found him. But then his phone rang. It was the student council president. After hearing why he was calling, Zhang Zhisheng stood up and said he had to take care of something before walking off in a gloomy mood. At that point, he only had one thought left: to become the worst kind of person. The student council president, who had been waiting a long time, bluntly asked Zhang Zhisheng if the rumors were true. Was his family really part of the underworld? Zhang Zhisheng's eyes darkened. Does that even matter now? The president only cared whether it would hurt the school's image. He said he had planned to talk it over with Zhang Zhisheng first, then the teachers. But now that seemed pointless. He added that Zhang Zhisheng didn't seem like himself at all. That hit him hard. Not like myself? Then what am I supposed to be? His fist tightened. He wanted to punch him. For 10 years he had tried his best to be kind, and now they suddenly treated him like this. Did they really expect him to stay the same? He slammed his fist into the iron door and shouted, asking if he was supposed to keep being kind. Then he turned to leave and said he was done caring about the student council president position. Meanwhile, Shen Jingjae got cornered again. Spiky Uncle warned him flat out. If he wanted to stay alive, he needed to stop coming to school. He also told him to open his eyes and know who he could and couldn't mess with. Before leaving, Spiky Uncle gave one last warning. If Shen Jingjae tried anything, he'd make sure he paid for it. Shen Jingjae could only watch the two of them walk away. Even now, he still believed Jiang Zhisheng only acted tough because gangsters were backing him up. Still, he swore he wouldn't let this go and would get revenge no matter what. So he started thinking about Jiang Zhisheng's weak spot. Then it hit him. He grabbed his phone and remembered Han Zhuzhen. Since Yuzhen was Jiang Zhisheng's childhood sweetheart, she had to know what mattered most to him. Right away, he called her. As the phone rang, Shen Jingjae smiled darkly. Even if he went down, he was taking Jiang Zhisheng with him. He hinted that Jiang Zhisheng had brought in over a dozen gangster uncles. Then he claimed he'd been beaten for no reason. Zhuzhen was shocked. She couldn't believe Zhisheng had used gangsters on him and said she was deeply disappointed. Hearing that, Shen Jingjae pushed further and asked what weaknesses Jiang Zhisheng had. Any secrets or anything he treasured? After a short pause, Zhuzhen asked if a person counted too. That was all Shen Jingjae needed. A nasty smile spread across his face. He immediately figured out who Jiang Zhisheng cared about. The person he cherished most was Han Shuzhen. Then Shuzhen asked if that meant they were back together. Shen Jingjae gently patted her head and told her yes. He apologized, said he hadn't realized how important she was, and promised to treat her better if she'd give him another chance. After that, Shen Jingjae reached for Suzhen's hand. Elsewhere, the three girls were talking about Jiang Zhisheng and Li Yiji. Li Yiji quietly admitted she liked Jiang Zhisheng, and not because his family was tied to a gang. Right then, her friend teased her, saying she should help turn Jiang Zhisheng into the strongest man around. That instantly sent Li Yiji into a fantasy. In her head, Jiang Zhisheng told her, Li Yiji, this whole area is mine now, and you're next. She actually thought that kind of bossy attitude sounded pretty great. Blushing hard, she covered her face and bounced with excitement. Just then, Shen Jingjae's two lackeys from earlier walked over. They called out to Li Yiji and asked if she knew where Jiang Zhisheng from their class had gone. They got nothing and were about to leave, not knowing Jiang Zhisheng was already heading back. The second they turned around, Jiang Zhisheng was right in front of them. The three girls froze. Speak of the devil, and there he was. Even then, Shen Jingjae's two lackeys still acted cocky in front of the girls. The guy with glasses reached out first and said he wanted to meet Jiang Zhisheng and be friends. Jiang Zhisheng didn't respond at all. He just stood there with his hands in his pockets, staring them down without moving. The glasses guy forced a laugh and warned him not to reject a friendly drink, only to be made to drink the hard way. Then Jiang Zhisheng asked if they were Shen Jingji's friends. The glasses guy got the wrong idea and assumed Jiang Zhisheng was on Shen Jingji's side too. So he offered his hand and introduced himself as Jiang Jingkai. Jiang Zhisheng took it and coolly replied, "Nice to meet you. I'm Jiang Zhisheng." The glasses guy's face changed as Jiang Zhisheng squeezed harder and harder, making his arm shake. Jiang Zhisheng stared at him with icy confidence. Then crack. His grip crushed the guy's hand and he screamed. The other lackey thought he was faking and told him to quit the act. But the glasses guy yelled that he wasn't lying and begged for help, calling Jiang Zhisheng a mad dog. Li Yiji and her friends were stunned. None of them expected Jiang Zhisheng to be this strong. Both lackeys finally snapped and shouted at him to let go. One rushed in with a punch, but Jiang Zhisheng dodged it easily. He caught the attacker's fist right away. Then he mocked him, saying hitting people was wrong. The lackey immediately panicked, realizing this nice kid was way more dangerous than he looked. Jiang Zhisheng's expression turned cold as he tightened his hold and slowly tormented him. With a brutal twist, he spun the guy's arm all the way around. Jiang Zhisheng might have enjoyed it for a second, but the guy sure didn't. Both lackeys instantly gave up and begged him to stop. Once he heard that, Jiang Zhisheng let go of their hands and coldly told them to get lost. At the same time, he won over two new fangirls, who couldn't stop gushing about how awesome he was. The glasses guy traded looks with the others and the pair ran off fast, still throwing threats behind them. They shouted that Jiang Zhisheng would regret this. Li Jixi, meanwhile, was completely taken in by how cool Zhisheng looked. Her face turned bright red, and she could barely contain herself. Before she knew it, she stepped closer and started worrying about him. That was when Jiang Zhisheng said he wanted to ask her something. Li Ji got shy all over again and told him to go ahead. He asked if those two were Shen Jingjae's friends, and whether they were part of the troublemakers at school. Then he asked Li Ji if she was one too. That question made her visibly upset, and she answered with a gloomy little hum. Jiang Zhisheng nodded and told her to name every troublemaker in school except her. The second she heard except her, Li Ji lit right back up. Her two friends were stunned by the obvious special treatment. Except for you. After that, the two of them struck a deal. Elsewhere, Shen Jingji and Xu Zhen were walking hand in hand when they ran into the two guys Jiang Zhisheng had just beaten up. All four of them were startled. The guy with glasses hurried over and asked Shen Jingji what happened to his face. Xu Zhen almost answered that Jiang Zhisheng had beaten him, but Shen Jingji squeezed her hand to stop her. He told her to head back to class first because the men needed to talk. Xu Zhen left, still glancing back at them. Then Shen Jingji told the two that Jiang Zhisheng had jumped in with more than 10 gangsters. They were shocked and admitted they couldn't afford to mess with a guy like that. Shen Jingji's face darkened. He asked if they couldn't just get their boss Dubo to help. The two looked at each other and agreed that if Dubo stepped in, it should be manageable. So the three of them made a plan to go after Zhang Zhisheng. At the same time, Li Yiji started explaining the troublemaker groups from their school and the nearby ones to Zhang Zhisheng. She said the boss at their school was Li Dubo, and that he was her brother. Then she brought up Song Zhongxi, the best fighter in school. According to her, he and her brother were connected through the judo club as senior and junior. After that, she mentioned Shen Jingji's group, which Zhang Zhisheng already knew. Shen Jingji used to be her brother's junior at the same school. She also said there was another group led by Zhao and Hao. That group didn't get along with her brother, and together with Shen Jingji's crew they only had 11 people. But the troublemakers from their school and nearby schools had also formed the Ignorant Normal Alliance, which had over 100 members. Hearing all that, Zhang Zhisheng said he wanted to beat every bad guy he saw, and become the baddest of them all. Meanwhile, Shen Jingji went to his boss too, asking for help getting revenge on Zhang Zhisheng. Once Li Dubo heard why, he got furious, and demanded to know who dared mess up his little brother's face like that. He then told Shen Jingji to follow his lead, and said he'd handle the street side of things. He also told Shen Jingji to move forward without fear. Just to be safe, Li Dubo said they should call in more guys and get ready at the gym. Before leaving, he patted Shen Jingji on the shoulder, and told him to stop getting beaten up outside. He said it hurt the big brother when his little brothers got hurt, and Shen Jingji quickly bowed him off. Shen Jingji was thrilled, sure he could finally deal with Song Zhongxi and Zhang Zhisheng. The next day he gathered his 10 lackeys and announced he had good news. They just stared at him like he'd lost his mind. After all, how were they supposed to deal with Song Zhongxi? Shen Jingji only gave them a dark grin and told them to trust him. Dubo was willing to help, and he reminded them they all had a score to settle with Song Zhongxi anyway. Tomorrow they'd go after them together. Early the next morning, Shen Jingji burst into the classroom. He marched straight up to the sleeping Song Zhongxi. The whole class was stunned. Why would he pick a fight with Song Zhongxi while he was asleep? Shen Jingji stopped, looked him over, and nervously raised his right hand. Then he slapped Song Zhongxi on the back. The classmates were shocked and thought Shen Jingji had completely gone crazy. Shen Jingji slowly sat up, acting like it was just a mosquito bite. Shen Jingji called him out and told him to come to the gym. Then he took off running, still making sure to taunt him on the way out. He yelled that if Song Zhongxi didn't come, he'd counted his fear. Song Zhongxi wasn't about to let that slide. He coldly warned Shen Jingji that he was done for. As he ran, Shen Jingji kept thinking about the humiliation from before. In his head, he swore Song Zhongxi had messed with the wrong person this time. Panting hard, he kept running until he reached the sports field. He looked back and saw Song Zhongxi still hadn't shown up, so he told his lackeys to get ready first. They'd all jump him together. Then he spotted Dubo, and was shocked to see Li Dubo had also brought people from the Ignorant Normal Alliance. Wuzhun School's Huang Dazhuang, Jilan School's Li Dubo, Mojin School's Tao Yuan, and Changnan School's Park Mingjun. 4 school bosses had shown up one after another. That made Shen Jingji even more confident, and he called out to Dubo. Li Dubo signaled for him to go ahead without worry. On the other side, Song Zhongxi had also made it to the gym. As soon as he came in, he looked at Shen Jingji with total disdain. The two locked eyes, and Shen Jingji grinned as he asked if his brothers were ready. Then he pointed at Song Zhongxi and ordered them to rush him. But his so-called brothers didn't move at all. They just stared at him and asked why he wasn't going first. Shen Jingji panicked and shouted, asking what they were trying to pull. By then, Song Zhongxi was already walking toward him one step at a time. While Shen Jingji kept yelling, he warned him not to come any closer. Song Zhongxi's eyes hardened and he pushed off hard with his back foot. His left hand tightened to brace the force. Then bang! Song Zhongxi drove a crushing punch straight into Shen Jingji's face. A scream ripped through the gym as Shen Jingji went sliding across the floor. He scraped so hard along it that sparks flew, finally stopping in the middle of the gym. That made the rest of the minions panic, and despair spread across their faces. But Song Zhongxi just stared at them with a blank face, like they were nothing but clowns. The 3 school bullies were shaken by that look. To them, he was basically a monster. Even then, Shen Jingji kept yelling, still acting tough and saying Song Zhongxi would be done for soon. In a rush, Shen Jingji called out to Dubo, but Dubo acted like he heard nothing and saw nothing. That made Shen Jingji panic. Dubo, didn't you say you'd help me? Then the back door slammed open and Shen Jingji instantly went pale. He blurted out asking why Zhang Jixong was here. Zhang Jixong answered with attitude. He came to handle this himself. Hearing that, Shen Jingji started looking around. He couldn't understand why nobody was helping him. His mind raced. Something had clearly gone wrong, and with Zhang Jixong here too, he started to suspect the truth but didn't want to believe it. He kept pressing Dubo, demanding an explanation. At that point, Zhang Jixong cut him off and told him to stop talking nonsense. Or was he scared? Zhang Jixong let out a cold snort. He shot back that he wasn't afraid of some fighter. Then he clenched his fist and charged, cursing Zhang Jixong for acting so arrogant. Whoosh! He rushed forward like the wind and leaped in, yelling that gang connections wouldn't stop him from fighting back. But Zhang Jixong dodged at once and grabbed onto his ribs with a brutal iron grip. Crack! Shen Jingji was hit with that crushing pain all over again. This time though, he managed to break free and hop back in a hurry. He reset himself and lunged at Zhang Jixong again, gritting his teeth while loading power into his left hand. Then he warned him he was left-handed. Whoosh, whoosh. Still nothing landed. Zhang Jisheng dodged again and mocked him for being too slow. The next second, Zhang Jisheng's eyes went white as he locked onto Shen Jingji's arm. He seized it, eyes blazing, and started squeezing with that terrifying grip. Shen Jingji staggered in panic, but Zhang Jisheng twisted his arm so hard it bent like a pretzel. Pain twisted his face so badly he couldn't even cry for help. By then, Zhang Jisheng didn't even want to look at him anymore, so he hit him again. Another blow like that should have snapped his neck. The other two school bullies were stunned. That was the heir of the Fire Bear gang, and he was seriously skilled. Meanwhile, Shen Jingji slowly stood up again, reaching around for something. He pulled out a dagger. He told Zhang Jisheng it was meant for Song Zhongxi, but now Zhang Jisheng could have the honor instead. Even Zhang Jisheng was shocked, calling him out for going that far with a knife. Shen Jingji didn't care anymore. He just laughed like a madman. Then he taunted Zhang Jisheng. Was he scared now? He should be. A second later, Shen Jingji jumped at him like a crazed dog. Right then, a microphone suddenly blared through the gym. Everyone turned and saw two students kneeling there with shaved heads. And on the platform was the bald uncle himself. The second Shen Jingji saw him, his scalp went numb. Why was this bald guy here again? The bald uncle told him to drop the weapon before fighting. When Shen Jingji didn't respond, the bald uncle warned that if he kept holding it, he'd come over and kill him himself. That threat made Shen Jingji shake all over. The fear this man put in him was deep. Clang, the dagger hit the floor. Then the bald uncle told him to keep going. But Shen Jingji complained it wasn't fair. Song Zhongxi had already broken his nose. Hearing that, Zhang Jisheng told him to wait. Then he asked Song Zhongxi to hit him the same way. Song Zhongxi calmly raised his fist and said it was his first time hearing a request like that. Bang, one punch, and Zhang Jisheng's jaw looked dislocated too. Even the bald uncle was stunned by that. Shen Jingji was shocked too, suddenly realizing this so-called loser hit hard. Huang Dishuang from Wuzhen School even thought Zhang Jisheng was better suited to lead. At that moment, the bald uncle and Li Dubo exchanged a look. They nodded like this had all been planned. On the other side, Zhang Jisheng was done wasting time. He wanted to finish the fight fast. Shen Jingji still thought Zhang Jisheng would go for his ribs again, so he figured keeping his distance would keep him safe. But Zhang Jisheng just drove off the ground with his left foot and launched himself forward like Superman. He shouted for the kid to see where he could run now. Before Shen Jingji could react, Zhang Jisheng was already on him. Then he turned savage, saying this time Shen Jingji was dead. Still, the way they landed looked oddly familiar. Even their position looked strangely familiar. The bald uncle watched closely, confused because he hadn't taught the young master any ground moves yet. The two school bullies were confused too. Why wasn't Zhang Jisheng attacking when he had the clear advantage? Truth was, Zhang Jisheng didn't know what to do next. Meanwhile, Shen Jingji kept shouting that Zhang Jisheng had promised a fair fight. Then Zhang Jisheng stopped caring and squeezed with all his strength. Shen Jingji's wrist turned blue from the pressure. His face twisted in pain like he was being strangled. At that point, Zhang Jisheng seemed to lose control completely. Looking at Shen Jingji's face kept bringing back the image of him being close with Xu Zhen. 10 years of trying to be kind, only for Xu Zhen to say she liked bad boys. Now Zhang Jisheng couldn't hold it in anymore. None of it felt worth it. Shen Jingji kept begging him to stop, warning that his arm was going to break. Zhang Jisheng gave a dark smile and said he couldn't stop now. Then his eyes turned white as he raised his fist. Bang! One punch. Bang! Two punches. Bang, 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 three punches. He kept hitting him while crying and shouting, asking where all that toughness went, and saying he wouldn't stop just because Shen Jingji had passed out. Luckily, Shen Jingji stopped him in time, otherwise Shen Jingji would have been done for. Park Mingjun watched with satisfaction, thinking this guy was hurting his enemy while hurting himself too. There had to be some story behind it. Nearby, Taoyuan laughed and said there was no hidden story, he was just a psycho, brutal like his father. At the same time, Shen Jingji's two lackeys suddenly started arguing over who should be the new boss. That instantly set Zhang Jisheng off. He turned and glared at them, making it clear that from today on, he'd deal with all of them. The whole gym fell silent. Then Park Mingjun finally spoke up, saying that was enough for today and the rest could be handled later. He stepped forward right away, trying to shake Zhang Jisheng's hand like he could smooth things over. But Zhang Jisheng only glanced at him once and slapped his hand away. He said he'd deal with every one of them, including the people from the ignorant Normal Alliance. Park Mingjun got mad and said he wanted to fight Zhang Jisheng. Li Dubo quickly told him to calm down first, warning that Zhang Jisheng was too emotional right now and would take anything as a challenge. After that, the three school bullies left first. Even then, the two clowns kept asking Dubo to pick a new leader. Li Dubo shut them down and told them to get lost, so everyone had no choice but to leave. Then the bald uncle gave Zhang Jisheng a thumbs up. After praising him, he told him to go home first. Once Zhang Jisheng and Song Zhongxi were gone, the bald uncle strode over and thanked Dubo for his hard work. Li Dubo immediately bowed and called him brother Qisheng. As they were about to leave, the bald uncle told him not to be nervous. He'd already spoken to the big boss, so a greeting would be enough. Then the bald uncle suddenly stopped, reached back and touched the razor behind his head. He said he almost forgot the after-sales service couldn't be skipped. After a quick series of moves, he stripped Shen Jingji's completely naked. Li Dubo was stunned, and then realized brother Qisheng had shaved Shen Jingji's hair too. After finishing up, the bald uncle told Li Dubo to follow him. Seeing Shen Jingji like that, it was clear the bald uncle's methods were brutal. Then the two people kneeling on the platform stood up and called out to Jingji. Their legs were numb from kneeling so long, so they staggered like zombies. They hurried over and tried to wake him. They shouted for Jingji to wake up because they'd been tricked. When he came to, he realized he was completely naked. He clenched his teeth, never expecting to be humiliated like this. Furious, he cursed that bald bastard. Only then did Shen Jingji fully understand he was the only one kept in the dark about all this. They had all worked together against him, even the friends he trusted, and Dubo, the one he treated like a brother. He realized they had teamed up just to make a fool of him. Then Shen Jingji started laughing. The two guys beside him thought he'd gone crazy. He cursed and said they had messed with the wrong person. Did they really think it was over just because they played him? This was better. He swore he'd get revenge. He'd kill every one of them. He had nothing left to lose anyway, and he'd show them how scary someone with nothing to fear could be. Meanwhile, word spread through the whole school that Shen Jingji had beaten Shen Jingji. At the same time, news of Shen Jingji declaring war on the ignorant Normal Alliance spread fast too. The Fire Bear gang heard as well, and of course they had to celebrate Shen Jingji becoming the new young boss. Meanwhile, the bald uncle told Li Dubo to use this chance to greet the brothers, so sweating all over, he nervously introduced himself. "Nice to meet everyone. I'm Li Dubo." The whole thing scared him badly. Elsewhere, Zhang Jishang kept walking with confidence, saying he could handle things now and even spat a couple of times on the way. But when he got home, it was too quiet. That familiar silence gave him a bad feeling. He suddenly stopped and asked his father why he was there. Father Zhang stood up at once and put out his cigarette. Then he pulled Zhang Jishang into a tight hug, leaving him frozen in surprise. He said he'd heard his son had already taken over the school, and that it was wonderful. He said he was truly proud and had waited a long time for this day. The uncles were moved to tears, shouting that the boss had finally embraced the young master. For Zhang Jisheng, though, his father hadn't hugged him in 10 years. So after all that time, feeling his father's arms around him again filled him with warmth. For a moment, he thought maybe this was good. Then Father Zhang pushed him back and apologized, saying he got too emotional on such a good day. He spun around and shouted, "Brothers, what are you doing? This is a day to celebrate. Raise your glasses." The whole place joined in, cheering for the young master. Then Father Zhang declared that from now on, this date would be a memorial day for the gang. But Shang Jefun wasn't celebrating yet. He stared at the drink in his hand, unsure if he should take it. Still, his father and the uncles were all watching him. Not wanting to kill the mood, he finally downed the whole cup. His father and the uncles looked on in surprise. A second later, Zhang Jefun's face went dark. The taste was awful. His father and uncles kept asking how it was. Right away, regret hit him. "This tastes horrible. Why do you even drink this?" That answer made the three uncles frown. Father Zhang just pointed at him and laughed. "Son, that's how it's supposed to taste, just like life." Since it was his first time drinking, his father had specially prepared it for him. Laughing, they joked that a gangster's son couldn't even handle alcohol. Father Zhang added, "That drink cost 20 million. The rest of you, enjoy yourselves." The lackeys looked awkward and quickly thanked the boss. After that, Father Zhang said he was stepping out for some air and told everyone to keep having fun. Before leaving, he patted Zhang Jisheng's shoulder. Seeing his son walk the right path made him feel deeply satisfied. Zhang Jisheng noticed his father and uncle seemed to be talking about him, and he couldn't help wondering what his father really meant. Once outside, Father Zhang said he was in a great mood today. He even wanted to reward Uncle Shu. Just then, a lackey stepped down from the car. "Boss, why'd you come out so soon?" Father Zhang said he'd head back in later and told him to go have a drink too. But Li Shuan bowed at once. He turned it down, saying he still had to drive, and told the boss to enjoy himself. After Father Zhang went back inside, Li Zhanshu shot him a look. Li Shuan answered with a nasty smile. "Looks like the slap you took already healed." Uncle Shu's face darkened, but he said nothing. So Li Shuan was left standing outside by himself, like a fool. Inside, the uncles were already drunk. It made Uncle Shu want to punch those idiots. They were way too wild. Father Zhang told him not to worry about it and asked him to bring Zhang Jisheng up to the rooftop. When Uncle Shu went to call him, Zhang Jisheng jumped up. "Uncle, my heart's beating so fast." Uncle Shu told him to get a grip and hurry up and go see his father. Zhang Jisheng scratched his head awkwardly, but when he reached the rooftop door, he saw the bald uncle waiting there. Something about him felt off. So Zhang Jisheng nervously asked why his father had called him up. Then he noticed certificates on the ground. "Aren't these my certificates on the ground? Aren't these my certificates on the ground? Why are they here?" Father Zhang's expression hardened. He told him to burn them all. "You're not some kind model citizen anymore. You're Zhang Jisheng, heir to the Fire Bear gang. Your actions need to match that. Burn your old life and start over." Zhang Jisheng looked at the certificates. Good conduct, community service, being a role model, and thought about who he used to be. Things were different now. Then he grabbed the box and dumped everything out. He told himself he had to change. "Father, am I doing the right thing?" Father Zhang hugged him. "You did something very hard. I'm proud of you." After Father Zhang left, Zhang Jisheng felt lost. Maybe, he thought, this was what a good son was supposed to do. At that moment, Li Yiji called him. "So late, and Yuji's calling me?" He hurried downstairs and checked around to see if the uncles were asleep. It looked safe, but then a shadow appeared behind him. "Young master, where are you sneaking off to this late?" Sweating, Zhang Jisheng told the uncles he was going to meet a girl. The drunk uncles instantly perked up. Even the bald uncle kindly asked if he had a girlfriend. The moment they heard it might be the young master's girl, the drunken uncles got fired up. All of them started offering to teach Zhang Jisheng how to date. He bolted right away, thinking a bunch of single guys had no business giving dating advice. The second he got outside, a bright light hit his eyes. Li Yiji was on a little moped, asking if she looked cool. He was shocked, thinking the moped was stolen and that she was driving without a license. After Li Yiji explained, the misunderstanding cleared up. Then the two of them went to a park, where they talked about her getting hit by a rock earlier. Li Yiji teased him, saying if her pretty face got scarred, she'd be doomed. Zhang Jisheng reached over and asked if she was hiding it because she didn't want him to worry. He gently touched her forehead, lifting her hair to check for a scar. At once, Li Yiji's face turned red and her heart started pounding. Just when Zhang Jisheng relaxed after seeing there was no scar, Li Yizi suddenly stood up and said she had to go. They'd see each other at school tomorrow. She quickly started the moped, thinking if she stayed any longer, Jisheng would definitely hear her heartbeat. The more she thought about it, the more she blushed. Right now, all Li Yizi wanted was to get away fast. Meanwhile, Shen Jingzhou's group was planning how to go after Song Jiangxi and Zhang Jisheng. But the guy with glasses refused the second he heard kidnapping was part of the plan. Shen Jingzhou answered him with a middle finger. In the end, he settled things with Shen Jingzhou. There would be exactly 6 of them. The next day, they started tailing Song Jiangxi and Zhang Jisheng. At one point, the two suddenly stopped, and the 3 followers broke out in sweat, thinking they'd been caught. But the pair had only stopped to buy something for his sister to eat. When Duan saw her brother come back, she rushed into his arms. After talking things through, the 2 boys said goodbye and left. What they didn't know was that Shen Jingjie and 3 of his men were hiding nearby, already plotting to grab his sister. Then, while following Duan, they ran into Zhang Jisheng. Shen Jingjie thought if they took care of him first, they could drag Duan along too and teach her a lesson. Just the thought excited him. He quickly told the others this was the perfect chance to kidnap both of them. The others pushed back right away. Going after Zhang Jisheng was one thing, but taking a little girl was too much. They said they wouldn't do it. That set Shen Jingjie off. He yelled that they were all cowards and said he wanted to beat up Song Jiangxi too. But with only 6 of them, they couldn't win in a straight fight. So this was the only plan he had. Grinding his teeth, he thought the only way this worked was if Song Jiangxi suddenly couldn't walk. But Song Jiangxi had just finished training his legs and was limping down the road. One of the guys spotted him and quickly called Shen Jingjie over. Shen Jingjie looked and grinned. It really was Song Jiangxi. But why was his leg hurt? A second later, Shen Jingjie burst out laughing. Heaven was helping him. It felt like fate itself was telling him to go after Song Jiangxi. So he told the others he'd listen to them. They'd leave the little girl alone. Instead, they'd go straight for Song Jiangxi. Come on, brothers. Then they all started grabbing weapons and marched down the street like they were ready to die. Meanwhile, Song Jiangxi was only trying to feel how sore his legs were after training on the stairs, not knowing danger was closing in. With Shen Jingjie shouting for the attack, the group rushed in with weapons and surrounded him. When Song Jiangxi turned around, his face went serious. Shen Jingjie was already behind him, weapon raised, grinning like he had it won. Bang 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 bang, die punk! Song Jiangxi tried to fight back, but his leg was too sore to put any strength into it. Before he could react, someone smashed a stick into him from behind, making his vision go white. Then the whole group piled on and beat him. Song Jiangxi desperately guarded his head while watching their rhythm, thinking 6 guys still shouldn't be enough. Then he picked a target, raised his guard, and loaded up a punch. Bang, his left hook slammed right into the blonde guy's face. Then came a right, pounding him until he was completely wrecked. A moment later, another one jumped in from the front, trying to stab him from the air, but Song Jiangxi still punched him away and sent him screaming. Then the guy in green swung a steel pipe from behind, but Song Jiangxi blocked it with his arm and lifted him straight up. A hard slam later, the guy crashed down on his head. Then Shen Jingjie slipped behind him again. A strike from the stick landed, leaving Song Jiangxi dazed. At last, he couldn't keep standing. His legs gave out and he dropped to his knees. Even then, his first thought was whether his sister was safe. Once he went down, his legs had no strength left, and all he could do was take the beating. After a while, Shen Jingjie ordered them to tie Song Jiangxi up and haul him to the car. Then they quickly shoved him inside. Meanwhile, Daowen and Zhang Jisheng were heading back. At that moment, Daowen pointed ahead and said it looked like there had been a crash. When she looked closer, it was actually her brother. Daowen burst into tears, thinking he'd been hit by a car. Zhang Jisheng roared, Shen Jingjie, you bastard, you're dead this time. Shen Jingjie answered with a middle finger. Zhang Jisheng gently calmed Daowen down and told her not to worry. He promised he would bring her brother back safely. He never thought Shen Jingjie would go this far and start committing real crimes, so he rushed home to call the uncles for help. But because of the gathering, they were already drunk. Then he spotted Uncle Shu on the sofa, but no matter how many times he called, there was no answer. So he gave him a small push and froze. Uncle Shu had already passed out asleep. He looked around for the bald uncle next, but bald uncle was sleeping hard too, so Zhang Jingjie decided not to wake them and thought it would be better to call the police. Just as he started dialing, Xu Zhen's number suddenly called him. Xu Zhen had called. He picked up right away and asked where Xu Zhen was, but the voice on the other end belonged to Shen Jingjie. Shen Jingjie sounded smug. Hello, can't recognize my voice. It's me, Shen Jingjie. If you want to see Shuzhen, get here now. I'll send the address. And if you bring your uncles or call the cops, Shuzhen loses her life. Shen Jingjie hung up, and Jiang Zhishang's eyes went wide with rage. Just wait, kid. I'll kill you. I don't need my uncles to beat you. At the door, he ran into Li Ji. Once she heard what happened, the two rushed to the abandoned warehouse on her scooter. They were going so fast, Li Ji told him to hold her waist or he'd fall. But Zhang Zhangxi only grabbed a little bit of her shirt. When they reached the warehouse, he handed back the helmet and told her to leave. He said he was going in to fight them. Li Ji watched him walk away, quietly thinking, Zhang Xiong, if I'm going to stand behind you one day, I can't let you face this alone. Inside, Shen Jingjie's group wondered if Jiang Zhishang would bring his uncles. None of them wanted their heads shaved. Shen Jingjie told them to relax. They still had 2 hostages. He looked over at Song Zhangxi and taunted him, asking if Jiang Zhishang would come with backup. When Song Zhangxi stayed silent, Shen Jingjie slapped him. Oh right, you've got tape over your mouth. Then he hit him again, mocking him to fight back. But your hands are tied too, so you can't. A second later, he started beating Song Zhangxi non-stop. Serves you right for acting so tough earlier. Still, no matter how hard they hit him, Song Zhangxi didn't make a sound. Then Shuzhen stopped him, asking if this was what they'd do to Zhishang when he came. Shen Jingjie snapped back, of course, and asked if she wanted to take the beating instead. Hearing that, Shuzhen froze in fear and couldn't speak. Shen Jingjie grabbed her chin and warned her she was only bait. If she talked too much, he'd beat her too. All she could do was hope Zhishang would come fast to save her, while hating people like this more than ever. Then Yellow Hair asked what they'd do if that bald uncle showed up. Shen Jingjie just gave a nasty smile and said not to worry. An older guy was outside waiting to help them. Just then, a shadow appeared. Jiang Zhishang had reached the door, glaring at them as he said they were dead. The moment Shuzhen saw him, her eyes lit up. Shen Jingjie immediately told his lackeys to take him down. They laughed, asking if they really all had to jump one guy. Yellow Hair bragged that he alone could handle Jiang Zhishang. As Jiang Zhishang raised his guard, Yellow Hair charged in with a fast strike, but Jiang Zhishang dodged. He moved at once, grabbed the guy's arm, and drove his body forward. His knee slammed straight into Yellow Hair's face, making his nose bleed. Then Jiang Zhishang grabbed his hair and demanded they free Shuzhen and Song Zhangxi. If not, he'd rip his scalp off. But Shen Jingjie and the others didn't budge, so Jiang Zhishang yanked hard, ripped out a chunk of hair and threw him aside. Damn, I almost forgot, you trash don't know loyalty. Your friend loses his scalp and you still don't care. Fine, then I'll crush all of you. Shen Jingjie burst out laughing, saying without those thug uncles, Jiang Zhishang was nothing but a loud mouth. Even without Li Guangyu, they still had 5 people. Could he beat them all? Jiang Zhishang's eyes hardened. He knew he needed to drop Shen Jingjie's first. With a roar, he leaped in. But Shen Jingjie dodged. Shen Jingjie fired back with a flurry of punches, but Jiang Zhishang grabbed his collar tight. His right fist drew back, then smashed straight into Shen Jingjie's face. Right then, the man in green struck him from behind with a stick. Before Jiang Zhishang could recover, another guy kicked him from the side. The attacks kept coming one after another. There's a limit to acting tough. How do those studded shoes feel? Want another taste? But Jiang Zhishang caught him. The guy screamed, feeling like his bones were about to break. Off to the side, Li Yuji was stunned. Zhishang was way better at fighting than she thought, so she started sneaking inside. Luckily, the fight was so wild no one noticed her. She began untying Song Zhangxi, but the ropes were pulled too tight. Then Shuzhen noticed what she was doing and shouted, Li Yiji, help me too. Both of them were speechless. Shuzhen, you idiot. Hearing the shout, Shen Jingjie stopped and turned toward Li Yiji. When she looked back, a club was already swinging at her head. One hit, and Li Yiji dropped unconscious. Seeing that, Zhang Zhishang exploded in rage. If he didn't kill Shen Jingjie today, his name wasn't Zhang. At that moment, the long-haired man stepped into position and landed a blow that broke several of Zhang Zhishang's ribs. Then the two of them started ganging up on him. For Shen Jingjie, it was pure joy. He kept mocking Zhang Zhishang, saying this was how a loser should look. Then Shen Jingjie picked up a club and told the others to pin Zhang Zhishang down. He wanted to smash his head in. He even laughed that he'd brought an electric razor to shave him too. Zhang Zhishang panicked, but the club never came down. Gritting his teeth, he cracked one eye open to look, and saw Song Zhongji gripping the club so hard, Shen Jingjie couldn't move it. Shen Jingjie turned in shock. What the hell, Song Zhongji? But Song Zhongji's fist was already flying at his face. Bang! Shen Jingjie's face twisted from the hit. Before Li Yiji got knocked out, she had already loosened most of Song Zhongji's ropes. He just needed a moment. Now Song Zhongji ripped the tape from his mouth and warned that none of those punks were getting away. The long-haired man and the guy in green were scared, but told themselves Song Zhongxi was already badly hurt. The moment they hesitated, Zhang Zhishang broke free and hit back. Song Zhongxi told him to leave this side to him, untie Han Shujian and call an ambulance for Li Yiji. Meanwhile, Shen Jingjie and his gang yelled that they'd fight to the end, but Han Shujian threw herself straight into Zhang Zhishang's arms. That made Li Yiji's jealousy spike. Even while hurt, she complained that her forehead was still bleeding. After calming both girls down, Zhang Zhishang joined Song Zhongxi and said they should finish this fast. Song Zhongxi gave a small smile. Alright, but those guys still had weapons. This won't be easy. Can you handle it? Zhang Zhishang answered right away. Of course. Those trash were finished. Shen Jingjie shouted back that they were still talking big, then told his brothers the hunt was on. Song Jong-shi was surprised. Zhang Jipshang had built his own fighting style so fast, using raw burst power and grip strength. The two punks were completely rattled. His strength was close to Song Jongshi's. Meanwhile, Zhang Jipshang said his arm felt hot, like his clothes were too tight, but the sting felt familiar. Slowly, he started unbuttoning his sleeve. Back then, when he used to massage his uncles, his arms would ache every night before bed. That pain from massaging was enough to bury the pain of growing up. One idiot thought Zhang Jipshang was just trying to look cool. Sure, that muscle power decided everything. Then his punch was caught by Zhang Jipshang. His face changed at once. No matter how hard he struggled, his hand wouldn't budge. With a shout about crushing potatoes, Zhang Jipshang squeezed until the guy's hand crumpled like a can. The screams echoed through the warehouse. Seeing that, the man in red rushed over to help. He lifted his leg to strike Zhang Jipshang, but a fist shot in from the side and smashed him in the face. Their teamwork was perfect. Zhang Jipshang told Zhang Jipshang not to bother with the small fry and to keep going after Shen Jingjia. Zhang Jipshang held one guy with one hand and drew back the other. One punch later, the punk's face was bruised all over. Shen Jingjia's gang started to panic. These two hit way too hard. Seeing that, Shen Jingjia pulled out his phone to call for backup. He told the others he was calling that older guy, and until he got there, they needed to keep Song Jong-shi busy while he handled Zhang Jishong. In the next instant, Shen Jingjia rushed Zhang Jishong while the other four went after Song Jong-shi. But Song Jong-shi's legs were hurting badly now. They didn't care. All four raised their weapons and attacked. They came at him with kicks, clubs, and non-stop yelling. Just as Zhang Jishong tried to help, Shen Jingjia blocked him, telling him to keep his eyes forward. His opponent was right here. Then Shen Jingjia was thrown off. What the hell? Why was Shen Jingjia taking off his shirt? He figured it was so no one could grab him. On the other side, Song Jong-shi kept guarding his head first, staying calm and waiting to drop them one by one. No matter how much they hit him, protecting his head came first. Then Song Jong-shi picked his target. His punch slammed into the red robe man's stomach. That single hit sent him flying and stunned the other three. Next was the man in green. Song Jong-shi lined it up and smashed his jaw. Then he turned to the long-haired man. Just as Song Jong-shi was about to punch, Yellow Hair attacked from behind and kicked the inside of his knee. Seeing that, all four rushed him and aimed for his legs. Zhang Jingxi looked over at Song Jong-shi, worried. That opening let Shen Jingjia punch him in the face. He mocked him for getting distracted like a loser. Meanwhile, the older guy they were waiting for was getting out of his car. From his car, grumbling that a bunch of punks got beaten in a group fight. If boss Li Shiwan hadn't ordered it, he wouldn't have stepped in. A moment earlier, Li Shu, the head of the Firebear Gang's central branch, had sent his men to jump Zhang Jisheng and kill him. He even handed over his ring as a sign. At the same time, Zhang Jisheng and Shen Jingjia were still going at it. But once Shen Jingjia ripped off his shirt, he got much quicker and drove a punch into Zhang Jisheng's stomach. Moving around like a wannabe Bruce Lee, he mocked him. How can a loser like you protect women? By then, Song Jingji had already taken care of the others. That instantly made Shen Jingjia nervous, because if Song Jingjia got free, he was done for. So he hurriedly pulled out his phone and called the thug uncle. Too bad he forgot the first rule of a fight. You never turn your back on your enemy. Shen Jingjia blasted him with a punch and sent him back 2 meters. Shen Jingjia clenched his jaw in rage. He'd even lost 2 front teeth. He scrambled up and reached with his left hand. Then he yanked a 4-centimeter knife from his pocket. Brandishing it, he sneered, "Kid, you want me to carve up your face today?" After that, Shen Jingjia rushed in with the knife. Shen Jingjia had no choice but to keep backing up. While retreating, he felt himself bump into something. When he turned, a burning fist slammed right into him. Song Jingjia was trying to push through the pain and go help, but Shen Jingjia swung the knife toward him too. "Stay where you are or this blade won't miss." On the other side, Zhang Jishong had just gotten back up, when the thug uncle was already set to strike. With a loud hit, Zhang Jishong managed to block most of it with his arm, but the blow still rattled his head and blurred his vision. The thug uncle sneered, so they raised a tiger, but it's only a cat. "Kid, today you're done." Then he laughed again. "You grabbed me and now what?" Zhang Jishong squeezed with all his strength and shouted, "Crushing potatoes." Nothing happened, leaving the uncle confused. Then he quickly raised his left fist and landed 2 more punches, mocking him. "Crushing potatoes? Can you crush anything?" But suddenly Zhang Jishong drove his legs into the ground, making the thug uncle think he was crazy, as Zhang Jishong leaped into the air. Then he came down with his attack aimed straight at the man's ribs. The hit made the thug uncle spit out saliva. Right after that came Zhang Jishong's iron grip again. But then the thug uncle gave a nasty smile. He suddenly threw Zhang Jishong aside, and a low rumble sounded from outside. That made him tense up, thinking the police had arrived. So the thug uncle ran. At the same time, Uncle Shu and Bald Uncle had reached the building. This time they were furious. "How dare you touch the heir of the Tiger Bear Gang? You're dead." Just before that, Zhang Jishong had been chasing the thug uncle with everything he had, but he didn't expect the man to have a car. Zhang Jishong grabbed the door handle hard, making the thug uncle break into sweat. Boss Firebear's son really was something else. Even so, the thug uncle kicked Zhang Jishong away. Meanwhile, Uncle Shu had just reached the door when he ran into Yellow Hair. Yellow Hair first thought the police had come to save them, But the second he saw Bald Uncle beside him, he froze in panic out of the wolf's den and straight into the tiger's mouth. Bald Uncle recognized him too, so he grabbed a little hair. Yellow hair had left. No matter how much he begged or struggled, Bald Uncle dragged him outside while Uncle Shu looked around. He spotted Shen Jiang Jishong group being pinned down by Jiang Jishong, so he asked where Jiang Jishong had gone. They pointed toward the back door and said he'd chased a thug who ran that way. The moment Uncle Shu heard thug, his eyes sharpened. He wondered if another gang had started making moves. He patted Song Zhongxi on the shoulder and told him to keep holding Shen Zhengjie a little longer. When Uncle Shu reached the back door, he found Jiang Jishong, but seeing the young master hurt made him furious. He rushed over, asking if he was hurt anywhere else, and whether the thug escaped by car. Jiang Jishong awkwardly explained that the one who hurt his face was the guy Song Zhongxi was holding. At once, Uncle Shu strode over and told Song Zhongxi to let him go. Song Zhongxi let go right away, and Shen Zhengji just looked confused. Then all he could do was watch Uncle Shu's spinning kick fly at him. With a huge bang, Shen Zhengji took the full hit. Uncle Shu launched him several meters like a soccer ball, smashing him into the wall so hard he stuck there, screaming. The two watching were stunned. Jishong, your uncle is brutal, but I like it. As for the other four, they were scared out of their minds. The next second, all four quietly dropped down and pretended to be dead. Uncle Shu grabbed Shen Zhengjie by the leg and looked at the others. Hey, you kids faking it, get up. They jumped to their feet immediately. Uncle Shu really was a thug in a suit, dragging Shen Zhengjie's face across the lee. Later, once they got everyone outside, the two police officers were stunned. What happened here? So these people are the attackers? Then a man stepped out of another car. You're really believing this thug Yang Zaisu? Now you're going after students too? Uncle Shu was just about to answer when Zhang Jieshong called out from behind. Officer Jin. Officer Jin turned in surprise. Isn't this Jieshong? What are you doing here? Then he saw his face. What happened to you? Don't tell me these guys did it. Zhang Jieshong nodded. Officer Jin smacked the green-robed man on the head. You brats dared to hit Jieshong. After that, he started taking all the attackers to the station. Uncle Shu then told Bald Uncle to call Scarface Uncle and have them each bring a car. As soon as he got the call, Scarface Uncle rushed over in his Benz. Young master, who did this to your face? I'll deal with them. But Zhang Jieshong waved him off and told Scarface Uncle to take Song Zhongshui back first, then come back for him, since he still had to wait for Li Yiji and Xu Zhen. Just as Zhang Jieshong pulled out his phone to call them, the two walked up from behind. Suddenly, Han Shuzhen threw her arms around Zhang Jieshong. Right away, she put on a pitiful face and said, Jieshong, hold me. I'm still shaking. Clinging to him, she said she'd been so scared and hated bad men, now because they were terrifying. Li Yiji was speechless. I'm the one who got hurt, so why is she the one crying? Xu Zhen kept crying and asked Zhang Jieshong to walk with her. She clearly thought he'd still spoil her like before and confidently looked at Li Yiji, saying she wanted 10 minutes alone with Zhang Jieshong. Li Yiji suddenly gave a sly smile. I'm not calm either, so let's all walk together. You don't mind, right? So the three of them headed down the old street. Then Xu Zheng slipped her hand into Zhang Jieshong's. Soon the two were sitting in a place they used to hang out. They laughed and talked like Li Jius wasn't even there. The truth was, Li Jius had come along to understand Zhang Jieshong better. After all, she saw herself as the woman who'd stand behind him one day. Meanwhile, Han Shuzhen kept trying to win Zhang Jieshong over. Jieshong, I didn't know your uncles were thugs. I just thought they looked scary. Zhang Jieshong gave an awkward smile. Is that so? Yeah, they do look kind of scary. Then Han Shuzhen went on. Jieshong, I really hate my father and bad men like Shen Zhengjie now. I won't date bad guys again. I want someone kind, someone like you. That made Zhang Jieshong's eyes widen. Then his face fell and he stayed quiet for a long time. Xu Zhen, I can't be a kind person anymore. I'm the heir of the Fire Bear gang. I tried so hard to change everything for you. I liked you for 10 years, and I really have changed. Xu Zhen gently leaned on his shoulder and whispered that if he had troubles, he could tell her. Zheng, isn't it enough to have me? I'll always stay by your side. But in that moment, Zhang Jieshong thought of everyone around him. The uncles who had cared for him all this time. Bald Uncle, Uncle Shu and his father's hopes for him. He also thought of Li Yizi, Song Zhongxi and the rest of his friends. That was when Zhang Jieshong finally understood he wasn't alone anymore. He had many people beside him and he was the heir to the Fire Bear gang, not some ordinary gang. But Han Shuzhen still didn't notice his change and kept saying this whole thing made her realize Zhang Jieshong was a good man. Jieshong, I like you. What do you think of me? I finally worked up the courage to confess, so why aren't you answering? Zhang Jieshong stood up and told her they'd talk another time, leaving Han Shuzhen stunned. As she watched him walk away, she cried out, Jieshong, do you hate me? I'm sorry I dated Shen Jingjie. I'll treat you well. We've been close for 10 years, so being together should be easy. Jieshong, I like you. I'll do my best, so please don't leave. You're not dating Li Yizi, are you? I'll treat you better than her. Zhang Jieshong suddenly stopped and turned back. Trying hard is really tiring. Han Shuzhen could only stand there and watch him go, never thinking he would reject her. Zhang Jieshong walked over to Li Yizi, who was waiting, and said, let's go to the police station together. Li Yizi happily got on her scooter and headed off. By then, two parents had already arrived at the station. They still had no clue who they'd messed with. Meanwhile, Shen Jingjie and his group started getting up, thinking they could leave. Uncle Shu immediately stopped them, saying they were suspected of driving without a license. Hearing that, Officer Jen got mad, driving without a license, but one of the parents stupidly cut in, saying Uncle Shu had no right to talk like that in a police station. If Uncle Shu hadn't held bald Uncle back, that man would have nearly killed him with a hammer. The parent even arrogantly asked Uncle Shu what gang he was from. Uncle Shu's eyes went cold. I'm Yang Jishong from the Firebear Gang. What? The Firebear Gang? Then this is easy. Do you know Big Brother Zhangxi?
Uncle Shu stopped arguing and yanked up the man's sleeve to check his arm.
There was nothing there. The lie fell apart, and the man instantly panicked. Uncle Shu asked if he wanted to step outside and talk. Shaking all over, he still stammered. You kid, what are you trying to do? I'm warning you, behave yourself or I'll call our boss. But he was already terrified and quickly backed down. No need, I'll behave. Right then, the loud mother caught on that this might turn bad for her son, so she and the others pressed Officer Jin, asking him to bring out the victim so they could settle it in private with an apology. Just then, Zhang Jishong and the other two arrived and answered together. They wanted no apology and no private talk. They listed the charges: group assault, violent attack, intentional injury, vehicle theft, and driving without a license. Hearing that, Zhang Jishong's group started to panic. Then the Firebear Gang's lawyer Zhang showed up at the station and said that if the claims were true, the case was simple. The 6 of them could be charged for stealing a vehicle and driving without a license under the relevant laws. Officer Jin was thrilled. He'd been thinking about how to properly deal with these punks. Even bald uncle finally smiled. Sure, their lives were basically ruined now. Hey, where did the car come from? Who stole it? And who was driving? That question made Shen Jingji panic. If he gave up that uncle, he was dead. The man had already told him to take the blame if they got caught. The threat kept echoing in his head, betray me and I'll kill you even if I have to chase you into prison. Then the yellow-haired guy beside him suddenly told the police it was Shen Jingji. At once, all his so-called brothers pointed at him too. Since they were already done for, they figured they might as well confess early and maybe get some money. So Shen Jingji admitted, I stole the car and I was the one driving. But Uncle Shu could tell right away he was lying. It had to be the thug the young master mentioned, the one who threatened him into silence. After that, Officer Jin called the 3 victims over to take their statements. Before they went in, Uncle Shu quietly told the young master to stick to the truth and say nothing extra. Once they got the instructions, Uncle Shu and Bald Uncle stepped outside to wait. They thought that even if other gangs knew about the young master's identity, they shouldn't have moved this fast. As much as they hated to admit it, the problem was probably coming from inside. Uncle Shu immediately called Scarface Uncle and told him to gather all the top members for an emergency meeting. Then he and Bald Uncle kept talking while they waited for the young master. Meanwhile, back in the station, Jiang Jishong and the other 2 finished giving their statements. Officer Jin personally walked them to the door. The uncles hurried over, bowed, and asked if the young master was tired after all that talking. Uncle Shu then said he would personally take Song Zhongji home because he had something to ask him, while the young master and Li Yiji could ride with Scarface Uncle. After that, Uncle Shu and the others left first. Scarface Uncle quickly opened the car door and invited the young master to take the front passenger seat, but Spiky Uncle immediately got nervous. He blurted out, Brother Tycoon, are you trying to ruin the young master's romance? I'm telling Brother Jingji. That made Scarface Uncle freeze. Then it hit him. The young master was all grown up and he'd completely missed it. The 2 exchanged sly smiles and turned to the pair. Young master, you 2 sit in the back. Relax. We're just scarecrows. Li Yuji instantly started daydreaming again, convinced the uncles were trying to set her up with Jixong. At a key moment, Spiky Uncle really delivered. He just handed Jing Jixong a perfect chance. As he drove, Spiky Uncle kept watching the 2 in the back. Then Jing Jixong asked Li Yuji if she wanted to ride his scooter back with him later. The 2 uncles jumped in again and said the pair looked great together. Jing Jixong covered his mouth shyly and told them to stop teasing and just drive. Li Jiji, though, was secretly thrilled and even more sure they were matchmaking. Then Spiky Uncle suddenly asked, Miss Yiji, what do you like about our young master? Even Scarface Uncle was shocked by how smooth that was. Jing Jishong went completely blank. Li Jiji was caught off guard too, but it only made her more certain. The uncles were helping her with Jishong. Soon they reached the spot where the scooter was parked. Before leaving, Spiky Uncle gave one last push. Young master, if you need the car, just call me. I'll wait for you. Then he added that if they didn't come back, he'd explain it properly to Big Brother before driving off. As the car pulled away with a roar, Jan Jixong gave an awkward smile and said the uncles were unreliable, but Li Yiji clearly disagreed. Then the 2 got on the scooter, and after putting on their helmets, Li Yiji shyly asked if he wanted to hold her waist. Red-faced, Jan Jixong wrapped his arms around her waist. Li Yiji's heart started racing so hard that the cut on her forehead started bleeding again. All excited, she sped up to 120 kilometers per hour, not even noticing the wound was still bleeding. But once they reached Jan Jixong's home, the bleeding finally stopped. Jan Jixong said he was glad she didn't need stitches. If her forehead had scarred, he would have felt really guilty. Li Yiji teased him, saying she'd been hit by rocks before and still didn't know who threw them, though they were thrown pretty hard. That made Jan Jixong tense up. He quickly apologized for that incident. Li Yiji laughed and said if he felt that bad, he should grant her one wish. After he agreed, she put on a serious face and told him to kneel and apologize. Without hesitation, Jan Jixong actually started to do it and asked if that was enough. Li Yiji panicked at once. She'd only been joking and never meant to waste her wish like that. He laughed and admitted he was joking too, calling her a bad girl for trying to use her wish so fast. Annoyed, Yiji punched him twice. A moment later, they sat on the steps and laughed together. Then Zhang Jixong told her sincerely that he'd learned a lot from her. He said she might be a little bad, but she was also kind. Li Yiji instantly slipped into romance mode, thinking he was confessing to her, so she slowly leaned in. But at the worst possible moment, Zhang Jixong ruined it by asking if she was mad. Now she really was mad. He had absolutely no clue. Jixong truly was born to be single. Just then, a little girl bumped into Li Yiji's knee. She looked down. It was Duan Duan, who immediately started scolding her. "How dare you yell at my brother? He's kind and weak. You may look pretty, but you're a bad devil, sister." Song Zhangxi, still limping nearby, could only look on helplessly. Duan had been crying and making a scene because she wanted to see Zhang Jixong. Then she tugged Song Zhangxi's arm and told him to hurry up and call that sister over so she could be hit back. Li Yiji instantly jumped on the scooter and sped off. Zhang Jixong just stared, stunned that she'd left that fast. Duan tugged his arm and asked if he was okay. After being yelled at and hit, couldn't he even hit her back? Zhang Jixong crouched down and told her he was fine and not to worry. But Duan kept staring at the injuries on his face. Then she hugged his leg and burst into tears. Her real brother complained that she'd never treated him this warmly, even though she was the one who insisted on coming. Then he added that he also had something important to tell him about the ignorant normal alliance. While Zhang Jixong talked with Song Zhongxi, Bald Uncle noticed Li Yiji speeding away. He got worried, wondering why the young master had let Miss Yiji leave like that. So the three uncles started discussing a dating plan for him. Spiky Uncle pointed out that Song Jixong seemed to have something to tell the young master, then asked Bald Uncle if he wanted to play with his little sister first. Bald Uncle nodded and said he'd go make some food. But just as Scarface Uncle was about to say something, Bald Uncle gave them a suspicious look and asked if either of them had ever played with a kid before. The next second, both uncles made very shady smiles. Bald Uncle got annoyed and smacked them both, telling them to stay back while he handled it. Still wearing a pink apron, Bald Uncle asked Duan, "Little one, want to play cooking with Uncle?" But Duan got scared, her eyes filling with tears. She grabbed her brother's leg, and even Zhang Zisheng looked exhausted. So Zhang Zisheng told Bald Uncle that Duan liked bears and asked if there were any bear toys in the house. That gave Bald Uncle an idea. He threw off the apron, grabbed his shirt, and with a few ripping sounds, tore it open to reveal the giant tattoo across his back. Upstairs, Scarface Uncle and Spiky Uncle were stunned. They were sure Duan would start crying. Zhang Zixong and Song Zhongxi were confused too. But Duan thought it was adorable. The two uncles could hardly believe it. Duan ran right over to touch it, amazed at how real the little bear looked. Bald Uncle grinned and asked, "Little one, want to cook with Bear Uncle?" Duan happily said yes. After Duan said goodbye and left, Song Zhongxi told Zhang Zishong he changed his mind. Even if they did nothing, those guys would come after them first. So instead of waiting around, they should make the first move. Zhang Zishong immediately understood. "So you want to fight them with me?" Just like that, the two formed their grip strength duo. Meanwhile, the other two were staring at the fresh bear cookies. A second later, they started dancing happily. That was when Uncle Shu walked in and saw them. His face darkened at once. He demanded to know why Bald Uncle was shirtless in front of a child. Bald Uncle panicked and tried to explain, but Uncle Shu had already clenched his fist, thinking he'd scared the kid. Like a true big brother, he didn't even wait for the full story. He just ordered Bald Uncle to stand still with his hands behind his back. Luckily, Duan hugged Uncle Shu's leg, leaving him completely confused. He said he'd teach this shameless uncle a lesson, then take Duan home. Bald Uncle quickly explained, "Big brother, this kid is Song Zhongxi's sister." Realizing she was the young master's friend, Uncle Shu eased up. He grabbed a bear cookie from the table and handed it to Duan, apologizing for killing the mood and offering her a cookie. Duan took it nicely and asked Uncle Shu not to hit Bear Uncle. Then Bald Uncle asked Duan why he was called Uncle while Tenyu was called Brother. Duan pointed at them, "Uncle, Bear Uncle." Then she smiled at Uncle Shu and asked if he had a little bear on his back too. The three started dancing again, and Uncle Shu sighed that they used to dance with the young master all the time. But when the two who had just come back saw them, they froze. "Uncles, what are you doing?" Uncle Shu and Bald Uncle turned around, clearly a little embarrassed. "Hee, young master, you're back." Then they laughed and said it had been a long time since he danced, so he should join them, since Duan loved it. Song Zhongxi asked if he really had to dance too. Of course. You don't want to make Duan sad, do you? And just like that, Duan got two brothers and two uncles to awkwardly dance with her. 3 hours later, the two uncles were out of breath, saying if the young master was happy, they were happy too. Song Zhongxi could only sigh, wondering what he had just done. Meanwhile, Zhang Zhejiang got up and said he would take Duan home first. Uncle Shu stopped Song Zhongxi and told him to come back after dropping Duan off. They needed a meeting about the young master. After Song Zhongxi settled his sister down, everyone gathered in the meeting room to talk about the thug who attacked Zhang Zhejiang. One uncle said the man who attacked him might be from their gang, and Zhang Zhejiang looked shocked. Then with a bang, Bald Uncle got excited and told the young master to think carefully. What did the thug look like? What was he wearing? And was there anything unusual? Scarface Uncle told him to settle down, slamming the table and yelling wouldn't help. Brother Qi Shang. After thinking it over, Zhang Zhejiang and Song Zhongxi said the thug had a huge scar on his face. A huge scar? Wait, Tycoon, was it you? Come on, Brother Qi Shang. That makes no sense. If that's how we're doing this, you and Big Brother have scars too. Uncle Shu quickly said his didn't count as a very large scar. Bald Uncle added that his was more like a cute scar. Then Zhang Zhejiang jumped up and said there was no way he wouldn't recognize his uncle. Tycoon, it wasn't that kind of scar, it was on the cheek. At once, all three uncles went silent, like they'd thought of the same person. That made Bald Uncle feel awful. He never expected the one who attacked the young master might be from inside the Firebear gang. Scarface Uncle angrily said it had to be someone from Brother Qi Huang's side. He asked if they should go settle it with them. Then, with a bang, Uncle Shu shut that down. He said they still weren't sure, so no one should talk like it was fact, and they shouldn't say things they couldn't take responsibility for. Got it? Scarface Uncle and Bald Uncle stood up and bowed, apologizing for getting too emotional and saying they'd listen. Then Uncle Shu said that was enough about the attacker. After that, he asked Bald Uncle to explain the Ignorant Normal Alliance to the young master. Bald Uncle started with how the Ignorant Normal Alliance began. Back then, 4 schools were against each other and fought all the time. Later, a legendary fighter brought all 4 together, and the 2 listened closely. That legendary fight king and the first leader of Ignorant Normal was me, Zhang Zhejiang. Both of them were shocked, so Uncle was the one who created the Ignorant Normal Alliance. Bald Uncle nodded and went on to say that it wasn't originally called the Ignorant Normal Alliance. That only made them more curious. Then Bald Uncle called Li Dubois right away. At the same time, Li Dubois was watching a show and whining that he was hungry. He grumbled, asking why Li Yishi still wasn't back yet. Just then, Li Yishi came home, but she looked down. She slammed the door and went straight to her room, and Li Dubois figured she was in one of her moods again. Same bad temper as always. Then the phone on the sofa rang. It was Brother Qi Shang. That made Li Dubois feel pretty flattered, wondering why Brother Qi Shang was calling so late. Bald Uncle told him to explain everything about the Ignorant Normal Alliance to Zhang Zhejiang. Li Dubois smiled right away, thinking this was a great chance. Meanwhile, back in her room, Li Yuji kept replaying her moments with Zhang Zhejiang. The more she thought about it, the more shy she got. She wondered why that jerk Zhang Zhejiang still hadn't contacted her. Just as she was about to send him a message, the door suddenly flew open, startling her. Behind her, Li Dubois asked if she wanted to be with Zhang Zhejiang. Li Yuji spun around and yelled, calling him crazy and demanding to know how he found out. Li Dubois laughed and said the news was already out, but first he needed paper and a pen. Li Yuji threw a pillow and smacked him right in the face. Li Dubois told her to calm down, then said he'd been ordered to explain the Ignorant Normal Alliance to Zhang Zhejiang. That meant he had to stay by Zhang Zhejiang's side. And if she knew all this too, after a quick spin in her head, she realized that meant she could stay with Zhang Zhejiang all the time and explain things to him one-on-one. Exactly. Li Dubois said, no wonder she was his sister. Her brain worked fast when it came to useless stuff. Right away, Li Yuji got fired up again and said the paper and pen were ready, so he needed to start explaining the Ignorant Normal Alliance now. But Li Dubois said he was hungry and had no energy, so she should make him instant noodles first. In a flash, Li Yuji dashed out like lightning. Li Dubois smirked, thinking that if Li Yuji and Zhang Zhejiang actually ended up dating and marrying, then he'd be the brother-in-law of the Firebear gang's boss. Life in the gang would be easy after that. Laughing to himself, he called himself a genius and vowed to make his sister the boss lady of the Firebear gang. Meanwhile, Bald Uncle had finished explaining the Ignorant Normal Alliance and also shared his past, how back when he was always fighting, he met someone who changed his life. That person was Uncle Shu, and after that Bald Uncle followed him into the Firebear gang. Zhang Zhejiang was stunned by that. He said the alliance was something Uncle built with great effort, and yet he had talked about disbanding it, so he was sorry. Bald Uncle, eyes full of tears, told him it was okay. If the alliance he made could help the young master grow, then it would be an honor. Seeing that, Uncle Shu said that was enough for today. He told Spiky Uncle to send the young master back to his room first, then take Zhang Zhejiang home. Once the 3 were gone, Uncle Shu's expression turned serious. He told the other 2 he had a good idea who attacked the young master, but digging deeper could make things worse than they thought. If a clash couldn't be avoided, they should move first. Then Uncle Shu called the person he had in mind. Meanwhile, at the Firebear gang's main distribution point, Li Shiwan was beating a subordinate for messing up. The man behind him shook in fear. Li Shiwan noticed and asked why he was trembling. Was he scared? That made the subordinate panic even more. It had been his mistake, but his big brother was taking the blame and getting beaten by the boss. As soon as he got back up, he bowed and shouted an apology. Li Yiwan still hit him hard anyway. Then he asked if the kid knew why he messed up, while someone else was the one getting beaten. The subordinate, still shaking, said that when a little brother makes a mistake, the big brother takes responsibility, then apologized to his big brother. After blowing out a stream of smoke, Li Shuwan told them to leave because he still had to clean up the aftermath. Later, the subordinate threw all the evidence into the sea. Looking out over the water, Li Shuwan said the cleanup was done and wondered how they would react. Then his phone buzzed in his pocket. Hello? Why are you calling me? Uncle Shu asked if he had time tomorrow. Li Shuwan mocked him, asking if Uncle Shu wasn't the one with no time, busy taking care of the young master. Hearing seagulls on the other end, Uncle Shu realized it really was Li Shuwan. He thought he was too late. Had Li Shuan already handled it? Li Shuan said little else, claimed he had something to do, and hung up. Uncle Su was so angry he almost crushed his phone. If they had already cleaned everything up, then even tearing Li Shuan's place apart wouldn't help him find that person. They had beaten him to it, and he couldn't attack them directly yet, so for now he could only keep watching. The next morning, Uncle Su held another meeting and told the subordinates the young master had been attacked by unknown people, and it could never happen again. Then he ordered Scarface Uncle, Bald Uncle, and Spiky Uncle to stay with the young master from now on. Zhang Jisheng felt something was off when he got up early. He asked Uncle Shu where the other uncles were, and Uncle Shu said he had sent them out for morning exercise. After hearing that, Zhang Jisheng said he was heading out first. As he walked outside and took in the fresh air, he kept feeling like a bad guy, so he swaggered towards school trying to look tough. He even made sure to spit, while the three uncles secretly followed close behind. One of them sighed that this silly kid still didn't even know how to spit right. Just then, Zhang Jisheng spotted someone familiar. After saying hi, they headed to school together, chatting and laughing. That made the three uncles sigh again. They said having even one real friend in life was already a kind of success. Then Zhang Jisheng and Song Zhongxi heard a familiar voice and turned toward it. Li Ji greeted them, calling out to Jisheng. Seeing their young master so close to Li Ji, the three uncles were thrilled. Their young master had not just a real friend, but maybe a girlfriend too. Zhang Jisheng also ran into classmate Zhang Yun. What started as one person soon grew into four. While Zhang Jisheng and Zhang Yun were talking excitedly, Zhang Yun accidentally bumped shoulders with a chunk snapped at Zhang Yun, glaring and barking, "Watch where you're going. You trying to die?" That made all four of them turn his way. Li Jisheng quietly told Zhang Jisheng that he was from Ignorant Normal. She thought his name was Li Yu Yanyuan. The guy got mad right away. Not Yu Yanyuan, Yuan Yi. He had no clue Zhang Jisheng was already getting angry. Then Zhang Jisheng suddenly held out his hand, smiling like he was happy to meet him. That totally threw the guy off. He said, "So you're Zhang Jisheng? I came with a message. You know Pu Mingjun from Chang'an School, right? He wants to talk, so come with me." Zhang Jisheng agreed, then started to ask while the guy reached out too, acting friendly and saying it was nice to meet him. The second their hands locked, Zhang Jisheng gave a small smile. Seeing that creepy grin while his hand was still being held, Liu Yanyi got uneasy. In the next instant, Zhang Jisheng's eyes went cold, and he clamped down hard on the guy's hand. He asked why Pu Mingjun sent him instead of coming himself. If he really had something to say, Li Yiji and the other two just whistled and acted like they noticed nothing. Then Zhang Jisheng cut it short and said Pu Mingjun should come speak to him in person. A few sharp cracking sounds followed. Li Yuyi was in so much pain that spit flew from his mouth. Zhang Jisheng warned him to tell the ignorant normal punks this too. If they kept hanging around their school gate, he'd deal with everyone he saw. Through the pain, Li Yuyi begged him to just go talk to Pu Mingjun himself. Instead, Zhang Jisheng squeezed even harder. Li Yuji let out another scream. Still, Zhang Jisheng felt he might have a point, so he told him to lead the way. But Li Yuji, staring at Zhang Jisheng's nasty expression, was full of fear and hate. When Zhang Jisheng reached down to help him up, Li Yuji thought he was about to get hurt again, and hurriedly said he'd take him there, just please don't grab him. Then Zhang Jisheng turned to Li Yuji and the others. "You heard him. I'm going to Chang'an School." Li Yuji immediately objected to him going alone. She told him to at least take Song Zhongshu with him. Then Zhang Yun told everyone to calm down and said they should exchange phone numbers first. The other three instantly realized that was smart, and Li Yuji tapped his arm, praising him for thinking ahead. But while they were all talking, Li Yuji suddenly decided this was his chance to run. Zhang Jisheng noticed it once and shouted for him to stop. Li Yuanyi ignored him and only ran harder. Zhang Jisheng took off after him, yelling, "Hey wait, I didn't give you my number yet." Li Yuanyi sprinted like crazy and finally realized what a real scumbag looked like. But Zhang Jisheng had no plans to let him escape and kept right on his heels. The chase ended in an alley where three guys were trying to corner Shangzhu. Li Yuanyi felt relieved when he saw them. Thankfully, his two buddies were still there. But those two were busy collecting protection money, and one of them asked why his hand looked like an octopus. Panicking, Li Yujia said Zhang Jisheng was a maniac and told them to call Pu Mingjun fast. Meanwhile, Shangju spotted Zhang Jisheng and thought he came to save him. Excited, he shouted for Zhang Jisheng to beat them up. Zhang Jisheng didn't bother asking questions and just told Shangju to get out first. That made Shangju puff up with pride. He laughed and told the others to move aside because Zhang Jisheng was his friend. The blonde guy got ready to fight, and Zhang Jisheng raised his guard too, while Shangju kept yelling from behind for him to finish them. Then whoosh, the blonde guy bragged he could drop Zhang Jisheng in 3 seconds. But when he threw his punch, Zhang Jisheng slipped past it. Grinding his teeth, Zhang Jisheng loaded power into his right hand. Smack, his uppercut crashed into the guy's chin, hitting so hard the blonde guy's eyes rolled white. The other two started shaking, stunned that the useless guy hit that hard. Hiding off to the side, Shangju was thrilled and mocked them. Just then Li Yiji and the other two reached the alley, and Shangju turned to tell them Zhang Jisheng had the upper hand. Hearing that, Li Yiji looked ready to slam him into the dirt. Hiding was one thing, but grinning like an idiot too. On the other side, the blonde guy spat out blood, staggered up, and claimed the hit only landed because he wasn't ready. Then he called his brothers to jump in together. Zhang Zhishang just laughed and told all three to come at once. He still had school to get to. Watching a 3-on-1, Song Zhangxi said that was unfair. He handed his bag to Zhang Yun, walked into the alley, and told Zhang Zhishang to wrap it up quick. The blonde guy's group froze when they saw Song Zhangxi. Two of them blurted out that bringing Song Zhangxi was cheating. They had transferred schools just to get away from him. The black-haired guy could only pray Pu Mingjun would show up fast. The blonde one thought the same. They needed to stall until Pu Mingjun got there. Li Yizhi was already tired of waiting and was about to call her brother to deal with them. Then a motorcycle rumbled in from the street. It was Pu Mingjun from the Ignorant Normal Alliance. After parking his bike, he casually took off his helmet and said he had wondered why they weren't answering their phones. Now he saw something fun was going on. He said he only told them to deliver a message, so why had they started fighting? Then he called out, Zhang Zhishang, Song Zhangxi, let's talk. His three lackeys figured Zhang Zhishang and Song Zhangxi were finished now, but the two boys only gave him a glance. Meanwhile, the two classmates watching him stay so calm started sweating, wondering how strong he really was. Pu Mingjun, overflowing with confidence, thought he had everything under control. He went over to greet Li Yizhi, only to get a cold glare. Still smiling, he asked Zhang Zhishang and Song Zhangxi if they could at least greet him nicely. Song Zhangxi shot him a hard look and told him to just say whatever he came to say. Pu Mingjun confidently replied that he wasn't here to fight, he just wanted to talk, so they should let his friends go first. His three subordinates were shocked, never expecting their boss to back down like that. Zhang Zhishang answered right away that he could talk after dealing with them first. Li Yizhi was almost touched by that line. As Pu Mingjun kept insisting he never sent them there to fight, Zhang Zhishang started moving in to punch him, but Song Zhangxi quickly stopped him. He told Zhang Zhishang to wait and hear him out first. Then Pu Mingjun asked everyone besides Zhang Zhishang and Song Zhangxi to step back, because what he had to say was important. Li Yizhi and the others looked ready to go smack him, while Pu Mingjun's three men refused to leave, saying he'd be outnumbered 2-1. Pu Mingjun frowned and reminded them he called them to pass along a message, not start a fight. Keeping them there would only get in his way, so he ordered them back to school. The three finally left. After Li Yizhi and the others had also walked off, Zhang Yun worriedly asked if Zhang Zhishang would be okay, and whether they should go back. Zhang Zhu answered that Zhang Zhishang was the son of the Firebear gang boss, so there was nothing to worry about. That annoyed Li Yizhi. She snapped that he'd been whining non-stop from the start, and it was getting on her nerves. Zhang Zhu fired back, asking why she kept picking on him. Did she think he was easy to bully? Then he challenged her. Could she even beat him one-on-one? That instantly set Li Yizhi off. She exploded, saying she was going to beat him to death today. Back in the alley, Pu Mingjun got straight to the point and said he wanted to join forces with Zhang Zhishang and Song Zhangxi. Both of them looked at him with suspicion. They asked why he would turn on the Ignorant Normal Alliance and what he expected to gain from teaming up. Song Zhangxi thought it over and realized working with Pu Mingjun could help them handle the other two schools. Pu Mingjun then said that if they agreed, he would tell them everything. Song Zhangxi answered that they needed time to think about it, so Pu Mingjun left first and told them to give him an answer soon. Right after he was gone, Zhang Zhishang asked Song Zhangxi why he agreed so easily. He planned to crush all of them. Song Zhangxi replied that if they wanted to beat them faster and easier, they had to think about what worked best for them. Before leaving, Pu Mingjun told Zhang Zhishang to calm down. If he got worked up this easily, how was he supposed to handle the Ignorant Normal Alliance? That only made Zhang Zhishang madder, and he instantly said he'd still beat Pu Mingjun up. Even if they teamed up, he was definitely going to punch him. Pu Mingjun replied that if they joined forces, he wouldn't mind taking the beating. Then he quickly ran off. That left Zhang Zhishang even more annoyed. He said he didn't like the guy and didn't get why they should work with him. Song Zhangxi told him to head to school first. He'd explain on the way. Pu Mingjun would definitely be useful. As they walked, Zhang Zhishang asked one more thing. Could he still beat Pu Mingjun up later? Song Zhangxi said yes. So the two talked all the way back to school, where the mood felt completely different. The hallway had been loud before, but the second they showed up, everyone moved aside and the place went silent. Once the students cleared out, they noticed a new notice posted on the board. It listed the punishment for Shen Jingjia and his group, which shocked them. Zhang Zhishang hadn't expected everything to get settled so quickly. As Shen Jingjia's crew got punished, stories about the two boys spread fast through the school. People whispered that Zhang Zhishang was now the boss of their school, and that he was the Firebear gang boss's son. The moment they stepped into class, they heard everyone talking about them, and just like that, Zhang Zhishang somehow became the boss of the second years at Jilan School. The rumor didn't stop there. Soon the leaders of the four schools also heard that Zhang Zhishang planned to take down the Ignorant Normal Alliance. The rumor kept spreading, even reaching places Zhang Zhishang never wanted it to. Even after Shen Jingzhou's group was gone, the classroom still felt tense and icy. Zhang Zhishang said he probably saw this coming. To everyone else, he was just replacing one person they feared and hated with another. That made him pause. Had he really become someone people feared and disliked? Song Zhangxi told him it wasn't easy to wreck his image that fast, but this was also the result Zhang Zhishang had wanted. He added that whether people kept fearing him would depend on what he did next. As for himself, he was already used to it. Still, Zhang Zhishang remembered that Song Zhangxi had never really bullied anyone, even though people always saw him that way. While he was still thinking, Li Yuji grabbed his arm and told him to stop standing around and sit down. She had something important to share. Zhang Zisheng was confused at first, wondering why Yezi was sitting there, but one look at Zhang Yun waving made him get it. Then Li Yezi got to the point. Li Dubo asked her to pass along information about the Ignorant Normal Alliance. She added that if he sat next to her and listened carefully, he'd learn all of this much faster. As Zhang Zisheng reached for a chair, she pulled out the Ignorant Normal Death Note and began with Park Mingjun from Chang'an School. She walked him through each person's traits, starting with Park Mingjun's group from Chang'an School. First was the school's second strongest fighter, Jin Zhonghui, a guy known as a total mad dog. Then she moved on to the leader. According to her, his build was about on par with Song Zhongshi's, and he called himself Chang'an's hero. Hearing hero, Zhang Zisheng figured the guy must read way too many comics. Li Yezi went on and warned him to watch out for Park Mingjun most of all, because he'd already taken over the third years before finishing his first semester as a first year. She also said Park Mingjun trained in Taekwondo and had an official rank with kicks as his main weapon. In other words, he wouldn't be easy for Zhang Zisheng to beat, so she had even prepared ways to deal with kicking attacks. While the two got deeper into the talk, the students nearby could barely hide their jealousy. Shangju cursed under his breath, annoyed that Li Yezi was still clinging to his friend Zhang Zisheng. After hearing everything Zhang Zisheng said, he already had an idea which guy he should target first. Li Yezi was happy she could actually help him. Then she smiled and declared, "From today on, I'm your teacher, so let's celebrate with stir-fried rice cakes." Zhang Zisheng patted his chest and insisted he would be the one treating her. After that, they happily kept going over the bosses from the other schools. Then the classroom door opened, and Han Shuzhen walked in. Zhang Zisheng was caught off guard by her sudden appearance. At the same time, Han Shuzhen looked toward Li Yezi and started to speak, only to be met by Li Yezi's faint smile. In that instant, regret hit her like she had really lost Zhang Zisheng. She turned to leave, then seemed to remember something and leaned over to whisper in a classmate's ear. Right then, the teacher came in and told everyone to get back to their seats. Han Shuzhen brushed past the teacher on her way out, leaving him totally confused. All of a sudden, Zhang Zisheng shot to his feet and called her name. With a dark look on his face, he pushed the door open and ran after her. Just as he was about to stop her, Han Zisheng suddenly halted, like she'd expected him to follow. She turned back and asked pitifully how miserable he wanted her to become. After that, she walked away again like she was trying to pull him in by acting distant. As she left, she muttered that Zisheng had really changed and that he'd promised she was the only one. Zhang Zisheng came back to class looking troubled, barely hearing anything Li Yezi was saying. He kept thinking about how he'd tried to become a bad guy just so Han Zisheng would like him, and now she was calling him a liar. In his head he snapped, he'd turned bad for Suzhen, but not anymore. Then he bitterly thought, "Women." A moment later, the bell rang. Ligiji quietly asked Zixang if he was feeling down and said they could skip the rice cakes if he wanted. But Zhang Zixang quickly said he was fine and told everyone to go eat. Ligiji didn't press him, figuring spicy food might help him blow off some stress. Then Zhang Zixang suddenly stood up and shouted, "Buddies, let's all go get stir-fried rice cakes, my treat." Ligiji froze, because she thought he was only inviting her. The two useless classmates instantly jumped in, saying that if Zixang was paying, they had to go. Song Joon-shi could only sigh and wonder if those guys had no sense at all. Even Zhang Yun seemed to realize maybe they really shouldn't tag along. Then both Song Joon-shi and Zhang Yun turned to look at Ligiji. Keeping calm, she asked why they were staring and told everyone to go together, laughing it off. The scene then shifts to the restaurant. Song Joon-shi and the other four at one table, while Zhang Zixang and Ligiji sat at another, talking and laughing. In the middle of that, Zhang Zixang's phone rang. It was Uncle Shu, telling him to come home early. Once they finished eating, everyone said their goodbyes outside. Ligiji said she was full too, and suggested they keep studying. Zhang Zixang scratched his head and told her he had to head home. His uncle had asked him to get back early today. Hearing that, Ligiji felt crushed because she'd hoped to spend time alone with him. She kept telling herself to stay calm and not rush things. Then Zhang Zixang said he'd go home first and call her tonight. That instantly made Ligiji feel like she'd hit the jackpot. Tonight? Were they really meeting again? Where? Seeing her reaction, Zhang Zixang awkwardly said that if going out was hard, they could just find a quiet study room. Ligiji immediately said that wasn't needed. Her house was basically as quiet as a study room, and he could even meditate there. With a playful smile, Zhang Zixang agreed and said he'd call her later that night. After that, they said goodbye and promised to see each other again soon. The second he left, Ligiji went full fangirl, furiously tapping on her phone and sending messages to who knows who. Meanwhile, Li Dubo and Daxian were talking about Shen Jingji getting expelled. Daxian guessed the others would probably be suspended too, or made to do community service. Then he asked what Li Dubo planned to do next, now that Shen Jingji's group was finished. Li Dubo said he wanted to back Zhang Zixang, figuring that helping him was the same as helping his future brother-in-law. Daishan heard that and said he also agreed with supporting Zhang Zixang. Grinning, Li Dubo then said he was about to start a sister-in-law plan, which left Daishan totally lost. Before he could explain, Li Dubo's phone buzzed. He looked down and muttered that he had just been talking about her. It was a message from Ligiji telling him to come home late and warning that if he showed up early he was dead. That made Li Dubo mad. He cursed his sister and said if it weren't for the sister-in-law plan, he would have beaten her up a long time ago. Meanwhile, Zhang Zixang got home and saw a car parked outside. He guessed his father had come and wondered what he wanted this time. The moment he stepped into the living room, he could feel the awkward silence. Whenever Father Jiang visited, the whole house went quiet. As soon as he saw him, Father Jiang proudly said he'd heard his son Jiang Zichong had not only taken over the whole second year, but also fought 7 people at once, proof he was improving fast. Jiang Zichong explained that he hadn't fought alone, his friend Jiang Shi had helped too. Father Jiang brushed that off and said the important thing was that his son had finally started fighting just like he used to when he was young. He bragged that none of their people could beat 7 opponents at once and walk away without a scratch like Jiang Zichong. Uncle Shu and Uncle Shiwan chimed in, saying they were like that in their younger days too. Scar Uncle and Bald Uncle said the same thing, and even the underlings joined in. Father Jiang took a drag from his cigarette and went on, saying like father, like son, Jiang Zichong really was Jiang Hongguo's son. He proudly told him he was finally making his father happy. Then Father Jiang turned to Li Shiwan and told him to bring over the gift. Li Shiwan handed it over right away. Father Jiang gave it to his son and said it was a present from him. Jiang Zichong took it and asked what was inside. His father just laughed and told him to open it. As the box clicked open, Jiang Zichong froze. Inside was a dagger, something he never expected his father to give him. When he pulled it from the sheath, he was even more shocked. His own name was engraved on the blade. Father Jiang bashfully explained that he'd asked the best craftsman in the country to make it 2 years ago, and was happy he could finally put his son's name on it. Jiang Zichong started sweating and admitted he didn't think he'd ever need something like that. Then a camera clicked. Father Jiang told him not to move and asked him to hold the knife up beside his face again. Another photo snapped. While checking his phone, Father Jiang said he could finally use a picture of his son as his profile image. Nearby, Bald Uncle and Uncle Shu looked pleased, saying the young master was finally on the right path. Bald Uncle even whispered that this must mean they could confirm him as the heir. But Li Shiwen shot both of them an angry look. Inside, Li Shiwen fumed that while he'd been out doing the dirty work, these two had it easy, babysitting the young master, and he swore he'd deal with them later. Father Jiang kept going and said he now had only one hope for his son. Keep rising past the 2nd years, then the 3rd years, and aim for the whole country. Maybe even the whole world. Jiang Zichong was stunned by that huge goal, but still said he'd keep trying. Father Jiang then said the gift had been delivered, so he would head out. Before leaving, he told Jiang Zichong was in his care now. Uncle Shu quickly answered that there was nothing to worry about. On his way out, Li Shiwen slammed his shoulder into Uncle Shu and told him to move. He silently seethed, thinking Jiang Zichong looked way too pleased and promising not to let him off. Then Li Shiwen bowed to Jiang Zichong and said, "Young master, I'm heading out. Take care." The door slammed, and the men called out for the boss to stay safe on the way. After Father Jiang left, Uncle Shu turned to him with one question. Was the man with the scar on his cheek really Li Shiwen? Jiang Zishang said no. Right away, he knew Uncle Shiwen well. The scar was on the other side. As soon as Father Jiang got in the car, he let out another long sigh. At last, that knife was in Zishang's hands. He'd waited a long time for this and finally felt a little at ease about the heir issue. Li Shiwen then asked if he wanted to contact his other sons. After a pause, Father Jiang said no. Zishang still needed to grow, and the murderous look in his eyes still wasn't enough. Li Shiwen hesitated. Then he answered, "Understood, boss," while thinking that at this rate, Yang Zeju would end up above him. His last plan to get rid of the young master had failed. He didn't hate the boy, but he couldn't stand watching Yang Zeju rise without trouble. So he pulled up his contacts and texted someone named Huang Daqiuang. About what I mentioned before, start getting ready. A cruel smile crossed his face. If the young master had to blame anyone, it should be that useless Yang Zeju. Elsewhere, Li Ji was busy cleaning her floor, excited because Zishang was coming over and she didn't want him seeing the place messy. She hurried to finish cleaning and planned to tidy up her room too. Then someone knocked at the front door. Li Dubo barged in and told her their brother was back, then demanded a bowl of instant noodles. Li Yuji shot him an angry look. She told him not to come back and called him a terrible brother. Taking off his coat, Li Dubo brushed her off and told her to stop talking and make the noodles. Instead, she flipped him off and snapped that Zhang was coming soon, so he needed to leave. That made Li Dubo freeze. He turned around, staring at her in shock. When he asked what she'd said, Li Yuji repeated that Zishang was coming over. That was why she was cleaning so much. And as for noodles, she'd already washed all the bowls. Li Dubo instantly changed his tune and offered to help clean, thinking this was the perfect chance to push the sister-in-law plan. Before Li Dubo instantly could answer, he had already thrown on gloves and started asking when his future brother-in-law, no, Jiang Zishang, would arrive. She said he'd contact her in about 2 hours. Li Dubo grinned. That was more than enough time. He immediately went all out cleaning the house. He worked so fast and hard it was clear he was fully committed to the sister-in-law plan. Li Shiwen could only stare. And before long, Li Dubo had the whole house spotless. He dropped onto the sofa, exhausted and pale, but still wore a faint smile. A second later, he sprang back up, reminding himself he couldn't rest yet. He needed to disappear fast. But Li Shiwen said Shishang still hadn't called, and she'd make noodles for her brother first. Then right on cue, Shishang called. Even while she answered, Li Dubo was still asking her to cook the noodles a little longer, but she told him he could leave now. He forced out a smile, clenched his teeth, and told himself to endure it. Then Li Dubo left in defeat while Li Jizi spoke softly with Jiang Zishang on the phone. At the door, he stopped and glanced back, thinking her voice had completely changed. but as her brother, he supported this. For his bright future, she had to make it work. Before long, Jiang Shishang arrived at her door. The second he rang the bell, Li Yiji rushed out to meet him. She told him to rest in her room first, but Jiang Shishang looked at the desk and said it seemed too small. He suggested using the bed instead, since it had more space. Li Yiji instantly started stammering, asking what they were going to do on the bed. Seeing her reaction, Jiang Shishang asked if it was too soft to work there, and said they could just use the living room. That made Li Yiji drift into wild thoughts again. Was their relationship moving that fast? She quickly pulled out the ignorant normal alliance notes. Then she suggested they start talking about the school's third-year students today, and even said they could lie down first. But Jiang Shishang simply sat on the floor and told her to begin. So that was it. They weren't lying down together at all. Disappointed, Li Yiji started wondering if she'd lost her charm. But she still got to work explaining everything to Jiang Shishang. She started with Zhao and Hao, who ranked second among the third years and led a small gang. Since Jiang Shishang had taken over the second years, Zhao and Hao would definitely try to pull him into his group. She also asked what he planned to do after becoming boss of Xiaolan School. Maybe target Magic Array School first, since it had the fewest students and its boss Tao Yuan Zhao was the weakest. Jiang Shishang nodded, said he'd follow her advice, and decided to stop there for the day. After walking him to the door, Li Ji shyly asked if he wanted her to give him a ride back on her scooter. He turned her down again and said he could get back on his own. That made her want to hit him. Still, she smiled and said okay, reminding herself that Jiang Shishang was just painfully dense. Only now did Li Yiji realize how hard this man would be to win over. At the same time, Jiang Shishang was thinking about going to school tomorrow to settle the ranking issue. Thanks to Li Yiji, he already had a clear plan in mind. Just as he was thinking about making his father proud, Bald Uncle was waiting outside the door. The shine from Bald Uncle's head under the light was so strong that Jiang Shishang could barely keep his eyes open. That glow was seriously blinding. Having snuck out, Jiang Shishang immediately got nervous. Bald Uncle told him seriously that if he went out at a time like this, he needed to inform them first. Jiang Shishang explained that he'd gone to ask Li Yiji about the ignorant normal alliance, and Bald Uncle then asked if the girl he met had been dressed like that, leaving Jiang Shishang confused. Bald Uncle said that if he was going to meet a girl, he had to tell him beforehand. Showing up in those clothes was too disrespectful. Then both of them gave sly smiles, and Bald Uncle said Jiang Shishang clearly needed his help picking outfits. The second he heard that, Jiang Shishang stiffened. Bald Uncle's fashion choices were unforgettable. Still, early the next morning, Jiang Shishang headed out with a small bag, dressed in one of Bald Uncle's signature outfits. The men were already at the entrance, shouting for the young master to stay safe on the way. After all that training, Jiang Shishang finally looked like a man with real presence. Meanwhile, on the basketball court, Zhao Enhao was shooting hoops. Thud. 2 followers clapped and praised his shot. This was Zhao Enhao, the second-ranked third year at Xiaolan School. He was waiting for Zhang Zhixang to show up, but Zhang Zhixang was still on the way, practicing how to spit. That odd scene happened to be spotted by the passing strategist, Song Zhongxi, who asked how long he planned to keep walking around like that. Zhixang, though, felt strangely proud of his progress. Song Zhongxi cut in and told him to look around while he was busy practicing. Students from their school were all watching. When Zhang Zhixang turned back, everyone nearby was whispering about them. People called him disgusting for spitting so much, and others said they'd heard he beat up Shen Jingzhou's gang. The two kept straight faces as Song Zhixang asked how it felt to become a villain. Zhixang suddenly burst out laughing. If his image was already ruined, then this only helped, so he told Zhang Zhixang to come on. The two of them swaggered toward the classroom when a yellow-haired guy rushed over and said someone was looking for them. He pointed toward the basketball court, so the pair headed straight there. Waiting for them, Zhao and Hao smugly welcomed Zhang Zhixang to his territory. Zhixang fired back that the school didn't have his turf or my turf. That set off Zhao and Hao's 2 lackeys, who angrily said they'd take him down. Zhao and Hao told him he was being way too hostile. He'd called him over to offer advice, but since Zhixang wanted to be rude, he'd respond the same way. Outside the court, 5 guys were already talking about which side they should back. Up on the rooftop, Li Dubo and Daxian were also watching the show. Li Dubo asked whether Zhang Zhixang would actually join Zhao and Hao. Daxian answered right away. No chance. A tiger would never become a dog's underling. Back at the court, Zhao and Hao kept provoking Zhang Zhixang, saying he still didn't understand the situation. Then Zhixang and Song Zhongxi glanced back and saw those 5 guys surrounding them. Zhixang shouted that anyone who dared interfere would get beaten. Zhao and Hao immediately ordered the others to jump Zhang Zhixang, but the 5 guys ignored him completely. Shocked, Zhao and Hao and his 2 followers yelled at them to stop standing around and attack. The yellow-haired guy told him not to boss them around. If he moved first, then they'd follow. That angered Zhao and Hao so much he nearly ground his teeth apart. So both boys stepped forward and started a one-on-one fight. Zhao and Hao quickly hurled the basketball. As soon as Zhang Zhixang caught it, Zhao and Hao leaped in and drove his fist straight at him. Bam! Zhixang took a hard punch to the face. The 2 lackeys were thrilled. On a basketball court, they believed Enhao was unbeatable. Zhao Enhao grabbed the ball again, dribbled, and taunted Zhixang, asking if he still wanted to continue. Zhixang didn't answer. He charged forward, knowing he had to close the gap fast. But Zhao Enhao tossed the ball again, and Zhixong got hit one more time. Zhao Enhao's hands were too quick, and Zhang Zhixong ate another heavy punch. That only made Zhao Enhao more confident. Feeling pleased with himself, Zhang Zhixong got back up and wiped the blood from his nose. Zhao Enhao got even cockier, mocking him and asking where all that attitude went. His two lackeys were sure the fight was over, and Enhao spun the ball like he had already won. Then Zhao Enhao rushed in with the basketball, but suddenly cut the other way, leaving Zhang Zhixong confused. Then he yelled, "Blind pass," and fired the ball at him again. It slammed into Zhang Zhixong, and Enhao followed with another punch. "How's that feel, Zhang?" Zhang Zhixong kept backing up, but he still didn't go down. Then he stopped. "Zhang Enhao, do you want to die standing or lying down?" The next second, Zhang Zhixong squeezed with all his strength and crushed the basketball. Zhang Enhao and the other three froze in shock. They couldn't believe Zhang Zhixong had crushed it. Even Song Jiangxi broke out in a cold sweat. Right then, Zhang Zhixong gave off pure pressure. A real tough guy didn't need many words. He strode straight toward Zhang Enhao. His eyes darkened. "Now it's my turn. You're dead." Zhang Enhao instantly lost his nerve and blurted out that he surrendered. Even then, Zhang Enhao still planned a sneak attack, but he never expected Zhang Zhixong to shove the basketball onto his head. Zhang Zhixong took a breath and raised his right fist. Bam! Then asked if his head was ringing. Just as Zhang Enhao was about to drop, Zhang Zhixong grabbed his head again and asked, "Zhang Enhao, what's in front of you? Answer me. What do you see?" Zhang Enhao mumbled that all he saw was darkness. Zhang Zhixong told him, "That's your future." And no matter how much Zhang Enhao begged, Zhang Zhixong clapped his head hard with both hands, then slapped him once, then twice more, then 3 times, then 4 more. After that, he went into high-speed dribbling. Once Zhang got brutal, he was on a whole different level. He beat Zhang Enhao until his face was so swollen even his mom might not know him. The lackeys were terrified, glad they hadn't jumped in, otherwise they'd be suffering right beside him. Just then, Zhang Enhao's right and left-hand men suddenly rushed forward. Zhang Jiangxi stepped in and blocked them. "Hey, what are you doing? Stay where you are." The fat yellow-haired guy was furious, but since he couldn't get past Zhang Jiangxi, he could only watch his boss get wrecked. Then Zhang Zhixong turned around and asked who else wanted to fight. That nearly scared them to death, and all 5 quickly said they weren't fighting. "Brother Zhang, we're out." Seeing that, Zhang Zhixong picked up his small bag and said they made the right choice. Since they all went to the same school, he'd deal with them last. As the two started to leave, someone called out to them. The yellow-haired guy bowed right away. He said he knew Zhang Zhixong wanted to take down the ignorant normal alliance, and he wanted to help him in Song Zhongxi. Everyone else was stunned. This guy joined Zhang Zhixong without even asking them first. Once they saw the tide had turned, the others bowed too and said they were willing to follow Brother Zhang. Zhang Zhixong then asked Song Zhongxi if they should accept them. After thinking it over, Song Zhongxi figured the two of them alone really might have a hard time. So after a short talk, they decided to take them in for now. "Don't think helping us beat the ignorant normal alliance means I won't settle things with you later. Still, since you're here to help, let's shake hands." The yellow-haired guy quickly agreed and reached his hand out. His friend panicked and yelled for him to stop, saying one handshake could break his bones. That scared the yellow-haired guy so much, he almost pulled his hand back. He thought a handshake would definitely wreck his hand, but Zhang Zhixong was clearly offering peace, and if he followed Zhang Zhixong, he could help bring down the ignorant normal alliance. So he decided to risk it and shakily grabbed Zhang Zhixong's hand, sweat pouring down his face. Zhang Zhixong smiled and said he'd already warned him, he really was fearless. "Take care of me from now on." The yellow-haired guy was overwhelmed. Zhang Zhixong's generosity was on another level. The others around them were stunned too, saying he really dared to shake Zhang Zhixong's hand. Then they rushed to do the same, asking to be taken care of. Only after that did Zhang Zhixong leave the court. Zhang Zhixong watched in admiration. Turning enemies into allies was a seriously smart move. With vision like that, Zhang Zhixong could definitely become a major underworld figure. On the way back, the two talked about gathering everyone fast and planning how to crush the ignorant normal alliance. Meanwhile, on the rooftop, Daxian and Li Dubo were waiting for Zhang Zhixong to come up. Daxian worriedly asked why Li Dubo had called him there when Zhang Zhixong was his junior. Li Dubo told him not to worry, they just had something private to discuss, and Daxian should leave first. As he walked off, Daxian told him to take it easy and not start a real fight. Right after that, Li Dubo sent an excited message to Zhang Zhixong. The show was about to begin. Zhang Zhixong frowned when he saw it. Zhang Zhixong asked what was wrong, and Zhang Zhixong said Senior Dubo was calling him to the rooftop alone. "Can you handle it by yourself?" Zhang Zhixong confidently said there was no problem. He told Zhang Zhixong confidently said there was no problem. Then Zhang Zhixong headed upstairs with total confidence. He thought to himself that if he dealt with Li Dubo, his spot as boss would be locked in. He opened the door and greeted Li Dubo. Li Dubo smiled and praised him, saying he could really fight and that beating Zhao Enhao was impressive. Zhang Zhixong thanked him politely. Then Li Dubo got serious and said he wanted to talk about the ignorant normal alliance. Zhang Zhixong gave a small nod and said he knew. He added that he and Li Dubo were already figuring out how to take it down. Li Dubo teased him for still using her full name, saying Zhixong sounded much closer. Awkward. Zhang Jishong told him to get to the point. Li Dubo said he was the boss of the ignorant normal alliance, so if Zhang Jishong destroyed it, he'd lose all his pride. Then he suggested a win-win deal. Why not knock him down and take over as the boss of Jilanhai directly? Zhang Jishong replied that if beating Li Dubo would help him take down the alliance, then he wouldn't hold back. Li Dubo quickly waved that off and said no way, he couldn't actually fight him. He explained that he'd already promised Senior Jishong he'd help make him the boss, and after that he'd be allowed into the Fire Bear gang, so he'd just pretend to lose and tell the whole school that Zhang Jishong had won. That rubbed Zhang Jishong the wrong way, and he asked if Li Dubo thought he could beat him. Li Dubo just smiled and said he probably wouldn't lose. Zhang Jishong said, that won't work. I don't hit people who won't fight back. Li Dubo grinned. I knew you'd say that. Time for plan B. Zhang Jishong raised his guard and asked what he was doing. Then Li Dubo punched himself in the face. Stunned, Zhang Jishong asked if he was okay. Li Dubo kept hitting himself and said if Zhang Jishong wouldn't do it, he'd do it himself. He threw punch after punch at his own face. At last, once his nose started bleeding, he said that was enough. It looked miserable enough already. Zhang Jishong was speechless. This was completely insane. Then Li Dubo shouted that Zhang Jishong had won and was now the new boss of Jilin High School. Zhang Jishong just stood there confused. He won without even fighting. Then Li Dubo seemed to remember something. He suddenly bowed a full 90 degrees and said, please take care of me from now on. Zhang Jishong was totally lost. After saying that, Li Dubo turned to leave, but Zhang Jishong quickly stopped him and asked if he really didn't care that the ignorant normal alliance was falling apart. Li Dubo looked back and said he was a Firebearer gang member now. Then he left by himself, leaving Zhang Jishong alone. Zhang Jishong took a deep breath and said, there was no turning back now. He was the new boss of Jilin High School. Meanwhile, Zhao Hao still had a basketball jammed over his head. His underlings panicked, yelling to get it off fast before someone died. They yanked the ball off and revealed Zhao Hao's swollen, bald, pig-like face. His men cried out, asking how he ended up like that. Had Zhang Jishong beaten him bald? Even his ears were puffed up like dumplings. Hugging his shaking body, Zhao Hao said Zhang Jishong was just too strong. At the same time, the school hall exploded with excitement. Li Dubo showed up with a bruised face and instantly set everyone off. He pretended to yell in frustration that he'd actually lost the fight. As everyone started guessing who could have beaten Jilin Hai's boss, Li Dubo was secretly thrilled. Perfect. All eyes were on him. So he shouted that the world's #1 Li Dubo had lost to Zhang Jishong. The hallway went silent for a second, then blew up in shock. Li Dubo lost to Zhang Jishong? Did that mean the school's new boss was second-year Zhang Jishong? The students went crazy, pulling out their phones and spreading the news everywhere. Second-year Zhang Jishong had beaten Li Dubo. In the alley, Yongzhen saw the message and cursed. He urgently shouted that they were finished. Brother Dubo had lost to Zhang Jishong. Mingjun only smiled and said Zhang Jishong was finally making his move. At the same time, Zhang Jishong's name blew up and the rumor spread fast to nearby schools. Even the red-haired guy at Wuzhen High was shocked to see that Li Dubo had been beaten by Zhang Jishong. Students at Wuzhen High got the news too and ran to tell Yuan Shao. But even after hearing it, Yuan Shao calmly kept chanting sutras and told them not to run around in such a sacred place. On the rooftop, Zhang Jishong's friend Zhang Yun saw all this and admired him even more. He remembered how a few days earlier, underworld uncles had escorted Zhang Jishong to school. Scarface uncle had been worried Zhang Jishong might get into trouble there, and while they were stressing over it, they spotted Zhang Yun coming their way. They clicked with him right away and figured all they needed was a spy in the young master's class. So the uncles stopped Zhang Yun and asked him for a favor. From that point on, Zhang Yun became their informant, regularly reporting on Zhang Jishong. While sending those updates, he thought it felt a little wrong. But since they were Jishong's family, it was probably fine. Elsewhere, Bald Uncle was lifting weights when he got the message and lit up with joy. He rushed over to Yang Zai-shu, yelling that something big had happened. After hearing it, Yang Zai-shu got excited too and called Father Zhang right away. The moment Father Zhang heard, he burst out laughing. Then he proudly declared, "That's my son." Meanwhile, Zhang Jishong came back from the rooftop and strode through the hall. The students stood aside in respect, already treating him like the new boss of the school. They even split into two lines to clear a path for him. Zhang Jishong thought it still felt strange, but he really was the boss now. Even so, he reminded himself to stay focused on his real goal. At the same time, Li Yiji was still asleep at home when a phone call woke her up, and she answered in a bad mood. The caller told her Li Dubo had apparently been beaten by Zhang Jishong. That snapped her awake. Wide-eyed, she blurted out that her brother had fought Zhang Jishong. She jumped up in a panic. Li Dubo was supposed to help her get closer to Zhang Jishong. So what was he doing now? She quickly grabbed her phone and called Li Dubo to demand an explanation. He answered casually, saying he was eating ramen in front of the school. That only made her madder. He was eating ramen at a time like this. Li Dubo just asked why she was suddenly freaking out. Li Yiji was furious. He was ruining her whole love life, and in her mind he was dead. She stormed to the school and found him eating ramen. "Li Dubo," she shouted. He turned and casually greeted her, even asking if she came by bike. But the second she saw his face, she froze and asked if Zhang Jishong had done that to him. Li Dubo scratched his head and admitted it. Zhang Jishong was strong and he lost. She urgently asked if Zhang Jishong was badly hurt too. Surely he got hit back. Li Dubo vaguely said he landed a few hits too, but the main thing was that Zhang Jisheng had become the school boss. Right after that, Li Ji punched him. She snapped that he was totally useless. Then she threw the motorcycle keys at his face and told him to ride home. Without waiting, she ran toward the classroom, full of worry. If her brother looked this bad, she figured Zhang Jisheng had to be even worse. The more she thought about it, the more scared she got. What if he was seriously hurt? Meanwhile, the very person she was worried about was in the bathroom washing his face and deciding not to tell his family about becoming boss just yet. First, he wanted to settle on his plan before reporting it to them. Looking at his torn uniform, Zhang Jisheng let out a sigh. That fight had wrecked it. He tossed the ripped sleeve aside, clenched his fists, and told himself that from now on he was Jilin High School's boss. As he left the bathroom, he spotted Li Yiji running and called out to stop her. Hearing him, she stopped and turned around. The moment she saw Zhang Jisheng, her eyes turned red with tears. Confused, he asked why she was rushing around when class had already started. Li Yiji couldn't hold it in anymore, and tears spilled down her face. Panicking, Zhang Jisheng hurried to apologize, asking why she was crying and saying it was his fault. Instead of answering, Li Yiji threw herself into his arms, leaving him completely stunned. Through sobs, she told him she'd been terrified he was badly hurt, and she was so relieved he was okay. She hugged him tight and cried, while the helpless Zhang Jisheng could only stand there and keep apologizing. Li Yiji finally told him to stop apologizing. Right now, he just needed to hold her. Nervously stammering, Zhang Jisheng said he understood and would hold her. So the two embraced tightly. The mood between them turned awkward, but clearly romantic too. By the time they got back to class, both had calmed down and both felt awkward. Li Yiji kept sneaking looks at Zhang Jisheng, internally screaming over how bold she'd been. Zhang Jisheng also kept glancing at her, and before long their eyes met. They both instantly looked away, each thinking the same thing. This was way too awkward. Even the classmates nearby were confused about what was going on with them. Then Zhang Jisheng's phone suddenly buzzed. He checked it and saw the message was from Han Shuzhen. He stood up at once and left the classroom. On the way to the gate, Zhang Jisheng wondered why Shuzhen was contacting him now. At the school gate, he saw Han Shuzhen and quickly went over. Forcing a smile despite the injuries on her face, she greeted him and said it had been a long time. Zhang Jisheng immediately asked what happened, noticing she looked nothing like before. Her expression fell as she said a lot of bad things had happened these past few days. He gently told Jisheng that if she was in trouble, she could tell him. That made Han Jisheng burst into tears as she admitted her dad was sick. The doctor had said he might only have another month. Shocked, Zhang Jisheng said her father was sick and told her to calm down and explain slowly. Not far away, Daxin was the first to notice Zhang Jisheng. Beside him, Li Dubo asked if that was the young master and who he was talking to. Daxin quietly wondered if they were watching a breakup or a confession. Li Dubo stared with gritted teeth. He got annoyed fast. This girl dared to compete with his sister for him. Meanwhile, Zhang Jisheng kept comforting Han Shuzhen and asked if she felt a little better now. She wiped her tears, nodded, and thanked him. Then she told him he really was a kind person. Inside, Zhang Jisheng was losing it. Even now, she still thought he was kind. He patted his chest and said he had just become the school boss, and he was also the heir of an underworld family. He was super bad. Han Juzhan didn't take that seriously and just suggested they talk while they walked. As they moved, Zhang Jisheng asked if she hadn't cut ties with her dad. Han Juzhan said she had, and only found out because the hospital contacted her. Still, knowing her dad was about to die, she couldn't just stop caring. Zhang Jisheng gently told her that was natural. He was still her father. Grateful. Han Juzhan thanked him and said he was still as gentle as ever. Then she added that it would be nice if he'd be her boyfriend. Stunned, Zhang Jisheng asked if Shen Jingzhou wasn't her boyfriend. With a bitter smile, Han Jisheng said Jingzhou had already gone to prison. She stepped closer and earnestly asked if Zhang Jisheng would say yes. Just then a motorcycle sped over. After stopping, Park Mingjun called out when he recognized Zhang Jisheng. He took off his helmet and laughed, saying he came to see him. Then he praised him for becoming the school boss, saying he really had a good eye. Zhang Jiesheng replied that he was busy right now and they could talk another day. Park Mingjun cheerfully agreed, but asked for his phone number first. He handed over his phone so Zhang Jiesheng could save it. Then he asked if the beautiful girl next to him was his girlfriend. Zhang Jiesheng and Han Shuzhen both answered at the same time. They were just friends. After that, Zhang Jiesheng gave the phone back and told him to hurry up and leave. Park Mingjun ignored that and asked Han Shuzhen for her name. A little helplessly, she told him. Park Mingjun instantly got excited and said she was exactly his ideal type. If she didn't have a boyfriend, would she consider him? That move stunned both of them. Park Mingjun kept going and asked if she could give him her number. Han Shuzhen got even more flustered, while Zhang Jiesheng clenched his teeth. When no one answered, Park Mingjun awkwardly said it was fine if she didn't want to. He knew he'd cause trouble. Han Shuzhen quickly shook her head and said he hadn't bothered her at all. His eyes lit up and he held out his phone again, saying they could get to know each other starting today. But Zhang Jiesheng suddenly grabbed the hand holding the phone, warning through clenched teeth that he should be able to see Zhuzhen was uncomfortable. Park Mingjun just smiled and told him to calm down. He was only being bold because he liked her at first sight. Hearing that, Zhang Jiesheng tightened his grip even more. Park Mingjun winced and told him to let go, saying he'd already apologized. but Zhang Jiaxiang kept squeezing and refused to release him. That finally made Park Mingjun angry. He warned that he didn't want to fight, but his temper wasn't great either. If Zhang Jiaxiang didn't let go in 3 seconds, he'd treat it as a challenge. Park Mingjun started counting down, but Zhang Jiaxiang didn't move at all. When Park Mingjun had enough, he threw a kick straight at Zhang Jiaxiang. Han Shuzhen panicked and shouted for them to stop. She didn't want them fighting because of her. Only then did Zhang Jiaxiang let go. Both of them awkwardly apologized to her for making her watch that. Zhang Jiaxiang apologized to Park Mingjun too. Park Mingjun waved it off and apologized as well, admitting he'd been too forward and made her uncomfortable. Then he said goodbye to Zhang Jiaxiang. As he put his helmet back on, he suddenly remembered to congratulate him and said he'd throw a celebration party. Surprised, Zhang Jiaxiang immediately asked if that party would involve alcohol. He was clearly getting nervous, but Park Mingjun suddenly changed the subject and asked if he really couldn't get Xu Zhen's contact info. Zhang Jiaxiang's expression changed on the spot and he looked ready to fight again. Park Mingjun got scared and quickly said he was joking, asking why he was so mad. Then he hurried off on his motorcycle. As they watched him leave, both of them let out a breath of relief. Han Shuzhen then turned to Zhang Jiaxiang and said what he told her earlier was true. He really had become the boss. He spread his hands and said, of course it was true. Why would he lie about something like that? Han Shuzhen sighed and said Zhang Jiaxiang had really changed a lot. Hearing that, he asked if he had, then said he'd change even more in the future because he had goals beyond just her. Biting her lip, Han Shuzhen said, okay, he could do what he wanted. Still, she sounded a little hurt as she admitted it. Made her sad to hear he had other goals besides her. Then she asked if he could walk her home today. Unable to refuse, Zhang Jixiang said sure. Before long, they reached Han Shuzhen's front door. Zhang Jixiang smiled and said they hadn't talked in so long, so the walk felt fast. Han Shuzhen sighed that after 10 years of friendship, they still had endless things to say, which felt amazing. Then she turned to him with serious eyes and reminded him he still hadn't answered her question. Zhang Jixiang hesitated and couldn't answer. Gathering her courage, Han Shuzhen said that just as he had liked her for 10 years, maybe she could keep liking him for 10 years too. When Zhang Jixiang stayed silent, Han Shuzhen kept pressing him, so even that isn't allowed. He finally answered that holding on to feelings that way would only wear her out, so she shouldn't treat it so simply. Hurt, Han Shuzhen said she had worked up so much courage, and he still wouldn't even let her like him on her own. Then she added that if he kept avoiding her like this, there was no point. Zhang Jixiang held back his anger and told her feelings aren't something to joke about. That left Han Shuzhen speechless, her brows tightening. Seeing her reaction, Zhang Jixiang decided to leave before this dragged on any longer. But Han Shuzhen quickly caught his hand. Jixiang, if you walk away now, what am I supposed to do? In a cold voice, he told her to go back and get some rest first. She looked crushed and asked how he could be this cold to her. This wasn't the Jixiang she knew. When she called him a jerk, Zhang Jixiang gave a bitter reply. If that's what she thinks, then he got what he wanted. He had heard her say she liked bad guys, so he pushed himself to become one. But once he changed, she changed too, and said she liked the old kind version of him. So now, he said he wanted to take back the feelings he once gave her. That hit Han Shuzhen so hard she dropped to her knees. She begged him not to go. Zhang Jixiang shut his eyes and told her he has other goals now. Crying, Han Shuzhen said no. His goal could only ever be her. She said she was exhausted and begged him to stay with her tonight. Zhang Jixiang refused right away. He apologized softly and told her to let go. At that point, Han Shuzhen looked completely broken, tears pouring nonstop. In the end, she released the hand she was holding, Zhang Jixiang's arm. Still kneeling there, she watched him leave without turning back once. Then she cried out, asking if he wanted her to stop making him feel guilty. If so, she'd make him come confess to her himself one day. Not far away, Park Mingjun and Li Dubo had already watched the whole thing. Li Dubo said this was the only way Zhang Jixiang could be worthy of becoming his brother-in-law. Elsewhere, Park Mingjun went back to the alley. He showed everyone his twisted wrist and said Zhang Jixiang's grip was like a monster's. Good thing they didn't really fight, and he even needed to thank Xu Zhen for that. His guys gathered around asking why he had suddenly gone to Jilin High School. Yang Jian noticed the injury and asked what happened to his hand. The bearded guy stared at it and blurted out, "Don't tell me Zhang Jixiang beat you too." Park Mingjun explained that yes, Zhang Jixiang did this, but he hadn't actually been beaten by him. Yang Jian got mad and said this obviously counted as getting beaten, so they should go get revenge now. Park Mingjun stopped them. No need, he actually wanted to team up with Zhang Jixiang and wipe out the ignorant normal alliance. The guy with glasses looked confused. Mingjun usually never does anything unless it helps him. The bearded guy guessed maybe Zhang Jixiang had threatened him. Yang Jian pushed harder and told him to be honest about why he wanted this alliance. Park Mingjun got to his feet with a smile and said they'd understand once they met Zhang Jixiang. Yang Jian grew more annoyed and told him to quit acting mysterious and just say it. Park Mingjun said Zhang Jixiang was different. He had real presence and he was a good person. Yang Jian lit a cigarette and scoffed, saying he was just arrogant because of his gang background. Park Mingjun said he also wanted to throw Zhang Jixiang a party for becoming Zilan High School's boss. Yang Jian was baffled. Why should they help throw him a celebration? The guy with glasses thought it over and said working with Zilan really might be enough to crush the alliance. Park Mingjun got excited and said he knew they'd see it his way. but Yang Jian still objected, saying he could accept joining forces to beat the alliance, but not throwing Zhang Zishang a party. To him, that looked like they were bowing their heads first. Park Mingjun tried to calm him down, saying the party wasn't surrender, it was just a way to build a better connection. Besides, Zhang Zishang was the son of the Firebear gang boss. Yang Jian sneered that whether it was firebears or stray dogs, he didn't care. With that, he said he was out. Park Mingjun tried to stop him, but Yang Jian walked off anyway. He had barely gone a few steps when two girls came toward them. They were the two girls everyone treated like goddesses. Yang Jian panicked inside. If he'd known Xian was coming, he never would have said that. Xian asked what they wanted to see them about. Park Mingjun eagerly explained that they were planning a party and wanted to invite them. Xian asked who the party was for before she decided anything. Park Mingjun proudly said it was a celebration for Zilan's new boss, Zhang Zishang. Kui Yinhei froze in shock and asked if they'd already met Zhang Zishang. Xian pulled out a cigarette and said it looked like the man worthy of her had finally appeared. In the end, both of them agreed to come, and Park Mingjun was thrilled. This party was going to be very interesting. Meanwhile, Zhang Zishang kept walking on. He told himself not to look back and not to go soft again. He also realized Park Mingjun's kick had almost caught him off guard. That made one thing clear. He needed Li Yiji's special training and had to get back to school fast. At the school gate, he ran into Li Debo. Li Debo greeted him with, "You're back, young master." Zhang Zishang awkwardly asked what he was doing, because that title made him really uncomfortable. Li Debo answered seriously that he'd serve him for life from now on, so he had to start with the right way of addressing him. Zhang Zishang helplessly asked him not to call him that at school. Li Debo agreed at once and said he'd call him Zhang Zishang there. Relieved, Zhang Zishang asked why he had been waiting for him. Li Debo got straight to it. He asked Zixang if he had a girlfriend. Getting that question from another guy made Zhang Zixang jump, but he still answered no. After hearing that, Li Debo grabbed Zhang Zixang's arm and asked what he thought of Yiji. Caught off guard, Zhang Zixang said Li Yiji was great and a very good friend. Li Debo immediately started praising her, saying Yiji was an amazing girl with even more good points than Zixang knew. Then he made him repeat it. Yiji is a great girl. Zhang Zixang awkwardly echoed him. She's a great girl. Only then did Li Debo look satisfied and leave, telling him not to forget it. Zhang Zixang was left totally confused, wondering what that had been about. He gave up trying to figure it out and headed back to class. In the classroom, Li Debo was upset, thinking about Han Shujian. What was Zhang Zixang doing with Han Shujian, and why wasn't he back yet? Then Zhang Zixang finally came in. Li Debo instantly looked up and glared at him. The stare made him uneasy. He pulled over a chair, sat down, and asked what was wrong. In a cold tone, Li Debo demanded to know where he'd gone. Flustered, Zhang Zixang said something came up that he had to handle. Li Debo pressed him again. Where exactly had he gone, or did he not want to tell her? She turned away, saying if he didn't want to say it, then forget it. Looking at her side profile, Zhang Zixang suddenly thought, was Li Yiji always this pretty? Carefully, Zhang Zixang asked if he'd done something wrong and apologized. Li Yiji let out a helpless sigh. Why was he apologizing again? Zhang Zixang said what he was about to say might sound a little weird. That only made Li Yiji more annoyed. Was he seriously about to apologize again? Instead, Zhang Zixang told her she looked really beautiful today. Li Yiji froze, eyes wide. Then she stood up in shock and asked if he had really called her beautiful. Zhang Zixang nodded and said yes, he meant it. At that moment, the homeroom teacher finally lost it and burst out in anger, ordering Li Yiji to stand in the back. Before going, Li Yiji told Zhang Zixang he'd better explain everything clearly later. Then she stood up, secretly delighted. Even while being punished, Li Yiji felt shy and hopeful. Maybe she really had a chance to be his girlfriend now. Was that basically a confession? At last, the bell rang. Li Yiji was excited to go ask Zhang Zixang what he meant, but the homeroom teacher suddenly showed up and told her to come to the office. Reluctantly, Li Yiji asked if she could go later. The teacher got angry and ordered her to come immediately. Zhang Zixang also told her to go with the teacher first, so Li Yiji had no choice but to listen. After she left, Zhang Yun came over and asked Zhang Zixang, hadn't he liked Zhu Zhen for 10 years? So what was going on now? In a heavy voice, Zhang Zixang told Zhang Yun not to talk about Xu Zhen anymore from now on. Zhang Yun quickly realized it and asked if he'd just gone to see Xu Zhen. Bitterly, Zhang Zixang said he'd explain after sorting out his thoughts. Zhang Yun suggested playing games when you're upset, and asked if he wanted to hit a PC cafe after class. That immediately brightened Zhang Zixang's mood, and he agreed. But then Zhang Yun hesitated, remembering he had English class later. So he suggested asking Li Yiji instead, since her game rank was really high. Zhang Zishan was shocked. She was that good? Meanwhile, in the office, the homeroom teacher sternly warned Li Yiji not to cause trouble in class again. Li Yiji obediently answered, okay. The teacher was so surprised he asked why she wasn't talking back. Smiling, Li Yiji said there was no reason for her to argue with him. The other teachers were stunned. Li Yiji actually hadn't talked back. Since she was being unusually obedient, the homeroom teacher let her return. Li Yiji left the office thrilled, realizing that staying quiet had gotten her released right away. Excited, she said her own name again, Li Yiji, the girl Zhang Zishang honestly called beautiful. She rushed back to the classroom with a pose she'd carefully prepared and called out, Zhang Zishang, Zhang Zishang walked right up to her and said he'd been waiting for her. Her heart started racing, and she thought he was about to kiss her. So Li Yizhi shyly puckered her lips and waited. But the kiss never came. She instantly started cursing at him, only to find out Zhang Zishang was praising her gaming skills. Li Yizhi just stood there, totally confused. Zhang Zishang kept flattering her, saying she was amazing and begging her to carry him in-game. Embarrassed, Li Yizhi said she wasn't that good. He pushed back right away. No, she was seriously incredible. He added that Li Yizhi was good at so many things. Blushing, she said she hadn't played much lately, but if she got serious, she'd rank up fast. Zhang Zishang immediately bowed 90 degrees and begged her to teach him her tricks. Li Yizhi said if she had to teach him how to handle the ignorant normal alliance and also teach him gaming, if I'm teaching you games, shouldn't I get something for it? Zhang Zishang agreed right away. Sure, I'll ask uncle to pay you properly. Li Yizhi shook her head. No payment, just grant me one wish. Excited, Zhang Zishang grabbed her hand and said that was easy. Then he called out to the class asking who wanted to go to the internet cafe. A bunch of classmates shot their hands up saying they had enough for a full team of 5, then Song Zhongxi walked over and smacked them all on the head. Even so, Zhang Zishang cluelessly invited Song Zhongxi too, asking if he wanted to come. So Zhang Zishang got hit as well. In the end, it was just Zhang Zishang and Li Yizhi going to the internet cafe. Once the game started, Zhang Zishang died again. He looked at Li Yizhi and said, Ziyi, you're seriously amazing. Li Yizhi could only sigh. You got killed by minions, and you're still grinning. Zhang Zishang hurriedly apologized. He blamed the enemies for being too strong and asked for one more serious try. A little later, he died again. Zhang Zishang looked completely stuck. Seeing that, Li Yizhi stood up and started guiding him patiently. She leaned in beside him and reached for the mouse, getting ready to show him directly. The moment their hands touched, both of them started blushing. They quickly pulled apart, embarrassed, trying to act normal. Li Yizhi told him to start by slowly practicing last hits on minions. Just then 2 thugs came over and spotted Li Yizhi. They were Song Renhao and Jin Zongmin. Both of them walked up to talk to her. Jin Zongmin noticed Zhang Zishang next to her and asked if that was her boyfriend. Li Yizhi got nervous and quickly denied it. With a greasy grin, Song Renhao said a pretty girl like her should be with someone like him. Jin Zongmin backed him up, saying those two looked much better together. Song Renhao then glared at Zhang Zishang and mocked him for staying glued to his chair. He warned that Zhang Zishang clearly didn't know who he was. Zhang Zishang just asked, confused, "Who are you?" Jin Zongmin sneered, calling himself Fire Bear Gang's ace. Jin Zongmin. Zhang Zishang blankly said he didn't know that, then took out his phone to call Bald Uncle and have them come over. Song Renhao immediately shouted at him to hang up. Zhang Zishang calmly ended the call. Song Renhao, still angry, said that if he was hanging up, he should at least greet them properly. Jin Zongmin raised his fist and warned that when you greet your elders, you stand up or you get beaten. So Zhang Zishang stood and faced them. "I'm standing now." That shocked Jin Zongmin. Sitting down, Zhang Zishang hadn't looked that intimidating. His broad shoulders alone were enough to make them uneasy. His thick arms looked packed with strength, and with the scar on his cheek and that cold stare, he was downright scary. Jin Zongmin forced himself to speak, asking if a student from Jilin High School like him could fight. Zhang Zishang calmly asked why that even mattered to him. Out of nowhere, Jin Zongmin invited him to quit school and join their truancy clan. He said guys like them can recognize their own kind. According to him, Zhang Zishang had the same vibe they did. But right after that, someone grabbed Jin Zongmin by the hair and yanked him back hard. He struggled and cursed, but his head was forced back as he cried out in pain. Bald Uncle loomed over him and asked what kind of vibe he was getting from him, calling him a little punk. Then he threatened to rip his scalp off if he didn't answer. Panicking, Jin Zongmin called to Song Renhao for help. Song Renhao was shaking too hard to move and said, "Look over there, how am I supposed to help?" Across from him stood 4 gang uncles, all giving off a crushing presence. Jin Zongmin turned and nearly lost it when he saw them. One uncle snapped, asking how trash like him dared call himself Fire Bear Gang's ace. He even threatened to gouge his eyes out on the spot. Song Renhao panicked and asked who they even were. Zhang Zishang slowly walked over and asked if these two were part of their people. Bald Uncle respectfully answered that Fire Bear Gang didn't have trash like them. Hearing both Young Master and Fire Bear Gang, the 2 thugs were terrified. Smiling, Bald Uncle told the Young Master they'd handle the punks while he got back to his date. Zhang Zishang awkwardly scratched his head and said it wasn't a date. Bald Uncle just dragged Jin Zongmin away by the hair and said they were all going to his place for a little talk. After they left, Zhang Zishang finally let out a long breath. They were gone. Then he turned to Li Yizhi and said they could keep playing. Not long later, the uncles reached the Truancy clan's secret base. They started by slapping Jin Zongmin, then grabbed his face hard. Spiky Uncle raised his hand and demanded to know who was backing him, but Jin Zongmin said he didn't know. Spiky Uncle coldly replied that not knowing wasn't acceptable. He'd still get beaten. Then he brought both palms down hard, smashing Jin Zongmin's face out of shape. Song Renhao was so scared he peed himself. Under his breath, he said they should just tell the truth. They were dead either way. Scarface Uncle caught that and asked what he was mumbling, saying he definitely knew something. Song Renhao cried that he really didn't know anything. Scarface Uncle didn't buy it and slapped him right away. He said if they gave useful info, they'd be spared. If they knew nothing, then they'd be finished. That made Song Renhao immediately yell that he could give them intel. Jin Zongmin desperately tried to stop him, saying he absolutely couldn't talk. Spiky Uncle snapped at the fatso to stop opening his mouth so wide before his jaw popped out. Then, as soon as he said it, he grabbed Jin Zongmin's jaw and dislocated it. Even then, Jin Zongmin still refused to talk. Seeing that, Spiky Uncle drove a heavy punch into his jaw. Jin Zongmin blacked out instantly and dropped to the floor. Terrified, Song Renhao quickly handed over a business card with shaking hands. Scarface Uncle took it, and his face turned serious when he read the name. He passed it to Bald Uncle at once and said he needed to see it himself. Bald Uncle looked at the card and shouted in shock, "Yin Chiu." There was no one by that name in the organization. He stared at Song Renhao and asked if he was with the Truancy clan. Startled, Song Renhao said yes. Bald Uncle crushed the card and demanded to know how many members were in the clan total. Song Renhao swallowed hard and answered that there were 5. Anger showed on Bald Uncle's face as he said he needed to check the other 3 identities one by one. Then Bald Uncle gathered everyone and said they had something important to discuss. This Yin Shan Yu had to be the one pretending to be Fire Bear Gang. They needed to catch all of them. Everyone answered together, ready to do it. Just then, footsteps sounded outside. The remaining Truancy clan members had followed them there. The uncles were already waiting in ambush. As soon as Blue Hair stepped in, they attacked and took him down instantly. Then 2 girls came over too. Bald Uncle hadn't expected girls to be in the Truancy clan, so he told the hidden uncles not to jump them. He wanted to talk first. The 2 girls stepped inside and Bald Uncle came out smiling, politely asking if they wanted to chat. He even added a wink to seem less scary. It didn't help at all. The girls were terrified. They turned around and ran for the door. The other uncles rushed after them, not wanting them to get away. Bald Uncle got mad and complained that they actually ignored his wink. Then he kicked the captured Blue Hair and told him to get up because he had some questions. If he didn't answer honestly, he was done. Soon the uncles chasing the girls came back, saying the girls escaped by yelling that they were perverts in front of people outside. Still, one of them dropped a slipper and they picked it up. Since they couldn't catch the girls, they had no choice but to squeeze the truth out of these 2. Bald Uncle walked over with the slipper and ordered them all to kneel in a row. The 3 knelt side by side, trembling. Bald Uncle stood in front of them with the slipper and told them not to make a sound. Then he started lashing their faces with it as hard as he could. Seeing that, Blue Hair asked if they'd protect them if he talked about Yin Kan Yu. Bald Uncle agreed right away and told him to speak. Blue Hair said they'd actually never seen Yin Kan Yu's real face either. The person who gave them the cards was Senior Park Woo-jang. He told them he could get them into Fire Bear Gang. Bald Uncle stared at him, asking if he was sure Park Woo-jang was really from Fire Bear Gang. Blue Hair said yes. Park Woo-jang claimed Yin Kan Yu was his senior in the gang too. Bald Uncle pressed further, asking what school Park Woo-jang went to. Blue Hair hesitated, then answered Woojin's school. Right away, Bald Uncle told him to hand over Park Woo-jang's contact info. Blue Hair quickly said he could do that. Bald Uncle ordered Jin Ho to search his phone, and Spiky Uncle soon found it, saying he had it. Bald Uncle pulled out some money and told him good work. Use it to buy a new phone. Then he set the money down and told Blue Hair to change his number after leaving. They were keeping the phone and SIM. Bald Uncle was sure that with the phone and the slipper, he could track down the fake and whoever attacked the young master. Then Scarface Uncle suddenly said Brother Zayshu was calling and they had to go now. Bald Uncle nodded and told Spiky Uncle to stay behind. He then remembered something and handed a hair clipper to Spiky Uncle. Jin Ho took it with a nasty grin and said he'd make good use of it. After finishing his instructions, Bald Uncle left with the others. That left only Spiky Uncle and the 3 Truancy clan members behind. Jin Ho switched on the clipper and stared at them coldly, a cruel smile spreading across his face. Meanwhile, Zhang Jixong and Li Jihee had finished training, and Zhang Jixong had improved a lot. So Li Jihee said the next step was figuring out the best way to beat Park Minjun. Zhang Jixong agreed at once, saying he'd wanted to teach him a lesson for a while. Then Li Jihee suddenly asked if besides games he had any other hobbies. Zhang Jixong blinked and asked if she meant what else he liked. Li Jihee said yes, interests and things like that. She added that she loved cooking. Zhang Jixong lowered his head and quietly repeated, interests, dreams. He thought back and realized his favorite things had been giving the uncle's shoulder and back massages, cleaning trash off the streets, and helping old people cross the street. Small good deeds he could actually do. He kept doing good deeds because he wanted to be a truly good person. But if you asked what his dream was now, he'd say he wanted to take over from his dad. No, not just take over. He wanted to surpass him and become the strongest boss in Fire Bear Gang history. Noticing something was off, Li Jihee asked, Jixong, are you okay? Zhang Jixong answered boldly, my dream is to become Fire Bear Gang's boss. That hit Li Jihee hard, and her heart started racing. She blushed and fidgeted, mumbling, what is this? Acting all cool all of a sudden, Zhang Jixong scratched his head and gave a goofy smile. Really? I don't think I'm cool. A little shy. Li Jihee quietly asked if she'd helped him at all with that dream. He nodded right away. Of course, you've helped me a ton. The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was all thanks to her, and he sincerely thanked her. Just then, Zhang Jixong got a call. After he hung up, he looked at Li Jihee seriously. Zhang, he? She turned around, confused. Were you calling me? He apologized and said they'd have to save the strategy talk for next time. Something urgent came up at home. Li Jihee took it well and said they could just meet again later. Pointing to the right, Zhang Jixong said he was heading that way first. They said goodbye and he headed off. On his way home, he noticed an elderly grandma carrying some heavy things. He hesitated, wondering if he should help. After all, he'd been acting way tougher lately. But then the grandma recognized him right away and warmly greeted him, asking how he'd been. Jang Jikshong was stunned that she looked so happy to see him. He squeezed his eyes shut, thinking this only made him want to help even more. In the end, he smiled, walked over and offered to carry her things. She gratefully accepted. As he helped, Jang Jikshong apologized for leaving so suddenly last time and asked if her back was doing any better. She said it was about the same. Then she noticed the injuries on his face and asked if he'd been getting into fights a lot lately. He didn't know what to say. Feeling down, he asked if she also thought he'd become a bad person. The grandma honestly said he did look pretty scary. Looks can fool people. Jang Jikshong sadly admitted she was right, but then she added that looks aren't what matter most. Curious, he asked what mattered more. She told him that since ancient times, what really matters is whether a person's heart is good or evil. You can see that in someone's eyes, and his still showed he was a good kid, not a bad person at all. Hearing that, Jang Jikshong's eyes filled with tears. He choked out a heartfelt thank you. The grandma comforted him, saying the harder something is, the more effort it takes, and that's what gives life meaning. After helping her, Jang Jikshong felt completely refreshed, like a weight had lifted. He honestly realized helping her made him incredibly happy. He knew then he couldn't give up helping people. Nothing else gave him that same feeling. When he got home, he called out, asking if anyone was there. The place was strangely quiet. A bad feeling hit him. He carefully moved toward the living room and found Father Jang waiting on the sofa, calling him over. Right away, Jang Jikshong thought, of course this is Dad. Father Jang laughed and praised him for becoming boss of Jilin High School so quickly, saying he really was his son. Jang Jikshong broke into a cold sweat. He'd never said he became boss, so how did his dad know? He immediately suspected Uncle Chi Sheng had spilled it. Father Jang told him not to just stand there and said he had an amazing gift for him. Jang Jikshong got nervous, wondering if it was going to be something dangerous again, like a knife. His dad read his face at once and asked if he was worried about something. Then he reassured him that this time it was really a great gift, and told Zai Shu to bring out the treasure. Zai Shu answered, yes, boss. Jang Jikshong's stomach dropped. Father Jang proudly declared that by Fire Bear Gang's iron rule, the heir must raise a battle bear. Jang Jikshong froze on the spot. Father Jang introduced it as a gift for becoming Fire Bear's boss, and the little Fire Bear let out a perfectly timed, cute sound. Stiffly, Jang Jikshong thanked him. The Fire Bear squeaked again, somehow even cuter. As Zai Shu set it down, he warned the young master not to be fooled by its cute look. It was the king of beasts. Jang Jikshong was stunned. So this was a Fire Bear. Then he scooped it up and blurted out how cute, fluffy, and healing it was. Father Jang proudly said he knew his son would like it. Love for animals ran in the family. He even declared it was now part of the family. Jang Jikshong's little brother, and said he'd already named it. Curious, Jang Jikshong asked what the name was. Father Jang replied that since the family name was Jang, its name was Jang Jikshong. Looking at the Fire Bear, Jang Jikshong called it silly and said they should get along from now on. Seeing that, Scarface Uncle asked what they were supposed to call it. Bald Uncle said the answer was obvious, since it was the boss's son and the young master's brother. It was family too, so of course they had to call it Young Master. The others awkwardly laughed and agreed they'd just been confused. Bald Uncle frowned and scolded them for getting sloppy, telling them to learn from Brother Zhe-Shu. He reminded them that Brother Zhe-Shu had served the boss for 10 years and looked after the young master for 8. Then they watched him open the package in his hand. With full respect, he offered the food to the second young master and urged it to eat slowly. The moment Jang Jikshong saw that, he hurried over. Watching him happily feed the bear, Zhe-Shu asked if it was good, since the young master seemed to be enjoying it so much. Then Zai-Shu told Father Jang to leave the second young master to him and go spend time with the young master instead. Father Jang nodded, praised how thoughtful Zai-Shu always was, but said they could just call it Jikshong. The underlings eagerly thanked him at once. Before Father Jang and the others even left, the group crowded around Jang Jikshong and kept praising how cute Jikshong was and how badly they wanted to pet it. Jang Jikshong looked up, confused, and saw a bunch of scary-looking men closing in with creepy smiles, leaving it too frightened to move. A little later, father and son went up to the rooftop. Father Jang looked at the wound on Jang Jikshong's face and asked if he got it while fighting the school boss. Jang Jikshong said yes. Father Jang stared off into the distance and said the weather was getting warmer. Then his voice started to shake as he admitted he was truly happy. Tears began running down his face as he spoke. Shocked, Jang Jikshong asked why he was crying. Father Jang said it was because his son had turned out so well. As he spoke, he pulled Jang Jikshong into a tight hug and confessed that he used to think he was useless, but now he'd actually become a school boss. He said Jang Jikshong had brought him great honor. To be honest, he'd once seen him as a rebellious, unfilial son. Then he started listing all the foolish things Jang Jikshong had done over the last 10 years, leaving him deeply embarrassed. But now Father Jang felt relieved, saying that was all in the past. His son was filial after all. Jang Jikshong could only laugh awkwardly and agree. Father Jang said he was already excited for what came next. Surely his son's next step was to rule the whole region. He said he was eagerly waiting to see his proud son become the world's #1 filial son. Under that intense stare, Jang Jikshong felt his scalp tingle and could only say he'd work hard. After that, Father Jiang suggested they head back down and not keep everyone waiting. So they went downstairs together. Jiang Jixuang quickly stepped up with the others and asked if the boss had finished talking with the young master. Father Jiang smiled and said yes. They'd had a passionate father-son talk. The underlings were deeply moved and called it touching. Everyone bowed and congratulated him, saying the young master was truly outstanding. Father Jiang laughed it off, saying this was only the beginning of his son's filial devotion, then asked if that was right. Jiang Jixuang helplessly said yes. Father Jiang said he had business to handle and told Zai Shu to come with him. The underlings bowed and sent him off carefully. On the road, Zai Shu asked why Shiwan hadn't come along today. Father Jiang answered seriously and brought up Kim Min-woo, one of Shiwan's men. He asked if Zishu knew him. Zishu said yes. Pulling out a cigarette, Father Jiang said he'd heard Kim Min-woo had recently been seen at the underground arena. Shocked, Zishu pointed out that the underground arena was Danryong Gang's turf. Father Jiang said he hadn't paid much attention before because he thought Shiwan had brought him in. But lately, Kim Min-woo had been doing things that made him uneasy. He needed it checked out, so he put Zishu in charge of investigating Kim Min-woo's background. Jiang Jixuang could only laugh awkwardly and agree. Father Jiang said he was already excited for what came next. Surely his son's next step was to rule the whole region. Jiang Shu respectfully accepted. Father Jiang told him to use it to get something good to eat with the others. Then he waved and headed off. Jiang Shu quickly offered to walk him back, but Father Jiang refused, saying he hadn't walked alone in the wind for a long time and told him to go back. Watching him leave, Zaoui Shu thought about how the boss always walked by himself when something was weighing on him. Then Zaoui Shu remembered he could use the money to buy things for the young master and the brothers, so he started counting it. As the numbers climbed, he was stunned. Ones, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, 10 millions. It added up to 100 million, and he could only stare in disbelief at how generous the boss was. Meanwhile, back at the Truancy clan's secret base, all three members had been shaved bald and looked miserable. Spiky Uncle made a call and reported that he'd already gotten important information out of them. He said he'd bring that key intel back to help the boss and promised he wouldn't let him down. At the villa, the uncles were still obsessively petting Jiang Jixuang. Zai Shu came over and told everyone to get ready for a gathering because the boss had provided a huge budget. The men cheered and said they'd prepare right away. Zai Shu added that while they got things ready, they should come to his room one by one. Zhejiang first. Bald Uncle answered yes. Then the two of them went upstairs. In Zai Shu's office, he motioned for Bald Uncle to sit and said they had something important to discuss. Bald Uncle respectfully told him to sit first and said he'd make coffee. As he made it, he muttered to himself, "I shouldn't tell the boss about that yet." Bald Uncle brought the coffee over and said they could talk while they drank. Zai Shu took it. He said the boss really looks after the brothers. Bald Uncle agreed. Lately, the boss had been coming to the house a lot more. Zai Shu said it was probably because the pressure around young master was weighing on him. Then he turned serious. This wasn't fully a good sign. If the boss kept coming here, it meant he didn't trust the people elsewhere. Bald Uncle froze. Zai Shu gave a grim nod. The boss had started doubting Sijuan. Bald Uncle stared at him, shocked that the boss could suspect his own trusted man. Zai Shu said there was no proof on Sijuan yet, but one of his subordinates, Kim Min-woo, stood out. Bald Uncle said he knew who that was. Zai Shu tightened his fist and said Kim Min-woo had been going to the underground arena a lot. That made Bald Uncle jump. The underground arena was controlled by the Danryong gang. He said they'd just grab Kim Min-woo and get rid of him. Zai Shu shut that down at once. They couldn't kill him before learning whether Si Wern was involved. Bald Uncle rose with a serious look and told Zai Shu to leave it to him. He promised he'd find out what Kim Min-woo was really doing. Zai Shu still said no. Bald Uncle pushed back, saying he was the best person for the job. He insisted he could handle it. Zai Shu refused again. Too many people in both the Firebear gang and Danring gang knew Bald Uncle by face. They could not risk being exposed. Bald Uncle grew anxious and asked what he should do instead. Zai Shu told him to pick someone clever, loyal, and unknown to both sides to slip in quietly. Bald Uncle thought it over, then suddenly brightened. He had the perfect person. Full of confidence, he told Zai Shu to trust him. Zai Shu told him to head back and send Tycoon up next. Bald Uncle answered and left, shutting the door behind him. As he walked out, he thought Brother Zai Shu had been carrying too much lately. With the organization in danger, he had to do everything he could. The moment Bald Uncle got downstairs, he heard Spiky Uncle yelling that he was back. Bald Uncle nodded and said Genho had worked hard this time. Then he told Tycoon to go up to Brother Zai Shu's room. After that, he started comparing notes with Genho. Bald Uncle asked about the photo Genho had sent earlier. Genho explained it showed Yin Kan Yu together with the Truancy clan. So if they found the two runaway schoolgirls, they could track him down. Meanwhile, the gathering was nearly ready. Zhejiang Zhishang tried to help, but the uncles stopped him. They told young master there was no need. He should just stay nearby and keep Zhejiang Zhishang company. With a helpless sigh, Zhejiang Zhishang said he'd go play with it instead. Zhejiang Zhishang was asleep on the sofa, its round belly making it extra cute. Zhejiang Zhishang's eyes lit up. That belly looked so soft, he really wanted to touch it. Just then, his phone suddenly rang. He panicked, worried the sound would wake Song Xishang. Too late, it had already opened its eyes. Feeling guilty, Song Xishang apologized to Song Xishang. Since it was awake anyway, he decided to make it a video call. Pointing the phone over, he said, "Zhang Yun, "Look, this is our new family member." On the other end, Song Yoon blurted out that it was insanely cute. Then he called the Pomeranian adorable, and every uncle froze. They rushed over and firmly corrected him. It was a bear. Then through clenched teeth they greeted him. "Hello, student Song Yoon." Song Yoon nervously said hello back. The uncles kept repeating that it was really a bear. Song Yoon had no idea what was going on, but he played along, so he acted shocked and said it was actually a bear. Only then were the uncles satisfied, proudly adding that it was a fire bear. Song Xishong gave an awkward laugh and asked if he could come see it at their house next time. Song Xishong agreed right away, saying Xishong would welcome him too. Then Song Xishong remembered why he had called. He had plans with some girl classmates tomorrow, 3 girls and only 2 boys, so he asked Song Xishong to join them. After a short pause, Song Xishong agreed. Then he ended the video call. Bald Uncle and Genho walked over, confused about why everyone was crowding around young master. Weren't they supposed to be getting the gathering ready? The uncles excitedly said that didn't matter right now. Young master was going on a 3-on-3 group date tomorrow. Song Xishong quickly said it was just a meetup with cram school classmates. Bald Uncle ignored that and stepped in at once, telling young master to go to the dressing room. Song Xishong tried to explain again that it was only a group outing, but Bald Uncle wouldn't budge and told him to get moving. Stuck with no choice, Song Xishong followed, saying he didn't need to dress up for this. He really didn't think it was necessary. Bald Uncle answered firmly, the group date mattered, and the outfit was the key. Still, he said there was something even more important they had to confirm first. Confused, Song Xishong asked what it was and why Bald Uncle looked so serious. Bald Uncle pulled out a few photos and asked young master if he recognized anyone in them. Song Xishong looked closely and said 2 of them were the guys he had seen at the internet cafe. But he didn't know the long-haired one or the blue-haired one. He kept studying the pictures, then suddenly stopped. Bald Uncle quickly asked if he had noticed something. Song Xishong pointed at the black-haired man in the photo and said he remembered that guy. Bald Uncle immediately asked if he was Yin Kan Yu. Song Xishong said he didn't know that name, but the thug who had specifically come after him before that was the one. Bald Uncle was stunned. So this was the man who attacked young master. Song Xishong nodded without hesitation. Yes, it was him. Bald Uncle frowned. Things had just gotten much more complicated. If the long-haired man was Yin Kun Yu, then they only needed to look into Chi Yuan and the Dandrong gang. But if the scarred man was Yin Kun Yu and tied to Chi Yuan, then the attack came from inside the Firebear gang, or it was part of Chi Yuan's plan. His head started to ache. He thought this was just some small thug mess, not something this deep. No answer came to him. Seeing his face, Zhang Zishang asked what was wrong. Bald Uncle thought young master already had enough on his plate, so he laughed it off and changed the subject, asking about the kid who fought beside him that day. He asked what that boy's name was. Zhang Zishang said it was Shen Jingjie. Bald Uncle nodded and repeated the name to remember it. Then he switched topics again and declared it was time to build the perfect 3-on-3 outfit. Young master needed to stand out completely. Zhang Zishang looked baffled. Since when did a group date need that much presence? The next day, at the meeting place, Zhang Yun and Jun Min got there early, and Zhang Yun said Jun Min looked really handsome. Jun Min proudly said, of course there was no way he'd embarrass himself on a 3-on-3 date. He asked if he looked like a celebrity, and Zhang Yun admitted he looked great. Still, Jun Min worried about whether Zishang would actually show up. Zhang Yun told him not to worry, since Zishang had promised in person. Then the area suddenly got noisy, and Zhang Yun looked around in confusion. He spotted someone in the distance, and wondered if it was Zishang. It was Zhang Zishang arrived in a suit with a huge gold chain, giving off maximum underworld energy. Zhang Yun and Jun Min were speechless. The outfit was way too much. Zhang Zishang walked over and greeted them like nothing was wrong. Then he asked if the girls had arrived yet. Jun Min quickly dragged him aside into an alley. He anxiously told Zishang that even if he was in the underworld, he couldn't show up dressed like that. Zhang Zishang scratched his head and admitted it did feel a little over the top. Zhou Min yelled that he had to change before the girls got scared off. Zhang Zishang blinked and repeated, change clothes? Zhou Min answered without hesitation. The girls were all model students and they hated gangster style most of all. Zhang Zishang apologized, saying he hadn't thought that far ahead. So they went into a clothing store to change him. After taking off the suit, Zhang Zishang asked Zhang Yun if this looked better. Zhang Yun said it wasn't bad. Now all he had to do was put the accessories in his bag. Zhang Zishang did it right away. Then the two headed back to the meeting spot. Jun Min checked him over and was finally satisfied. This would work, and the girls were almost there. He also warned Zishang that he'd become too well known lately, so he should use another name. Zhang Zishang nodded, and the three moved out together. At the date spot, Jun Min reminded him again to use the name Zhang Dongzhu. From now on, Zhang Zishang said not to worry. He was now Zhang Dongzhu, a second-year student at Shilun High School. Then Jun Min pointed ahead and said the girls were here, so get ready. He waved excitedly and called them over. The girls walked up and greeted them. At last, the full 3-on-3 group was together. Zhang Zishang introduced Zhang Zishang as their friend, Zhang Dongzhu. Zhang Zishang quickly greeted everyone with a bright hello. The two girls beside her introduced themselves as Yoonji and Kim Yoonji. Zhang Zishang then greeted the girl in the middle, but she looked annoyed and didn't seem interested in answering. He tried again, asking who she was. Once she got a good look at his face and build, her heart started racing. His rough, calloused hands stood out along with the thick veins in his arms. Next to the other boys, he felt totally out of place. The contrast was huge. It was like a predator standing among harmless animals. Her cheeks turned red as she finally introduced herself as Wen Kaiyun. Then she suggested they go sit in a cafe first. Juman was stunned. Kaiyun was acting nothing like her usual cold self. He couldn't believe she was showing that soft expression, and not to him but to Zhang Jisheng. It made him furious. Looking around only made it worse. Everyone else was already getting along. Yoonji had naturally paired off with Zhang Yun, and Kaiyun, the prettiest one there, had gone straight to Zhang Jisheng. Both pairs looked weirdly sweet together. Juman ground his teeth, wondering how things had ended up like this. Then Yoonji told him to stop standing there and come with them. Juman let out a long sigh. Let's just go. Our luck really sucks. The group got to the cafe. Once they sat down, Kaiyun only paid attention to Zhang Jisheng. That made Juman burn with jealousy. After that, they headed to a KTV, and the girls happily started dancing. Out of all of them, Wen Kaiyun stood out the most. Zhang Jisheng kept praising them, amazed by how good they were. Juman stayed off to the side, thinking about how Kaiyun always said she didn't like going out, so why was she dancing for Jiang now? Even worse, she looked genuinely happy. Outside the KTV, Yoonji teased Kaiyun, pointing out that she hadn't even wanted to come at first. Kaiyun shot back that Yoonji was the one who begged her to come, because being alone with Zhang Yun felt awkward. Yoonji only grinned and kept teasing her. She was being way too obvious. To her, Kaiyun clearly liked Zhang Dongju. Kaiyun admitted it almost dreamily. She felt it the moment she saw him. She said he was exactly the one she'd been searching for. When everything ended, Juman sat there picking leaves and mumbling to himself, wondering who Kaiyun really liked. In the end, he broke down. Kaiyun liked Jisheng. Jealousy drove Juman crazy. In his mind, Zhang Jisheng had stolen his girl. Zhang Jisheng could tell something was wrong, so he asked Zhang Yun if Juman was okay. Zhang Yun could only shake his head and say he had no idea. Just then the girls came over. Wen Kaiyun walked up to Zhang Jisheng and said she had to leave for tutoring. Before going, she held out her phone and asked for his contact info. Juman screamed inside. He still didn't have Kaiyun's number, yet Jisheng got it that easily. After that, the girls said goodbye and started to leave. But Yoonji stayed behind a little longer and moved close to Zhang Yun, saying she wanted to shop with him some more. Juman's eyes went wide. Now even Zhang Yun had ditched him, so they said goodbye again. Right then, Zhang Jisheng's phone buzzed. It was a party invitation from Park Mingjun. He decided to go find Song Jong-shi and bring him along. Juman got up and sadly complained that even Zhang Yun had betrayed them. Then he suggested the two lonely guys go play games together instead. Zhang Jisheng apologized and turned him down, saying he already had plans tonight. Juman frowned and asked what could possibly matter more than going to the internet cafe with him. Zhang Jisheng explained that Park Mingjun from Chang'an was throwing him a celebration party. That made Juman even more bitter. Zhang Jisheng got Kaiyun's number, got invited to a party, and still refused to hang out with his sad friend. Zhang Jisheng quickly apologized and promised they'd play games next time. Then he turned to leave, telling Junmin he'd see him at school. That left Junmin collapsing in misery, yelling that his life sucked. Not long after, Zhang Jisheng arrived outside Song Jongshi's house. Song Jongshi came out holding a baseball bat and asked why he hadn't called first. Zhang Jisheng said it was easier to just wait for him there. Then he glanced at the bat and asked why he was bringing that to a party. Song Jongshi seriously said the invitation was suspicious, so it was safer to bring something. Zhang Jisheng, confused, said they called it a celebration party, so they probably didn't mean any harm. Song Jongshi said they'd find out soon enough, then asked for the address. Zhang Jisheng read it out. Benson Apartments, Unit 201. That instantly made Song Jongshi more suspicious. A party in an apartment? Then bringing the bat was the right move. He told him to let's go. Soon, the two reached the apartment building. Zhang Jisheng looked around and admitted the place did feel shady. Maybe the bat really was a good idea. As they walked upstairs, Song Jongshi asked how Zhang Jisheng's mental state was right now. Zhang Jisheng said he was fine. They stopped at the door. Zhang Jisheng was just about to press the bell when Song Jongshi stopped him, telling him not to ring it yet. He got his bat ready first, then told Zhang Jisheng to do it. Zhang Jisheng took a breath and rang the bell. A voice from inside called out. It was Park Mingjun, telling someone to open the door for the boss. Then a girl shouted for him to stop ordering her around. Zhang Jisheng looked surprised. There was a girl inside. Song Jongshi still warned him not to relax. It could be a setup. But when the door opened, a girl fresh out of the bath stood there. It was Wen Kaiyun. Looking guilty, she asked Zhang Dongju how he even knew about this place. Zhang Jisheng froze, wondering if he'd come to the wrong address. Then Park Mingjun shouted from inside, telling them to stop standing there and come in. Song Jongshi signaled for Zhang Jisheng to go first, and he agreed. Still, Zhang Jisheng's mind was a mess. Without her glasses, Wen Kaiyun looked just like Xu Zhen. Song Jongshi noticed and asked if he was okay. Zhang Jisheng snapped out of it and said it was nothing, then told him to go in. Park Mingjun welcomed them warmly and introduced the place as their secret base. He told everyone to get acquainted and get along from now on. People started greeting each other, and the mood was lively. Zhang Jisheng answered a little stiffly because the smoke inside was overwhelming. The whole room reeked of it, thick and stale enough to make breathing uncomfortable. Empty beer cans covered the floor, and cigarette butts were piled up along with gambling gear. The place looked like a hangout for delinquent kids. Zhang Jishang thought to himself that this place had drinking, smoking, and gambling all at once. These guys were way too wild. Park Mingjun told them not to stand around and to make themselves comfortable. Zhang Jishang asked if the party was really being held here, and Park Mingjun proudly said yes. The AC was strong, and if it got too stuffy, they could use the rooftop. Since the room was already full, he had them sit down quickly so he could introduce everyone. He added that everyone had come just to congratulate Zhang Jishang, which made him feel a little embarrassed. Park Mingjun pointed to one person and introduced him as Kui Chen Mu, one of Chang'an School's top fighters. Then he introduced Kui Yin, the school's famous dancer with 1 million views. Next came the so-called blonde witch of Chang'an School, Wen Kai-yun. Smiling, Park Mingjun said everyone already knew this one, Zilong Song Zhongxi. And finally, he introduced today's main guest, Zilong's new boss, Zhang Jishong. Hearing that, Wen Kai-yun blurted out in shock that he wasn't Zhang Dongju, he was Zhang Jishong. Park Mingjun turned to her and asked if she already knew him. Both gave a vague answer, saying they'd only met by chance and barely knew each other. Park Mingjun laughed and said that still meant they were already friends. Then he told everyone to sit, pulled out a few bottles of beer, stood up and proposed a toast to Zhang Jishong becoming Zilong's boss. Everyone cheered, and the room got even louder. Park Mingjun joked that the drinks weren't poisoned, so they could relax and drink. To prove it, he drank first and said it was totally fine. After seeing that, the two had little choice but to drink too. After only a little, Zhang Jishong started coughing from how harsh it was. The taste was really weird. Then Kui Yin suddenly walked over and greeted, Song Jiangxi. Long time no see. Song Jiangxi looked completely confused, especially since she was acting very familiar with him. Park Mingjun laughed and said Changnan and Jilin really were close, then looked to Zhang Jishong for agreement. Zhang Jishong awkwardly said he guessed so. The two schools were close and students from different schools mixed a lot anyway. Still, he quietly thought this felt strange. He'd never had beer with friends before, only with his uncles. So the whole thing felt awkward. Then Wen Kai-yun suddenly leaned in and asked, Hey Zhang Jishong, why did you lie to me before and hide who you really were? He quickly explained that if she knew he was Zhang Jishong, he thought she might get scared. As he leaned back, he also pointed out that she was standing way too close. But Wen Kai-yun didn't back off. She moved even closer and asked, So what? You don't like it? That scared Zhang Jishong enough to pull away at once, saying that wasn't what he meant. After a few more rounds of drinks, everyone started getting hazy. Zhang Jishong even dozed off while sitting there. Seeing that, Park Mingjun stood up, cleared his throat, and said, All right. While everyone was in a good mood, it was time for the real reason they were there. Zhang Jishong woke up a little and asked what he meant. Park Mingjun reminded him of what he said in the auditorium about taking down the ignorant normal alliance. That, he explained, was why he threw this party. To get Chang Yen and Ji Lan to join forces and crush the ignorant normal alliance together. He directly asked Zhang Jishong and Song Zhongxi to team up with Chang An. Zhang Jishong was stunned. Team up with them? He asked if he'd heard that right. Song Zhongxi pulled him aside and said they should go outside for some air and talk first. Park Mingjun watched them leave and told them to take their time. Once they were gone, Park Mingjun suddenly worried that maybe he'd said something wrong, and everyone agreed he had. That night, the two stepped out onto the rooftop. Zhang Jishong let out a breath, saying that shock had sobered him up fast. He was confused too. They'd said the drinks were non-alcoholic. So how had he gotten drunk? Song Zhongxi told him the truth. They drank real beer. He really had been drunk. Zhang Jishong was shocked. They'd been tricked. Song Zhongxi warned him not to drink anymore once they went back in. Only then did Zhang Jishong fully realize it had been real alcohol. Song Zhongxi said he'd planned to pretend to be drunk and test Park Mingjun's motive, but now it looked like Park Mingjun really did want an alliance. Zhang Jishong got angry, saying Park Mingjun only got close to him to use him. Song Zhongxi calmly pointed out that the offer still helped them. Just the two of them alone would have a hard time, but with an alliance, taking down the ignorant normal alliance would be much easier. Zhang Jishong nodded and admitted that was true. Song Zhongxi then made his position clear. Whatever Zhang Jishong decided, he would follow, because Zhang Jishong was Zilin Hai's boss. Back inside, Park Mingjun was still uneasy, worried they might reject the alliance. Then he heard the door open. Zhang Jishong and Song Zhongxi had come back. Park Mingjun hurried over to ask, but Zhang Jishong said nothing, and simply held out his hand. Park Mingjun excitedly shook it and loudly declared that from today on, Zhangxin and Zilin were officially allies. Zhang Jishong politely replied, Please take care of us, Park Mingjun. With a serious look, Park Mingjun announced their first target would be Moxian High School. Everyone was stunned. They were moving that fast. Song Zhongxi figured Moxian High School had the smallest group, so out of the ignorant normal alliance, they should be the easiest to crush. Zhang Jishong agreed. All right, Moxian High School goes first. Park Mingjun said they'd reach out again once the full plan was ready, and added that today was fun. Zhang Jishong replied, We'll help work on the plan too. See you next time. After that, they said their goodbyes and headed out. Then Kai-woon suddenly spoke up, saying she wanted to step out too. She ran after Zhang Jishong and called out, saying she needed to talk to him. Caught off guard, Zhang Jishong stopped and asked what it was. Song Zhongxi read the room and backed off, telling them to talk while he waited downstairs. Zhang Jishong nodded and said okay. He'd come down after they finished. Wen Kaiyun stared at him with shining eyes and said she never expected Zhang Dongju to be Shalan's boss. Zhang Jishang. No wonder she was drawn to him. Awkwardly, Zhang Jishang laughed it off. Then he asked what she really wanted to say. Nervous now. Wen Kaiyun said that for her image at school and cram school he had to keep this a secret. Zhang Jishang promised seriously that he would. She didn't need to worry. Happy to hear that. Wen Kaiyun moved closer and thanked him. With an intense look, she asked if he'd still meet her later. Zhang Jishang stepped back and reminded her she already had his number and she was standing way too close. But in the very next second, Wen Kaiyun leaned in and kissed him. Zhang Jishang's whole face turned bright red. She whispered in his ear that he was hers now. His mind shut down completely. Red-faced and panicked, he could only stiffly turn around and say he had to go. Then he hurried off, totally flustered. Watching him leave, Wen Kaiyun quietly murmured that Zhang Jishang couldn't run from her. By the time he got downstairs, Zhang Jishang was still touching his face in a daze, replaying that kiss over and over. In shock, he realized that had been his first kiss. Nearby, Song Zhongxi muttered that Wen Kaiyun was probably going to give Li Ji a huge headache. Then he turned and saw Zhang Jishang sprinting toward him. Confused, he asked why he was running like that and why his face was so red. That only made Zhang Jishang blush harder, so he quickly changed the topic and said they should head back. Song Zhongxi pointed out that he was going the wrong way. Zhang Jishang instantly turned around and rushed him to move. On the way home, Zhang Jishang let out a long sigh. Too much had happened today. He secretly swore he could never tell his uncles about that first kiss. Back at the villa, he noticed the lights were still on. He tried to sneak inside and slip quietly to his room, but then singing suddenly rang out. Bald Uncle sang that he was the beloved young master everyone adored, and Uncle Scar followed up by calling him the charming mad dog. Zhang Jishang could only sigh. That song again. Then Bald Uncle caught a scent. He suddenly shouted, "Stop!" The singing cut off at once. Sniffing the air, Bald Uncle said the young master smelled like alcohol. Then he told him to breathe on him so he could check. Zhang Jishang had no choice but to take a deep breath and blow hard. Bald Uncle immediately declared, "Blood alcohol level 0.03. Tearing up with joy, he shouted that young master had tried drinking on his own. The other uncles crowded in, thrilled, and started offering to toast him too. Zhang Jishang quickly explained that someone tricked him by saying it was non-alcoholic, so that's why he drank it. But Bald Uncle changed the subject, and said there was something else he wanted to ask. He had a question. Zhang Jishang got nervous at once, wondering if they had figured something out. Bald Uncle said he could smell smoke on him, but not on his breath. Zhang Jishang rushed to explain that he hadn't smoked. The smell came from other people's cigarettes. As soon as Bald Uncle heard that, he burst into tears. Seeing that, Zhang Jishang quickly apologized. He said he didn't mean to, but Bald Uncle sighed and said young master had finally experienced secondhand smoke. The other uncles got emotional too when they heard that. Cheering, they swarmed him and yelled that young master had finally become a real bad guy. Now pour the drinks. Before long, everyone had already had plenty to drink. Bald Uncle then noticed Zhang Jishang wasn't wearing the snakeskin outfit he had carefully made. Holding the little bear, Zhang Jishang explained that it was hot, so he let a friend hold on to it. Bald Uncle smiled and said that was fine as long as he got it back. The bottles could be cleaned up tomorrow. Zhang Jishang thanked him and Bald Uncle settled himself on the sofa. Zhang Jishang went to his room and dropped straight onto the bed. Since he had school tomorrow, he planned to sleep early. But when he checked his phone, he saw a message from Wen Kaiyun. Zhang Jishang froze, not knowing how to answer. That sudden kiss flashed back into his mind and his face turned red all over again. Then the phone rang once more. This time it was Li Ji calling. He couldn't figure out why she was calling so late. The second he answered, Li Ji exploded, demanding to know why he hadn't replied for 4 hours. Zhang Jishang hurriedly said he'd been busy and hadn't seen the messages, then asked if something important happened. He figured he could at least tell Li Zi about the alliance with Chang Ot. Li Zi said they should set a time to study a plan for dealing with Park Mingjun because she was fully ready. Zhang Jishang awkwardly told her there was no need to target Park Mingjun anymore. Li Zi asked why. He answered that he had already formed an alliance with Park Mingjun. He also told her Chang'an High School had even thrown a party for him, and Song Zhongxi. Li Zi then asked who was there. Zhang Zishang honestly listed Park Mingjun, Kui Chenmu, Kui Yinhei, and Wen Kaiyun. The moment Li Zi heard Wen Kaiyun's name, her mood turned sour. Why was that crazy woman there too? Zhang Zishang added that they planned to work together and take down Mojin High School first. After saying that, he ended the call. On her side, Li Zi was deeply upset, worried Wen Kaiyun had really fallen for Zhang Zishang. Meanwhile, Zhang Zishang thought Li Zi was only mad because she hadn't been invited, so he made up his mind that next time there was any party, he had to invite Li Zi too. In the training room, Bald Uncle was thinking hard. They still didn't know who was after young master. Whoever it was would stay hidden and wait for another chance to strike. Just then, Zhang Hao came by and asked if he was worried about the girl who got away. Bald Uncle stood and said they'd act tomorrow to confirm clues about the attacker through that girl. Zhang Hao praised the plan and immediately offered to help. The next morning at the prison, a guard called out that inmate 0758 had a visitor. Shen Jingjia was confused. After all this time, he hadn't expected anyone to come see him. He followed the guard to the visiting room, rubbing his wrists where the cuffs had left them red. Shen Jingjia sat down across the glass and tried to look smug. But the second he saw Bald Uncle on the other side, he was scared senseless. His chest tightened so badly from panic that he thought he was being attacked and started yelling that Bald Uncle was trying to kill him. The guard saw right through it and told him to stop acting. The wall was between them. Once Shen Jingzhi heard that, he finally realized Bald Uncle couldn't touch him in there. With the law protecting him, his arrogant attitude came right back. He even taunted Bald Uncle, telling him to send some money if he came all this way. Bald Uncle ignored the yelling and instead mocked him for having more hair than before. That made Shen Jingzhi's heart race and panic flashed across his face. Then Bald Uncle pulled out a razor and threatened that if anyone touched a single hair on young master's head, he'd chase them to hell and shave them bald. Shen Jingzhi's heart pounded. Was this guy really here just to shave his head? He cursed to himself, unable to understand what Bald Uncle was planning. Then Shen Jingzhi glanced at the guard and reminded himself that the law and the guard were on his side. So he got cocky again and mocked Bald Uncle, asking if the stinky octopus had come to deliver food. The word octopus set Bald Uncle off instantly. Shen Jingzhi kept pushing, shouting for him to come in and hit him or shave him bald too. When Bald Uncle stood up, Shen Jingzhi kept provoking him, pretending to be scared and asking what he was going to do. He even sneered that an octopus couldn't crawl through holes or pass through glass. Laughing wildly, he kept yelling, calling him Stinky Baldy and Stinky Octopus. Bald Uncle's anger spiked. He said he had only come to ask a few questions and leave. But Shen Jingzhi just kept grinning and mocking him. What questions? An octopus recipe? That was enough. Bald Uncle's killing intent showed as he raised his fist and told him to keep laughing while he still could. Shen Jingzhi pointed at the barrier and shouted that it was bulletproof glass. Then Bald Uncle slammed his fist into the glass with a huge bang. Shen Jingzhi shook all over, thinking this Baldy had gone insane. The guard jumped up and barked at Bald Uncle, asking what he was doing and telling him not to cause trouble. Did he want to get thrown in here and eat prison food too? Bald Uncle answered with a wicked grin while Shen Jingzhi turned pale as death. Bald Uncle said that was exactly why he came to prison today. Shen Jingzhi was horrified. If Bald Uncle came inside, he was dead for sure. With a cold sneer, Bald Uncle said he was from the underworld. Why would prison scare him? Shen Jingzhi panicked inside, wondering if Bald Uncle really meant to force his way into prison. Then Bald Uncle smiled coldly and played his trump card. Did Shen Jingzhi really think there were no Firebear gang members in this prison? That left Shen Jingzhi stunned. Bald Uncle took out his phone, showed a photo and said he'd give him one chance to live. All he had to do was say the name. What was the thug's name? The one who attacked young master. Shaking, Shen Jingzhi asked if just saying the name would be enough. Bald Uncle said yes. Shen Jingzhi quickly gave it up. His name was Park Wu-Jang. Hearing that, Bald Uncle realized the one who attacked young master wasn't Ying Kan Yu. With his answer in hand, he turned and walked out. After leaving the prison, Bald Uncle started planning his next move. He needed to check the Dan Ryong gang's arena. At that moment, Jen Hao also finished his part and came over. While smoking, Bald Uncle asked if he had taken care of the job. Jen Hao said the men inside prison were already on it, and they'd make sure Shen Jingzhi never forgot it. Bald Uncle nodded sadly. Good. No time to lose. They had to head back now. So the two of them rushed back to the villa. A new mess was just starting. Bald Uncle grabbed the blue-haired guy's phone and called again, but still got no answer. Jen Hao suggested they stop chasing him and go straight to his parents instead. Bald Uncle instantly got it and praised the plan. Then he checked the phone contacts and blew up. That useless brat hadn't even saved his parents' numbers. Now the phone was basically worthless, and they were stuck again. Just then, Jen Hao noticed the slippers the two girls had left behind before. An idea hit him at once. He told Bald Uncle he had a great plan. Bald Uncle looked over and asked what it was. Jen Hao said he saw on TV that a bear's nose is way better than a dog's, and their Firebear gang had a Firebear. Bald Uncle caught on right away. Have Yixiong smell the slippers and track the girls down. He loved it, and said they should move now. But Jen Hao suddenly told him to hold on. Bald Uncle turned back, asking what problem was left when time was running out. Jen Hao worried that Firebears are savage animals, so Yixiong might not listen. Bald Uncle paused, then it clicked. First, they had to get Yixiong on their side, so he acted right away. He pulled out a huge salmon to lure Yixiong. The smell alone made Yixiong drool. Watching it eat, Bald Uncle urged Yixiong to finish up because they had a job for it. Nothing hard, just smell something and find a person. After polishing off the salmon, Yixiong patted its belly and looked totally pleased. Jen H got excited and said Yixiong was happy now, so they should test it. Bald Uncle held up the slipper and told Yixiong to smell it and see if it recognized the scent. Yixiong leaned in and sniffed hard. A second later, it clearly looked like it had locked onto something. Bald Uncle lit up with excitement. Yixiong's expression changed. It had found a lead. So they hurried out with Yixiong leading the way. Bald Uncle set off at once. Now they were trusting Yixiong's nose to guide them. Seeing how focused it was, Bald Uncle praised Yixiong for really picking up the trail. Then Yixiong raised a paw and pointed ahead. Bald Uncle took off after it as Yixiong rushed forward. They finally had a direction. Meanwhile, in prison, Shen Jingzhi showered while cursing inside. That damn octopus had followed him even here. The more he thought about it, the madder he got. None of his so-called friends had even come to see him. Just then, two tattooed men sent by Jen H walked straight toward him. One stepped up and asked if he was Shen Jingzhi. Shen Jingzhi was confused, wondering what they wanted. The man checked the mark on his chest and confirmed they had the right person. Then he gave a nasty grin. He said he couldn't reach his back and wanted Shen Jingjae to scrub it. Shen Jingjae snapped back, scared and angry, asking why he should do that. The tattooed man lifted the soap and said plenty of things in this world don't make sense, but most still happen for a reason. Shen Jingjae understood right away. Bald Uncle had sent them, and from the look of it, tonight was going to be rough. Elsewhere, Yixiang finally stopped. Bald Uncle happily asked if it had found the person. But when they looked over, all they saw was an old grandmother. She kindly asked if he was Yixiang's owner and what he needed. Bald Uncle politely said it was nothing and he was just passing by. Still, Yixiang refused to move. That made Bald Uncle freeze. Could this really be where the trail ended? So he carefully asked, could he check her cart? When she agreed, he quickly searched through it. He dug through the random things inside. Then he suddenly found the missing slipper from the same girl. Bald Uncle quickly asked where she got it. The grandmother thought back and said she picked it up off the road a few days earlier. Just that one. He asked if he could take it, and she kindly said yes. Overjoyed, Bald Uncle bowed and thanked her again and again. Back at the villa, Bald Uncle sighed that they still hadn't found the girl. Even so, Yixiang had already done its best. Then Bald Uncle started thinking, a bear's nose should be much stronger than a dog's. Maybe Yixiang had been living at home too long and lost its wild instincts. That thought hardened his resolve. If Yuxiang got its wild side back, it should be able to track the target. At school, Junwen was still upset about the date that went wrong. He regretted bringing Jiwang Yuxiang more than ever. Jing Yun noticed and leaned over to check on him. He asked what was wrong and why Junwen looked so drained. Junwen held his anger in, thinking there was no way he was fine. Outside the school, Jiwang Yuxiang was waiting when Song Jingshi walked up to him. He greeted Jiwang Yuxiang casually. Jiwang Yuxiang looked surprised and pointed out the new hairstyle. Song Jingshi scratched his head and said someone told him pushing his bangs up would look better. Jiwang Yuxiang honestly agreed it did look better and he seemed more handsome now. Then he invited him over after school. Song Jiwang Yuxiang agreed right away, saying it had been a while since they visited the uncles. Jiwang Yuxiang excitedly added that there was now a fire bear at his house. That left Song Jiwang Yuxi stunned. Jiwang Yuxiang nodded hard and said its name was Yuxiang. Soon the two headed into the classroom. A little later, Li Zhiyi showed up looking serious. She tapped Jiang Yuxiang on the shoulder and told him to come outside for a minute. Confused, he followed her out. He asked what this was about. Li Zhiyi just told him to come to the rooftop so they could talk. Watching from the corner, Junwen gritted his teeth in anger. He couldn't understand why Jiwang Yuxiang was close with Jia, but still chased Wen Keiyun. On the rooftop, the mood between Jiwang Yuxiang and Li Zhiyi felt awkward. Jiwang Yuxiang apologized first, saying he'd bring her along next time. Li Zhiyi looked lost. Then she asked why he suddenly teamed up with Changnan and told him to explain. Jiwang Yuxiang panicked at once. Li Zhiyi clarified that she meant the alliance at the celebration party. Hearing that, Jiwang Yuxiang immediately remembered Wen Keiyun's kiss. His face went bright red, sweat broke out, and he couldn't even meet Li Jie's eyes. She frowned and asked why he was acting so nervous. He quickly denied it and insisted nothing happened. Then he changed the subject, saying Song Jiangxi agreed too. So he teamed up with Park Minjun. Li Jie could tell he was hiding something, so she decided she'd ask Song Jiangxi instead. Before he could stop her, she turned to leave, making him panic even more. Inside, Jing Yuxiang groaned. He realized she really had wanted to go to that gathering, which made him feel even guiltier. Li Ji walked ahead with a helpless sigh. Then Jing Yuxiang suddenly called out for her to wait. She turned back and asked what. He pulled up a photo of Yuxiang and showed it to her. Then he invited her over after school, explaining his family had raised a fire bear. Li Ji stared at the picture in shock. A fire bear? She looked closer, then she burst out excitedly saying it was way too cute. Nodding fast, she said she wanted to go, and Jing Yuxiang relaxed. Good thing she liked it. After school, all three rushed to Jing Yuxiang's house, excited to see the fire bear. But when they got to the villa, they found Yuxiang was gone, and Jing Yuxiang shouted in alarm. He was told brother Qixuang had taken it to Fire Bear Mountain for special training and exercise. At the same time, on Fire Bear Mountain, Bald Uncle kept moving forward with Yuxiang. An old man came their way and looked curiously at Yuxiang in his arms. Smiling, he said the pet cafe was the other way and warned him not to head into the mountain with such a cute dog. Bald Uncle answered calmly. He said they were going the right way, they weren't heading to any cafe. After that, he said goodbye and kept going deeper, thinking this trip wasn't for him. It was for Yexiang. When they reached a flatter area, Bald Uncle set Yexiang down. From here on, Yexiang had to awaken its wild side. So the man and the bear kept going together. Bald Uncle smiled and asked if being out in nature felt good, and Yexiang happily chirped back. Then Bald Uncle said they needed to reach the shelter before sunset, start a fire and cook. Yexiang got excited at that. Before long, it grew dark. But Bald Uncle still couldn't find the shelter, and he muttered that the young master's old training spot should be near. All the old signs were gone. Just then, Yixiang lowered its nose and caught a scent. It tapped Bald Uncle and pointed ahead with its paw. Bald Uncle lit up, asking if nature had sharpened its nose again, then told Yixiang to lead. Yixiang nodded eagerly. Night settled over the mountain as mist started to rise. Then Bald Uncle spotted a cave and happily shouted that they'd found it. Being back in the wild really had made Yixiang's nose sharper. Yixiang squeaked happily again. Walking toward the cave, Bald Uncle sighed. The place had barely changed, even after all these years. He took gear from his bag and said they needed a fire before full dark. Then he lit the wood and the flames flared up at once. Dusting off his hands, he said the fire was ready. Now it was time to find food. But Yixiang had curled up in a corner, shaking and too scared to leave. Bald Uncle picked it up and gently asked if it was hungry or just afraid of the dark. He told Yixiang to stay there and rest while he went to get food. But the second he stepped out of the cave, a wild boar came straight toward them. Its eyes looked vicious as it closed in. The Bald Uncle suddenly figured it out. Yixiang wasn't scared of the dark, it was terrified of that boar. He even started drooling. Perfect timing, dinner came to him. He mocked the boar, asking if it wanted to fight. For the boar meeting him was pure bad luck. Just like that, the man and the boar faced off. The boar moved first and jumped in. With its jaws wide open, it lunged straight at him. The Bald Uncle reacted at once. He sprang up without hesitation. Then he dropped low on all fours, stalking forward like an animal hunting prey. The boar froze for a second. This place brought back memories of him and the young master. Their training days here still felt fresh in his mind. He never thought the young master would grow into who he was now. A few years ago, he was still running around the forest trying to do good. Back then, the young master slipped away to pick up trash in the mountains and ran into a wild boar. The Bald Uncle stepped in right away to face it. Even though he was afraid, he knew the young master would be in danger if he lost. So in the end, he managed to beat the boar. Afterward, the young master begged him not to kill it, so he let it go. Touching the scar on his forehead, he called it the mark he got while protecting the young master. That kind-hearted kid had now become the boss of the school. He was feeling proud. Then a deep growl came from outside the cave. Yixiang shook with fear. It was that same wild boar returning. The Bald Uncle looked up and saw it at the cave entrance along with an even bigger boar. Yixiang sensed the danger and started trembling all over. Then a huge boar stepped into view, its face covered in old scars. The Bald Uncle's forehead scar suddenly throbbed with sharp pain. He got up at once and angrily told the boar to get lost, but the boar only drooled and let out a sharp roar. He stared at the bald spot on its head, feeling like he'd seen it before. One broken tusk, gray fur, and that patch on its head. He pulled out the tusk it lost back then and blurted out that it had grown huge in no time. The giant boar saw the tusk and instantly gave an angry growl. His heart sank and he quickly tried to calm it down, reminding the beast that he had spared it before. It didn't help at all. The giant boar answered with a furious roar that shook everything around them. The sound was terrifying, echoing through the cave. Sweat broke out on the Bald Uncle's forehead. This thing clearly wasn't here to talk. He clenched his teeth, knowing that if he backed off, Yixiang would be in danger. One look at the shaking Yixiang hardened his resolve. He was scared, but he would never let anyone threaten Yixiang. His eyes turned cold with killing intent as he swore he'd butcher that boar today. The next second, he lowered his body, planning to lure the beast outside first. Then he shot forward like an arrow. Without another word, he charged the giant boar head-on. At the last second, he slipped past it and sprinted toward the clearing. The giant boar took the bait and spun around to chase him. A grin crossed his face. Good. Come after me? He stopped hard in the middle of the clearing and readied himself. Staring at the rushing boar, he yelled, "You stupid pig." And the giant boar stormed at him like a blast of foul wind. The Bald Uncle smirked and charged right back. Thinking the beast wanted a direct clash, he dropped low on all fours like a crouched beast and slammed toward the boar. They crashed together with a thunderous impact that rang through the forest. The giant boar cried out and swayed, but it still didn't fall. The Bald Uncle's head, though, started pouring blood. That hit hurt 10 times worse than before. Seeing him hurt, the giant boar jumped again. The Bald Uncle used every bit of strength he had to block the deadly charge. Another huge impact exploded, but this time, he was thrown far away. He hit the ground hard, pain tearing through his whole body like his bones were coming apart. The giant boar kept coming, step by step, its red eyes burning with hate. He cursed under his breath and tried to stand, but his body had no strength left. The giant boar didn't stop and rammed him flying again. From nearby, Yixiang saw everything and cried in panic. At the same time, the smaller boar rushed out and blocked Yixiang. Baring its teeth, it screeched fiercely, clearly ready to fight to the end. Meanwhile, the Bald Uncle forced himself up and decided he had to use the forbidden move he normally couldn't. The giant boar let out another earth-shaking roar, opened its bloody mouth and charged again. At that critical moment, he touched the scar on his forehead, and a fierce light flashed in his eyes. Then he roared and unleashed his strongest technique, Red Walnut. The giant boar sensed the danger instantly and stopped short in alarm. It didn't dare relax for even a second, jumping again and roaring as it rushed him. The Bald Uncle held his breath and gathered all his power at the top of his head. Then he blasted forward like a cannonball, slamming straight into the giant boar as the red glow on his head burned brighter and brighter. The giant boar looked stunned. It never expected him to be that fast. When they collided, everything seemed to go silent for one instant. Then the giant boar's head split open and blood burst out. The Bald Uncle dropped to the ground, gasping, while the boar staggered backward again and again. Blood kept running from the scar on his forehead and his nose was bleeding too. A second later, his vision went black and he passed out. He hit the ground with a thud, completely unconscious. The giant boar stared at him and stayed put, not daring to come any closer at first. But after a moment, it started drooling again, and fixed a deadly gaze on the bald uncle. Yexiang looked at the unconscious bald uncle and paced around in panic, but the smaller boar kept it from getting through. That made Yexiang snap, and it bared its sharp claws. It suddenly charged and slashed at the small boar, knocking it down and leaving it badly bleeding. Yexiang ignored everything else and ran toward the bald uncle. When it saw the giant boar about to finish him off, it shot forward like an arrow straight at the beast and leaped high into the air. The giant boar stared in shock at the tiny creature rushing it. Yexiang bared its fangs and came in with unstoppable force. It smashed into the giant boar so hard the beast's flesh tore open at once. Yexiang's head was bleeding too, but it stayed conscious. The giant boar finally gave out and crashed down dead. At last, Yixiang ran to the bald uncle crying and desperately shook him. It spent the last of its strength, then passed out on top of him. By the next morning, Firebear Mountain was quiet again. Yixiang's head had been bandaged, and it was sleeping nearby. Then a delicious smell drifted into its nose. It slowly opened its eyes. Yixiang got up and saw the bald uncle by the fire, roasting meat. Wild boar was cooking over the fire, golden and crisp, and the smell was amazing. The bald uncle smiled and waved, telling Yixiang to come eat. Yixiang stared at the meat, drooled, and squeaked excitedly. Then the bald uncle took out a necklace made from a wild boar tusk and said it was a gift to remember this by. Yixiang looked at the necklace on its neck and got so moved it nearly cried. The bald uncle had already packed everything. After eating, they would head down the mountain. As the sun was getting close to setting, the pair finally made it back to the villa. Yixiang happily ran over to greet them. The moment he saw the bandage on Yixiang's head, he quickly asked what happened. The bald uncle proudly told Yixiang to take the bandage off and show the young master. Yixiang understood right away and unwrapped it. A scar just like the bald uncle's was revealed, and Yixiang looked unbelievably proud. Seeing it, Zhang Yixiang's eyes widened in shock. Elsewhere, in an alley at Chang'an High School, Park Mingjun was gathering people for something big. Yixiang Gong complained, asking why they had to work with Jilan High School. Park Mingjun raised a brow and reminded him that he'd told him to decide for himself. Yixiang Gong said that even if he accepted it, the others wouldn't be happy. Park Mingjun asked if the younger guys would really be upset about teaming up. The reply came back at once. Everyone had already been told, and no one objected. Park Mingjun laughed and said good. Then in 1 week they'd strike Mojian High School first. Before that, they should meet Zhang Yixiang so both sides could get familiar. Until then, no fighting, especially with anyone from Jilan High School. Everyone answered together and told him not to worry. The bearded guy was clearly unhappy about it. Zhang Jian also felt bitter and unconvinced inside. At the same time, over at Jilan High School, the blonde guys who had become Zhang Yixiang's followers were gathered together, whispering. One of them asked if Zhang Yixiang could really beat that alliance. The blonde guy said, of course, Zhang Yixiang was crazy strong. The others nodded and agreed. Someone added that instead of making enemies now, it was smarter to ally with him and stay on his side. Then Li Chengji nervously asked if Zhang Yixiang could really keep them safe. Right then, Zhang Yixiang and Song Zhonghai's arrived. Zhang Yixiang told them not to worry. If anyone caused trouble, he'd handle it with his fists. The blonde guy quickly asked why they had been called there and what was so important. Zhang Yixiang excitedly announced that from now on they were teaming up with Chang'an High School. Together they'd crush the trash from Moxian High School. Hearing that, everyone was stunned. Song Zhaji gave the order. In 1 week they attacked Moxian High School. Everyone nodded. Once he finished explaining, Zhang Yixiang gave one last warning before leaving. No fighting before the plan and nobody gets hurt. Then Song Zhaji called out, Li Chengji, come here. Li Chengji froze on the spot. With a smile, Song Zhongxi asked why he'd been skipping training and told him to show up tonight on time. Shaking, Li Chengji promised he'd be there. Song Zhongxi then told the rest of them to train too this week. Blonde stared in shock, wondering if he really meant making all of them work out. Sweating, Li Chengji said the order was already given, so he was definitely going. The others let out a long sigh. If they skipped, they knew they were dead. Later, in the school rec area, Zhang Yun noticed Junmin looking upset and asked what was wrong. Junmin took off his glasses and snapped that Sang Yun already knew. But Sang Yun just looked confused and asked what he meant. Junmin burst out saying Jishong. Sang Yun tried to explain, but Junmin cut him off and demanded another meetup with the girls, this time without saying Jishong. Helpless, Sang Yun told him to say that himself. Junmin backed down right away. Since he wasn't close to Zhang Jishong, he begged Sang Yun to pass the message along. He kept pleading, asking for help. In the end, Sang Yun gave in and said he'd try. Just then, Li Ji showed up and cut in, saying there was no need to make it so hard. He'd heard the whole thing. If they followed his idea, everyone could come out ahead. Meanwhile, at Changyun High School, Wen Kaiyun sat in class wondering why Sang Jishong still hadn't reached out first. Then her phone buzzed. When she checked it, the message was from Sang Jishong. He was inviting her to another group meal like last time. Seeing that, Wen Kaiyun quietly got excited and after school brought 2 other girls along. But when they arrived, they only saw the same 2 ugly guys from before. Everyone immediately wondered where Sang Jishong was. Sang Yun quickly explained that Jishong was busy today, so they asked someone else to come instead. Kui Yinhe even started hoping it might be Song Zhongxi. Instead, an even uglier guy walked in. The girls could barely hide how grossed out they were. The guy introduced himself as Shang Ju and said he came to find a girlfriend. That only made them more disgusted. Off to the side, Jumin was secretly thrilled. The girls clearly hated this, which meant it was his chance to look good. So he quickly stepped up and warmly suggested they go eat. Kui Yinhei shot back with a look of disdain, asking if he was paying. Jumin flashed his bank card and proudly said yes. Seeing that, Kui Yinhei quietly asked Wen Kaiyun if he was actually rich, but she said she wasn't sure, only that he was Jishong's friend. That made Kui Yinhei perk up. If he was treating, they should eat somewhere expensive. But when she was about to suggest steak, Jumin loudly said they should get soup and rice. The girls were speechless. Shang-Ju quickly cut in, saying soup and rice was ridiculous for a group date. According to him, girls should like spicy rice cakes and pasta. The girls silently decided both of these guys had issues. Then Shang-Ju took the lead and said he knew a great place. The girls could only comfort themselves. Just eat for free and leave fast. Right then, Yoonji walked over and asked Jong-Yoon if they should watch a movie after eating. Watching that, Jumin fumed inside. Meanwhile, at the rice cake place, Shang-Ju was already suffering from the heat, and even the way he ate looked awful. He groaned that it was way too spicy. Across from him, Kui Yinhei was furious and wanted to kill him. Wen Kaiyun forced herself to stay calm, reminding herself he was Zheng Jishong's friend. Jumin noticed all their reactions and sat there smugly, thinking Shang-Ju was doing an amazing job. Now all he had to do was charm Kaiyun himself. But then Shang-Ju poked him from the side and whispered that he needed to pee. Jumin blinked in confusion. Shang-Ju repeated it. He really had to go. Startled, Jumin spat out his water right onto Wen Kaiyun's face. He freaked out and apologized, blaming Shang-Ju for saying something weird out of nowhere. Kui Yinhei exploded, yelling that spraying water on someone's face was insane. Jumin immediately bowed and begged for forgiveness. Still, Shang-Ju kept tugging at him. Jumin finally snapped and told him to go by himself. It was all his fault. But Shang-Ju sadly explained the bathroom was outside, and he was scared to go alone. Jumin cursed under his breath. With no choice, he said he'd go with him and apologize properly when they got back. After the two left, Kui Yinhei asked Kaiyun if she was okay, and whether she wanted to go clean up. Grinding her teeth when Kaiyun said she was fine. Outside, Jumin told Shang-Ju to hurry and keep up. Shang-Ju pitifully said if he walked too fast, he might pee himself. Jumin cursed inside. He'd brought Shang-Ju so Shang-Ju wouldn't outshine him, but now it was blowing up in his face. Then Shang-Ju grabbed him from behind and begged him to slow down and not leave him alone. Jumin impatiently said he wasn't his mom, so why should he escort him to the bathroom? That instantly made Shang-Ju look even more pitiful. Jumin then remembered Shang-Ju didn't have a mom, and a little guilt hit him. Shang-Ju looked so hurt that Jumin quickly apologized and told him to hurry to the bathroom. At the same time, he silently warned himself not to lose his temper. When they finally got there, Jumin told him to go in while he waited outside. Shang-Ju thanked him with a quick nod and ran toward the bathroom, while Jumin started thinking about how to apologize to Kaiyun later. But just as Shang-Ju was about to make it, someone was blocking the way. He cursed inside. Why did it have to be them? Yang Jian was sitting in front of the bathroom and asked what he wanted. Shang-Ju nervously said he needed to use the bathroom, so please let him pass. Yang Jian mocked him, asking if he even knew who he was and why he wasn't begging properly. Unable to hold it anymore, Shang-Ju fired back that Yang Jian just needed to stop blocking the door and smoking there. Yang Jian sneered and told him to go somewhere else if he didn't like it. Desperate and angry, Shang-Ju yelled that he was Zhang Jishong's friend, so they better move unless they wanted a beating. Yang Jian laughed and asked if Zhang Jishong taught him to act this arrogant. Then he told him to bring Zhang Jishong over first if he wanted to use the bathroom. At that point, Bearded Guy quietly reminded Yang Jian that Ming Jun said not to mess with students from Jilin High School. Yang Jian said he wasn't planning to start trouble yet. Bearded Guy could only sigh and stop arguing. Shang-Ju really couldn't hold it anymore. Clutching himself, he begged to be let through and said he was about to pee. Yang Jian didn't care. He told him to either bring Zhang Jipseong or wet himself. Furious, Shang-Ju said he'd remember this and tell Zhang Jipseong everything. That set Yang Jian off. He raised his fist and said plans had changed. Bearded Guy rushed to stop him, warning that Ming Jun wouldn't like this. But Yang Jian was already done listening, and drove a punch into Shang-Ju's stomach. Shang-Ju screamed. His body shook as he cried that he couldn't hold it anymore. Yang Jian only found his face funny. Not far away, Jumin waited impatiently, then turned to see what was taking so long. The sight froze him in shock. There was a yellow puddle at Shang-Ju's feet, and his face looked weirdly relieved. Yang Jian had also stepped right into it. The smell hit him at once, and he realized in disgust that it was piss. Once Shang-Ju noticed what happened, he dropped down into the mess in humiliation and started crying. Jumin could only stare. He really peed himself. Yang Jian mocked him from above, laughing that a real man wouldn't wet himself. Then he lifted his shoe and saw urine on the sole. Disgusted, he stepped on Shang-Ju's head and said if it was his piss, he could wear it too. Jumin watched furious. That had gone too far. Even Bearded Guy told Yang Jian he was overdoing it. Yang Jian brushed it off, saying Shang-Ju made him step in piss. So what was the problem? Then he suddenly turned, spotting Jumin hiding nearby. He asked who he was and whether he was the kid's friend. Jumin immediately played dumb, scratched his head and claimed he didn't know him. Hearing that, Shang-Ju shouted, Jumin! He cried and begged for help, saying he'd peed his pants. Yongzhan sneered and mocked Jumin for lying and abandoning a crying friend. Then he started walking toward him, raising a hand to slap him. Yongzhan said a trashy guy like him needed to be taught a lesson. Jumin trembled in fear, then suddenly shouted Jiangju Xing'o's name. Yongzhan paused the moment he heard it. His stare only got harsher as he asked if Jumin was Jiangju Xing'o's friend too. Jumin quickly said yes, and warned him to keep acting tough if he wanted Jiangju Xing'o to beat him up. Yongzhan snapped, saying he'd had enough of these two idiots. Even then, Shangju kept provoking him and dared him to touch them. That did it. Yongzhan smashed a punch into Shangju's face. Blood started pouring from Shangju's nose. He crashed to the ground right into his own puddle of urine. Jumin was horrified, thinking they were finished now. He felt doomed. Yongzhan then came for him and lifted his fist. The punch slammed into Jumin's face, leaving him reeling backward in a daze. Yongzhan yelled that he hated traitors most. Then he threw another punch, straight at Jumin's face. Jumin's nose burst out bleeding, and he crashed backward. Pulling his fist back, Yongzhan said they should leave. Those two cowards weren't worth any more time. The bearded guy looked uneasy and asked if making such a huge mess would cause trouble. Yongzhan brushed it off. They started it, so Mingjun would understand. After they left, Shangju lay there in his own piss, and swore he was definitely telling Shangju Song everything. Back at the tteokbokki shop, Kui Yinju grumbled that those two still weren't back. Next to her, Wen Kaoyun kept checking her phone and snapped that she'd had enough. She called Jiang Jushang, angry that he stood her up and now wouldn't even answer. At another cafe, Jiang Jushang's phone rang again. He was about to pick up, but Li Ziyi stopped him. Confused, Jiang Jushang asked why. Li Ziyi firmly told him not to answer. Jiang Jushang agreed, but asked her to at least explain. Li Ziyi simply said she didn't want him answering. Inside, she was smug, thinking Wen Kaoyun had to be furious by now. Jiang Jushang said that if she put it that way, he'd listen. Outside the bathroom, Jumin barely got up and cursed that those two were dead. He looked over at Shangju and asked if he was okay. Still lying in the piss. Shangju cried that he was absolutely not okay. He said he'd never been humiliated this badly before. He wanted revenge and swore he'd kill that guy. Jumin agreed he would never let them off either. Then Jiang Jishang's phone rang once more. Li Jiaovi frowned and said Wen Kaoyun still wasn't giving up, so he shouldn't answer. But Jiang Jishang checked the screen and said it wasn't Wen Kaoyun, it was Jumin. After a short pause, Li Jiaovi told him to answer and turn on speaker. Jiang Jishang nodded and picked up. The second the call connected, Jumin shouted that Yongjane from Chengyuan had beaten them up. Jiang Jishang quickly told him to calm down and explain everything clearly. Jumin yelled that he even brought up Jiang Jishang's name and still got beaten. Beside him, Shangju cried that Yongjian hit his stomach and made him piss his pants. Jishang, you have to get revenge for us. In a low voice, Jiang Jishang said he understood and would handle it. Once the call ended, his whole mood turned dark. Through clenched teeth, he said that bastard attacked them because Shangju and Jumin were his friends. Li Ji said she'd already found it suspicious when they suddenly wanted an alliance. Jiang Jishang tightened his grip on the phone, furious and saying he wanted to beat Park Mingjun up right now. Just then his phone rang again. Park Mingjun was calling. Li Ji glanced over and asked who it was. Jiang Jishang answered in a cold voice, Park Mingjun. From the other side, Park Mingjun apologized right away. He said that as soon as he heard what Yongjian did, he called immediately. Because this was their fault. Jiang Jishang answered with a mocking, is that so? Park Mingjun said he'd come to their school after classes tomorrow and apologize in person. Jiang Jishang calmly told him to do that. After the call, Park Mingjun let out a sigh. Then he ordered Yongjian to come with him tomorrow, and apologize too. Yongjian clearly didn't want to, and argued that they were the ones who started it. Park Mingjun sighed and told Yongjian he couldn't let the alliance break over this. He asked him to just hold back this one time. Seeing Park Mingjun's face, Yongjin got scared and reluctantly agreed to go apologize. Back at the cafe, Li Ji asked what Park Mingjun had said. Jiang Jishang told her he was coming to the school tomorrow to apologize in person. Li Ji stood up at once and said they couldn't stay there anymore. They needed to hurry and prepare tactics just in case Park Mingjun tried something. Jiang Jishang didn't get it. If the guy was coming to apologize, why would they need tactics? Li Ji warned that he might be faking it to lower their guard and then bring people to fight. That instantly put Jiang Jishang on alert. Li Ji told him to just follow her plan. Then Jiang Jishang thought of something and said they should tell Jiang Jishang too. Li Ji agreed. The next day, the area around Jilinhai's gate was loud and busy. Song Jingshang stood there holding a stick, watching the entrance carefully. Li Ji also arrived at the gate, looking ready for trouble. Her face was tense. When Jiang Jishang saw her coming, he asked why she looked so serious. Li Zali said if Wen Kaoyun showed up too, she'd settle things with her today. Just then Zhang Jishang came over, looking serious. His presence alone felt heavy. He told the other two that since everyone was here, they should go meet those guys from Chang'an together. The three headed for the gate with such force that everyone nearby was stunned. Meanwhile, two motorcycles rolled toward Jilinhai. Zhang Jian rode in complaining that this was so annoying. He really didn't want to come all the way to Jilin, just to apologize. After the three parked, they looked around and felt relieved not to see Senior. Park Mingjun reminded them that Jilin's boss wasn't Senior anymore. It was Zhang Jishang. If they formed an alliance with Zhang Jishang, nobody there would dare touch them. Just then Zhang Jishang called out. They had arrived. Park Mingjun looked up and said they were there to apologize. He sounded sincere, just like he had on the phone. Zhang Jishang calmly said he hoped that apology was really sincere. Park Mingjun turned to the two behind him and asked if they were ready. Both of them dropped to their knees and admitted they caused the trouble on their own, not because Mingjun told them to. Still, Park Mingjun said he had responsibility too, and then he knelt down as well. He said he was the one who proposed the alliance, yet this still happened, and he was truly sorry. Keeping a stern face, Zhang Jishang told them to explain everything honestly. After hearing them out, he realized their story matched what Shangju and Junmin had said. So he reached out to Park Mingjun, helping him up first, and said the alliance wouldn't be broken. Park Mingjun was instantly relieved. The bearded guy and Yang Zhan also exchanged looks and let out a long breath. Yang Zhan got up too and immediately started flattering Zhang Jishang. Zhang Jishang raised a brow and asked why he thought he could stand up already. Confused, Zhang Jishang had no choice but to kneel again. Then Zhang Jishang's voice turned colder as he reminded him that someone was still waiting for a real apology. Zhang Jishang looked confused and said the person wasn't even there, so how was he supposed to apologize? Right then, two trembling figures came out and shouted that of course they were there. They said through clenched teeth that they had been hiding because they were scared of getting beaten again. Zhang Jishang called them over and said their brothers were here to apologize. With backup behind him, Shangju glared at Yongzhan and warned him to apologize properly. Yongzhan's temper flared at Shangju's attitude, but he forced himself to swallow it and gave a reluctant apology. Jianmin wasn't satisfied and told him to say it like a man louder. Pighead. Grinding down his anger, Yongzhan apologized again. Then Shangju suddenly moved up behind him and yanked his ear, saying the apology sounded fake. If he was really sorry, then he should piss his pants too. Or did he want a kick to the stomach to help him? Zhangji shook with rage, his teeth grinding as he nearly snapped. Zhangju kept pushing, asking if he'd already pissed himself. The bearded guy saw things going bad and hurried to stop him, telling Yang Jishan to hold back. Yang Jishan suddenly stood, making Shangju jump. Even scared, Shangju still taunted him and asked if he wanted to hit someone again. But Yang Jishan only pulled out his wallet. He emptied all the cash from it and handed it over, saying it could cover the medical bills and medicine. Park Mingjun secretly let out a sigh of relief. Good thing he'd made Yongzhan bring cash. Zhang Zhengjang watched with a satisfied look, but Shangju gritted his teeth and said that little bit of money wouldn't make him go away. He didn't want Yongzhan's filthy money. He wanted him to piss his pants too. That demand lit Yongzhan's anger right back up. He clearly hadn't expected this at all. From the side, Li Ji complained that Shangju must be crazy if he liked seeing people piss themselves that much. Yongzhan trembled, veins bulging across his face. Park Mingjun helplessly realized Yongzhan was almost out of patience. Even then, Shangju kept yelling for Yongzhan to hurry up and piss his pants. Zhang Zhengjang finally stepped in to settle it, suggesting Shangju kick Yongzhan in the stomach once so they'd be even. Shangju's eyes lit up and he said great. He wanted to beat Yongzhan himself until he pissed his pants. Swinging his fists, he viciously asked Yongzhan if he was ready. Zhang Zhengjang turned to Park Mingjun and asked if he accepted that solution. Park Mingjun hesitated, then nodded and asked Yongzhan if he could live with it. Yongzhan reluctantly agreed, saying it was fair enough. Jianmin suddenly jumped out of the crowd and shouted that he got hit too. Yongzhan had to stand there and let them do it, promising he wouldn't fight back. Jianmin clenched his fists, got into stance and told Yongzhan to stand straight. A second later, he drove a punch in, telling that pighead to go to hell. The blow slammed into Yongzhan's stomach, and he instantly doubled over. His whole body shook and the pain was so bad he couldn't speak for a while. Off to the side, Shangju rubbed his hands and said now it was finally his turn. He used all his strength and punched Yongzhan in the stomach. But Shangju was too weak, so the hit felt more like a tickle. It did nothing. Yongzhan couldn't help holding back a laugh. Shangju blew up at once and asked if he was mocking his punch. Yongzhan hit him twice, so he still had one more left. Shangju gathered all his strength again and rushed at Yongzhan. He swung with everything he had, even shouting as he attacked, but the punch went off target and slammed right into Yongzhan's crotch. Yongzhan's face twisted from the pain. Everyone around them froze in shock. Park Mingjun and the bearded guy both groaned that this was really bad. Shangju still wasn't satisfied and said that one didn't count because his foot slipped. He wanted to punch again, and this time he swore he wouldn't miss. Yongzhan grabbed himself and screamed that he'd had enough. He was going to kill Shangju. Before Shangju could keep yelling, someone rushed over and stopped him. Shangju turned to Zhang Jishang and begged him not to just watch. Trying to calm him down, Zhang Zhenshang reminded him the agreed hits were already done. Shangju refused to accept that, arguing his foot only slipped. Zhang Zhenshang's face hardened and he firmly told him to settle down. Staring at him in shock, Shangju asked how he could treat him like this. Then he begged Zhang Zhenshang to punch Yongzhan for him. Hearing that, Zhang Zhenshang's grip on his shoulder tightened without him noticing. Shangju cried out in pain. He dropped to the floor, shaking and bawling, with tears and snot all over his face. Zhang Zhenshang quickly apologized, saying he used too much force by mistake. He reached down to help Shangju up and asked if he could stand, but that outstretched hand only scared Shangju more. He scrambled up and ran off. In a panic, he yelled that Shang Jishang was a bad person too. Still crying, Shangju ran even faster. Watching him flee, Yongzhan muttered that the brat was surprisingly quick. Then Zhang Zhishang offered Yang Jian a hand and praised him for holding back. That made Yang Jian see Zhang Zhishang differently. He hadn't expected him to be so direct. So Yang Jian reached out and shook his hand. The tension between them finally started to ease. Song Zhongxi and Li Ji let out a breath. Messy as it was, at least it didn't turn into a real fight. Park Mingjun was relieved too. He'd been afraid Yang Jian would snap, but somehow he kept control. Just then, a familiar voice called out. Everyone turned, and their faces changed at once. They couldn't believe who had shown up. Senior coldly said that if they had any conscience left, they never should have come here. Then he added that they were from different schools, so why were they calling him Senior? Zhang Zhishang was about to explain, but Senior cut him off and said this had nothing to do with him. Yang Jian nervously whispered that he knew they'd run into Senior. Park Mingjun forced himself to stay calm and told the others to watch first. Maybe this was their chance to finally clear up the misunderstanding. Li Ji hurried over to stop things, warning that Senior couldn't fight, and saying she'd call Li Dubo. Song Zhongxi just looked confused. He didn't get why everyone was so tense. Li Ji sighed and said it was a long story. Something had happened before. Senior walked up to them and asked if they had a death wish. Coming here just to die. Park Mingjun started shaking, unsure what to say. He stammered that Li Dubo said he'd speak for them. Senior sneered and asked, since when Park Mingjun started trusting Li Dubo's words. Then he punched Park Mingjun in the face. Pain exploded at once, and Park Mingjun's face swelled up so badly he couldn't speak. Everyone froze. Senior started beating him without even hearing him out. Yang Jian trembled and cursed under his breath. Fighting through the pain, Park Mingjun dropped to his knees and begged for a chance to speak first. He forced himself back up and pleaded for just 5 minutes. Senior looked down at him and mocked that this wasn't how someone asked for forgiveness. Then he raised his fist again. Another punch slammed into Park Mingjun's face. His cheeks turned red and puffy, and his mind started to go fuzzy. Song Zhongxi was stunned to see Park Mingjun getting beaten this badly. Yang Jian and the bearded guy were shaken too. This was getting serious. Senior sneered that if they dared come to Jilin, they should have expected to get beaten. Even so, Park Mingjun struggled back to his feet. He shouted again, begging Senior to hear his explanation. Senior frowned and swung once more, asking why he should listen. Park Mingjun hurried to defend himself, saying it really was an accident. He begged Senior to believe him. Senior only sneered and said, Park Mingjun had lived pretty comfortably hiding behind that excuse. Zhang Zhishang finally couldn't stand by anymore. He rushed in and shoved Park Mingjun aside. Senior's punch hit Zhang Zhishang square in the face instead. Park Mingjun was stunned by what he saw. Even after taking the hit, Zhang Zhishang didn't budge. The people around them were shocked that he could take Senior's punch like that. Senior glared at him and asked why he stepped in after being told to move. Zhang Zhishang answered that Park Mingjun had already begged him to listen, so why did he keep hitting him? Senior impatiently said it had nothing to do with Zhang Zhishang and told him to move. But Zhang Zhishang pushed back. They came here to apologize to him. Senior laughed like it was a joke. He asked if Zhang Zhishang really believed anything those trash guys said, and even if they apologized, did he really think it would be sincere? Zhang Zhishang admitted it might not be from the heart, but Senior should at least hear them before judging. That answer set Senior off. His eyes tightened and his whole body shook with anger. Still, Zhang Zhishang calmly asked him to hear Park Mingjun out before hitting him again, and if he wouldn't listen, then he should stop hitting him. Because they came here for Zhang Zhishang. Park Mingjun looked at him with grateful eyes, too moved to speak. Zhang Zhishang stood there, still shaken by everything happening. Senior went quiet. He started remembering how Li Dubo once told him to let Park Mingjun and Zhang Zhishang go. Deep down, he already knew that whole incident was an accident, and Zhishang had been getting better little by little. Li Dubo had even brought up their old friendship. Senior used to care about those two more than anyone. He'd clearly said that if they came with a real apology, Senior had to listen. More than once, Li Dubo told him that next time they met, they needed to stay calm and talk it out. Thinking back on that, Senior wondered if this was all part of Li Dubo's plan too. Zhang Zhishang stepped up again and said that no matter what happened before, Senior should at least hear them out. Senior finally admitted he'd never truly listened to their side. Park Mingjun and Zhang Zhishang saw an opening. They both dropped to their knees and called out to Senior. They said that incident was an accident and promised to explain everything clearly. After a pause, Senior turned away and said he wasn't in the mood to talk about it now. Park Mingjun looked crushed. They still hadn't cleared up the misunderstanding. Then Senior suddenly asked if their phone numbers were still the same. Both Park Mingjun and Zhang Zhishang lit up and quickly said yes, begging him to contact them. Senior nodded, said he'd call, and left. After closing the door, Senior thought to himself that he'd always known it was an accident. Maybe he just needed someone to blame. With a sincere sigh, he admitted Zhang Zhishang really could move people's hearts. He praised Zhang Zhishang, thinking that even at a young age, his eyes, actions, and words all carried weight. Maybe he really could destroy the ignorant normal alliance. Meanwhile, at Moxon High School, the whole campus echoed with Buddhist chanting. It seemed calm on the outside, but something about it felt off. The students prayed in perfect sync. Their leader, Tao Yuan, led the chanting with a serious face. Then the master came over and told everyone they'd worked hard and should head back to class to rest. Tao Yuan respectfully agreed and said he'd take the students back soon. The master smiled, nodded, and left the matter to Tao Yuan. Elsewhere on campus, Park Mingjun smoked and asked who was running Jilin High now. Li Meixiong took a puff and said it was Zhang Zixiong, and he wanted to wipe out the ignorant normal alliance. Tao Gichun lowered his voice and revealed that Zhang Zixiong's family was tied to the Fire Bear Gang. Park Peng pointed out that the Fire Bear Gang and Dan Riang Gang were already in a cold war, and if Tao Park get dragged in, things would get worse. Lai Major agreed. This wasn't just troublesome anymore, it was the sons of two major groups facing off. Right then, Tao Park walked up and asked if they really thought his dad would step into a bunch of kids' fights. The others quickly greeted him and said they were just talking about Zhang Zixiong after he finished worshipping Buddha. Tao Park calmly broke it down. Jillian Hai really only had Zhang Zixiong and Song Zhongxi now. In his eyes, those two alone would never go to war with the alliance. Park Peng still looked uneasy and mentioned rumors that Park Mingjun had gone to see Zhang Zixiong. The second Tao Park Mingjun heard that name, his anger flared. He turned and stormed off, wanting to find Park Mingjun and learn the truth. But first, he went to ask the master for advice. In the director's office, the master was lifting dumbbells while talking on the phone. He said that soon more than half of Mojian Hai's students would be absorbed into the Dan Riang Gang, and for now, nobody knew Mojian Hai's real backing. Then someone knocked on the door. It was Tao Park Min. The master hurried to cover the tattoos on his body with clothes. Opening the door with a smile, he asked Tao Park what was wrong. Tao Park put his hands together, bowed, and said he was troubled and wanted the master's guidance. The master let him in and told him to explain everything. Later in Chengyun Alley, Park Mingjun excitedly said they had to treat Zhang Shishong to a big meal next time. Now they could finally clear things up with Senior for good. He asked if the others didn't think so too. Young Shane only gave a worried grunt. Noticing his face, Park Mingjun asked why he looked so down when he should have been the happiest. Yang Zhen guiltily admitted that if Zhang Shishong hadn't stepped in, they would have been beaten badly. He said he had to find a way to repay him. Park Mingjun brushed it off like it was easy. They could just help Zhang Shishong with whatever he wanted. That made Yang Zhen's eyes harden with resolve. He made up his mind. Yang Zhen declared that he'd help Zhang Shishong crush the ignorant normal alliance. Park Mingjun shouted that this was perfect. The day of the final showdown was getting close. The bearded guy joined in right away, and the mood turned upbeat. At the same time, in the judo hall, Song Zhongxi grabbed one of the juniors and slammed him to the mat. The blonde guy and the others watched in fear, saying he didn't even look like he was training anymore. Even a huge guy like that got thrown with ease. Song Zhongxi said that even with only 1 week left, they still had to train. Real fights wake up the body's instincts, so they needed to start now. Then he turned to Li Changzhu and told him to lead everyone through group training. Li Changzhu obeyed at once and started assigning drills to each person. While they trained, the students quietly realized Song Zhongxi's methods were seriously good. He focused on real fighting skills, and it paid off fast. Their confidence shot up. Now they couldn't wait to face the Mojian High School group and beat them down. That night, Song Shishong talked strategy with Li Ji. He pointed out that the Mojian High School guys all carried special weapons. Li Jai said that's exactly why they needed a solid plan first. Zhang Zhixiong agreed and thanked him for the help. Li Jai pouted, asking why he always only said thank you. If he really meant it, he should go watch a movie together. Zhang Zhixiong agreed right away. He said they'd wrap things up tomorrow, then he'd go with him. Hearing that, Li Jai lit up and asked if he was serious. Then he quickly pulled out his phone and started checking tomorrow's movie times. Zhang Zhixiong was excited too and said he'd invite his friends along. He wanted his brothers to come too. Li Jai shut that down without even thinking. Then he got up at once and moved closer to Zhang Zhixiong. He sat right in front of him, and the mood suddenly changed.